Dobry wieczór, dobry wieczór. Zaraz odpalamy. Tutaj się muszę jeszcze troszkę przygotować. Ogólnie jak jest ten music do tego, jak mówię? Chyba cacy, co? Powinno być dobrze. Mastery, nawet nie zdążyłem jeszcze z tego streama zareklamować. Już tutaj ludzie wbijają. Dobrze. Tak ma być. Zaraz tutaj YouTube'owe staty odpalimy sobie. Ja muszę mieć tutaj wszystko pod kontrolą. Wasze czaty mieć tutaj na dole. Jeden i drugi. Dzisiaj lecimy i na Twitcha, i na YouTube'a. Za pół godziny w ogień albo ludzi ogień. Dokładnie, sobie browareczki kupiłem. Zaraz tutaj będziemy lecieć z tematem. Dobra, tu mamy czaciwka. Zobaczymy tutaj. Na Twitchu mam. No czekaj, przejdźmy tutaj. O! Już elegancko widać. Kto jest i gdzie. O Jezu, jak jasno. Białe stronki to trzeba bye zrobić. No dobra, czekaj, jak to tutaj wygląda w ogóle? Kamera za nisko czy za wysoko? A dobrze tutaj. Goddammit, czacie, nie chowaj mi się. Bo sobie odpaliłeś też na Twitchu, bo dropy z PoE2. O, dropy są z PoE2, tak? No ja mam dropy. Zaraz tutaj zaktualizujemy, jak są dropi. To jest to, co ja mam włączone dropy, nie? Właśnie, a tu wejdź na Twitcha i zobacz, czy ci wyszło, że jak oglądasz mój kanał, to czy dropy będą leciały. Czy to dopiero o 21 na Twitchu będziesz musiał zmienić na PoE z Diablo4. Aha, no mi na Twitcha na razie PoE2 ustawiłem w sumie. Bo z Diablo w sumie nic nie będzie, a sobie zostawiłem PoE2 i tyle. Tu muszę zmieniać tą kategorię tak mocno? Chyba nie. Chyba wystarczy, że będzie tak jak jest. Że będzie dobrze. Wydaje mi się. No nie wiem, zobaczymy. Czekaj, ale kamerę chyba trochę wyżej damy. Jestem. Żeby było widać równo. O. Lepiej, nie? Troszkę tak bardziej po środku jest. Myślę, że jest cacy. Jeszcze jedną rzecz muszę zrobić, żeby czaciwko, które tutaj się znajduje, znikało po iluś sekundach. Jak mam coś pokazywać fajnego. Chociaż pewnie wy zaczniecie pisać i... O, siema Marze. No, Marze na przykład na Twitchu wjechał. Da się powinieneś coś pojawić tutaj. Ale coś nie widzę tego. Także widzisz, dla każdego coś miłego. No też nie widzę jego tekstów tu na streamie. No, tu Masterek napisał. A powinieneś wiedzieć, bo ostatnio to działało, a ja nic nie zmieniałem. Goddammit, i to jest właśnie to operowanie na streamie. No ale dobra, zaraz tutaj naprawimy. Czekaj, bo to jest YouTube chat. YouTube chat. Pokam je to tutaj. No tak, no bo ja na dużej kamerze nie mam po prostu dodanej tego. To czekaj, to się w sumie dodać, to jest 5 sekund. Cyk. Cyk. Wybierz już ten, Twitch chat. Okej, Twitch chat. I już, jesteście. Proste to było. Git. Już teraz będzie wszystko działać. O, proszę teraz, bo nie zrobiłem przejścia. No już trochę tak zaczynam ogarniać debugging na żywo. Powiem ci, wychodzi to z tym, z doświadczenia. O, muzy nie słyszę. Coś ucięło, music. Co się stało? Ja w ogóle tą muzykę mam w osobnej chyba karcie. Dobra, sobie wrzucę tutaj na lewo. Że dzisiaj się nic nie może wypierdolić. Mam za zadanie tylko przestreamować 2 campfire'y. Wszystko musi być git. Dobra, Masterek, teraz was widać. Elegancko. To co? Co dzisiaj będzie? Co tam przewidujecie? No, i Darhead, witam serdecznie. Z Twitcha mi zamienia buźki, a z YouTube już nie. No widzisz, no tak ma Twitch generowany, nie? Tutaj może nie wiem, bo to jest... Nie, no ja mam wbudowany ten YouTube, tak wiesz, profesjonalnie, że z OBS-a i on oficjalnie wspiera YouTube'a, a widzisz, nie robi takich tych. Chociaż może to kwestia czcionki, chociaż wątpię, bo on powinien emotki zamieniać od razu, nie? Tak jak normalnie robi. Bez problemu. Że tak powiem. Wszystko powinno być git. Gauntlet. Okej. Gauntlet może wrócić, nie powiem, że nie. No ciekawe. Ciekawe, co to będzie. A mamy, czekaj, bo ja mam w ogóle gdzieś zapisanego twoje bingo, które wrzucałeś. Specjalnie gdzieś. Nie, możemy je rozbudować. Mamy jeszcze pół godzinki ogólnie. Ludzie się będą powoli schodzić. Więc możemy tutaj coś dopracować, myślę nad tym, nie? Armory to na pewno zapowiedzą, bo to od razu było widać w tym tweetie od Adam Fletcher, tak, on prowadzi te od Fletchera, że ikonkami, nie? Było tam armory. Także będzie season of the armory. Albo of the armored core. Albo coś tego pokroju, nie? I nie będzie mechaniki, będzie dalej repa, coś tak czuję. Chyba że zreflektują się po tym czasie i wszystko pójszło tak, że tyle faili, więc oczywiście znowu kopią, który już enty raz, ale że tyle faili i będzie jeszcze sezonowy taki dobry, mechanika będzie taka dobra, nie? Zajebista i wszyscy, o, Diablo znowu, nie? Bo jakby nie patrzeć, no dzisiaj jest versus. Alien versus Predator dzisiaj jest, nie? To nie jest przypadek, że te streamy są jeden po drugim. To nie wiadomo, ile będzie trwało Diablo, bo tam, że duże to będzie, nie? Ale ile osób, wiesz, odleci od tego i od tego. Nic nie będzie. No tak myślę, że nic nie będzie, nie? Ale tak myślę, jak to zrobić? Na przykład przełączamy się bezpośrednio na PoE, czy potem dzielimy ekran na pół, zostawiamy sobie Diablo, żeby widzieć, co tam się u nich dzieje, tylko tak wizualnie, a PoE dajemy audio i ten. I on ma większość ekranu. Albo wrzucimy gdzieś może w jakiś tutaj róg. Jeszcze Diabolo jako, wiesz, kama z Diabolo, nie? Ja tak pasywnie dzisiaj młodego muszę ogarniać. Spoko, ja będę dzisiaj, wiesz, będę mówił na tego, na żywo. Nic nie będzie. Myślę, że pochwalą, że jest super. Gracze kochają, uwielbiają. Spirit delikatnie OP, ale tak delikatnie tylko. Ale każdy kocha sezon. Dokładnie. Awesome! Proszę państwa, awesome to będzie najgłówniejszy z najgłówniejszych tematów. Znaczy słów. A czekaj, masz jeszcze, zobaczę tutaj właśnie, bo ja gadałem o tym całym bingo. A gdzie cię tutaj mam chyba ciebie bingo. Nie, to jest stare bingo. Nowe skrzydła Cytadeli, nowe, tak, to jest to. To jest to, co to. Czekaj, rzucę wam już może to na ekran. No jak tam możesz, to możesz wywalić D4 w okienko. No właśnie tak myślę, nie? Żebyśmy zrobili Diablo 4 gdzieś może tak w takie właśnie okienko malutkie, nie? Żeby tam akurat wiesz, nagle, o, pokazują coś takiego, wiecie. I tylko to skomentować tam, że zobaczcie, co w Diablo się dzieje, nie? Bo czasami mogą być takie momenty, że w PoE no będą nam pierdolić jakieś już znane wszystkim kocopołe, a nagle w Diablo, o, ty co to pokazują? Armory? To szybko, pyk. Zobaczymy armory, dobra, okej, nara, nie? I wracamy do głównego streamu. Pewnie na początku w Diablo będzie, wiecie, tam gadanie, właśnie pół godziny, nie? Ostatni stream ile tam było? No był krótki, a sam trwał chyba z godzinę. Cialanenka. Był krótki, trwał z godzinę, a i tak 9 minut trwał w sumie, nie? Tych najważniejszych rzeczy powiedzenia. No, weźcie tam lajki, piszcie, klikajcie, suby, żeby więcej zasięg był większy. No, dzisiaj lecimy na wszystkie pojary. Ale pewnie zauważyliście, że ostatnio obrazki na streamie już profesjonalnie wychodzą. Na Stalkera się postarałem, dzisiaj Campfire też włożyłem trochę siły, więc docencie. Coraz lepiej mi to wychodzi, nie powiem, że nie. Mam ten kunszt grafika inżyniera. Ja to dla beki robię, nie? Ale tylko AI walę. Tak sobie założyłem, mówię, kurde, no, patrzę na te tam nailsy na przykład, gdziekolwiek na YouTubie, które oglądam, nie? I u naszych streamerów, i zagranicznych. No i widzę, że zwykle to jest twarz w jakiejś pozie wykręconej, tam myśli tutaj ten, nie, coś, mi się nie podoba, wiecie, takie tych narobione. Tekst żółtymi albo zielonymi literami, coś się no i tło wiadomo, albo z tego tematu, który jest tam niby główny, a ma być niby clickbaitowy, albo jakoś tam powiązany z tym, nie? Idę też po picie. Idź po picie, master. Dzisiaj to będziemy pili, nie? Tak, ja z czata GPT korzystałem, panie Jarhead. Czat GPT mam. Ostatnio zwiększyli limit. Mogę 3 obrazki wygenerować, zanim będę musiał czekać 24 godziny. Ostatnio generowałem tylko na 2 razach. Starałem, za drugi raz już trafiałem to tło, które chciałem, a ostatnio jeszcze ogarnąłem kanwę i jak tam sobie, wiecie, tak bardziej właśnie logo sobie dodać, tak już tak, żeby graficznie coś pocisnąć. Bo wcześniej tam tylko wpisywałem tekst, enter, co wyszło, dobra, będzie tam, nie? I starałem tytułem zachęcić, ale ten jak oko widzi, to musi być właśnie jakieś kolorki, napis, duże logo, że ktoś kojarzy, Krucholacha, już go chyba oglądałem, to sobie kliknę, a co on tam gada, nie, tego typu rzeczy, to wszystko siedzi w ludzkiej psychice. Proszę państwa. Ale czekaj, bo muszę zareklamować tego naszego fantastycznego streama, który dzisiaj będzie. Zarzucimy linkiem, proszę państwa. Co tam? Ogólnie jak ja z nim pisałem, to mogłem mało haseł wpisać. Ogólnie jak ja z nim pisałem, ale z kim ty pisałeś? Aha, chodzi ci o czata GPT, dobra, ale jak sobie z nim rozmawiałem, to bardzo długo mogło. Nie rozumiem, co znaczy haseł wpisać. Jakiś haseł. Haseł? Jest takie słowo? Haseł? Ale bym sobie pohaseł. No trzeba. No to przecież możesz z nim gadać, robić co chcesz, tylko te generowanie graficzki jest ograniczone, tak? A reszta to jest jak jest. No ale dobra, czekaj, skupmy się, bo odlatuje. Chciałem link do udostępnienia. I wrzucimy na disco. Się dopiero rozkręcamy. Pytań. No do pytań możesz pisać ile chcesz na czacie GPT, przecież nie ma chyba tego. Chociaż może tyle z nim pisałeś, że nie, bo ja w sumie robię 2-3 zapytania i to w takich dłuższych odstępach. Piszę te prompty. Wiesz, jest coś takiego jak prompt engineering. Żeby tak napisać tego prompta, żeby właśnie jak najmniej, żeby on się dopytywał, o co ci chodziło, nie? Dobrze się czasami zastanowić i podać dużo szczegółów. Chociaż też nie można przesadzić, bo on może czasami odlecieć. Się, wiesz, halucynacje pojawiają i tak dalej, nie? Rozgrzewamy się. Jezu, nie podoba mi się ten link. Nie chcę tego linka. Źle coś tutaj zadziałało. Mam link do udostępnienia, ale dał jakiś taki dziwny. Ten ma być. Goddammit. Muszę tak w ogóle ogarnąć. Teraz widzę, na przykład są ludzie. O, siema Maksu. Dopiero od kompa zeszłaś? Dzień minął na farmieniu. Już dzisiaj bez eliksiru nie ma tak łatwo. Ale będzie coraz lepiej. O, i Bazyl też jest. Witam serdecznie. No proszę się, ludzie schodzą. Witam. Jest i Patryk. Normalnie będziemy mieli cały Discord będzie dziś. Jakby nie patrzeć. Zakupki. No zakupki trzeba zrobić. Nie ma to tamto. Proszę państwa. Dobra. Co ja chciałem? Ten super link mam wysłać tutaj na Discordzie. Myślę, że będzie git. Teraz sobie to skopiuję. I dalej na drugi. Ogólnie tak, nie, na 2 Discordy w sumie wrzucam. Nie wiem, czy tak tutaj trochę zacznę spamować tym. Czy się przyjebiam, ale z drugiej strony na Diablo 4 tutaj trzeba wrzucić. O. proszę państwa. Zawsze to większa widownia. Dziś życie na kanapie. Czyli jestem na dużym ekranie? U ciebie na chacie? Mogę wyjść z monitora, powiedzieć ci siema? Piona? Dobrze. Też sobie zaraz tutaj krzesełeczko rozłożę i będzie chillout. Streamki, a w międzyczasie może trybunę dalej będę budował. O, co za trybunę będziesz budował? Weź się podziel z nami. Ludzie za szybko streama GG nie włączyli. Czekaj, bo tutaj mam w ogóle 2 czaty, a tutaj też na Twitchu. Nimarzek coś napisał. Teraz stream będzie trwał dłużej, żeby ludzie za szybko streama GG nie włączyli. No nie wiem, czy tak za szybko nie włączą. Mi się wydaje, że to będzie moment, chwilka i będzie po wszystkim, nie? Pacjata na 65 calach. No jak? No ale chyba jest git, nie? Nie wyglądam jakoś tragicznie. Oczy jak 5 zł. Będziemy tak. PathofExile to tak będę oglądał. A Diablo to to. Także będzie git. Pamiętajcie, połę i oczy otwarte jak 5 zł. Dobra, jest jakiś może ten, to włączę jako tło zamiast swojej facjaty, żebyś nie musiał mnie widzieć. Jak ci jakaś pani wejdzie do pokoju, a ty na 65 calach typa oglądasz na pełnym ekranie. Czy już na Diablo się odpalił? Jakiś tam pre-watch? To zaraz tutaj zrobimy. Nie no, nie wiesz, nie jestem aż taki brzydki jeszcze tam. Pazurek swój mam. Pójdę na siłkę, być git. W lustrze, no. Niestety. Trzeba to znosić dzień jak co dzień. Z Lego, no to grubo ci powiem, że jedziesz tak. YouTube. youtube.com, ale czekaj, bo ja to chyba źle robię w ogóle. Bo dobra jest słoneczka. To w ogóle dobra nutka się włączyła. Taka... Fajnie, podoba mi się. YouTube. Diablo4, proszę państwa. Rob już daje, od razu mi się pokazał. Musimy przebić roba w wyświetleniach. Ale w ogóle mi tego, Diablo4 Campfire. Nie pokazał mi się główny kanał w ogóle. No, jeszcze główny kanał, nie tego, nie odpalił? To jest... Bo GGG, czekaj, na żywo, wszyscy tutaj walą. Live streamy. No czekaj, bo Rob to ma. Na razie to spauzuj. I skąd on to restreamuje? O, tutaj będzie z newsów wezmę. Będzie git. Project. Diablo 2 ostatnio trochę grałem, ale dziś mi się nie chcą. No widziałem tam, żeście się podjarali tym Diablo 2, tym projektem. Ja się podjarałem BT Diablo, to jest dlatego Resurrected. Też był spoko, trudny. Mega był. Ale jakoś potem szło. YouTube. Oficjalny kanał. Ty, oni jeszcze nie nadają na żywo. Diablo. Na żywo. No, 8 dni temu. Naprawdę nie ma jakiegoś odliczanka? W ogóle jakoś tak, jak już wchodzą na Hela i zaczyna się rzeźbienie w gównie, bo nic sensownego nie leci, to tracę chęci. No właśnie. Diablo zawsze tego, 2 mi też się najbardziej podobała, tak właśnie do Hela, nie? Bo potem już taka farma, trzeba farmę ostrą odpalić. Dobra, zmienimy sobie tranzycję. Tutaj. Na główny pulpit. Także już morda będzie skitrana, proszę pana. I powiem wam, że tutaj gdzieś miałem otwarte bingo. Cyk. To jest nasze bingo. Szkoda, że to nie są czarne tła na białych literach, bo pewnie wszystkim teraz bardziej ci teraz wyjebało po oczach, tak jak mi. Siedzisz w ciemnym pokoju. Nie? Trochę bije po oczach. Jakby to tak odwrócić? Negatyw z tego. To odwrócić kolory, wtedy się zamienią w więcej czarnego. Wiecie jak to zrobić w Paincie? Tak na szybciutko? Czekaj, zaznacz wszystko. Niech on odwróci kolory. Usuń tło. Te, mistrzowie Painta. Są z nami mistrzowie Painta? Wtedy tak po oczach nie będzie waliło. Irfan View. Stary, Irfan View, pamiętam, jeszcze w gimnazjum chodziłem, to był #1 program do zainstalowania, jak się robiło format kompa. A w tamtych czasach format kompa leciał średnio, co nie wiem, tam 2 miesiące albo coś, bo tyle piratów się naściągało z neta, że komp po, nie wiem, trzeciej gierce już tracił 80% wydajności, nie? Coś pięknego. Nie, no ale, no wiem, Irfan View ogólnie bardzo dobry. Ja też go dużo używałem. Używałem go do zmiany rozdzielczości zdjęcia w ogóle, nie? Żeby mniej ważyło, żebym mógł wrzucić na jakieś Allegro albo gdzieś tam wysłał przez gadu, nie? Beka. Dobra, pokmińmy. Jak to tak szybko odwrócić te kolory? Może w tej kanwie to będzie? Color reverse. Normalnie tak mi wali po gałach, że niszczy mi oczy. Chyba, że wiecie co? Ale z drugiej strony, jak ściszę monitor, to też nie będzie widzieć. Dobra, na razie. Wezmę to na bok. O, na żywo, odpalili się. Dobra. To sobie będziemy mieli. Włączymy tryb kinowy. I sobie będziemy tak tutaj, myślę, że czekać. A ja tam ogarnę te kanwy i te inne. A może tutaj na boku Poe, ale Poe pewnie jeszcze nie zaczęło, nie? Live stream. Na Twitchu będą mieli. Schedule. GG Live. 21, ale co, równo już koło 21? No dobra. To sobie tutaj zostawimy i wtedy się przełączymy. Najrel płacze nad stanem technicznym. Negatyw. Dobrze, zrobimy. Zrobimy jak mówisz. Tylko czekajcie, ja nie mogę tego zrobić jakoś... Będzie jakoś tak sprytnie? To się jakoś coś się ścięło. Coś tutaj net mi dzisiaj chyba szwankuje. Ale nie mam żadnych zdropionych tych frame'ów, czyli stream jest git. YouTube się coś wypierdala. BOOM! Wapniaki! Synek! Jakie wapniaki tutaj? Czekamy na tego. Na ultra streama. Dobra, jest git. Na żywo. Za dużo obciążenie sieci jest. Jest i Piotrix. Dawaj tam Piotrix, lajki w górę. O, znowu się zwiesiło. Nie podoba mi się to. Że tu będą jakieś techniczne problemy. D4 ogólne. Kurwa się ten tutaj. Siemano Dropson. D4 ogólne. Ale co D4 ogólne? Jest na DC wrzuciłem. Aha, dobra. Tutaj się coś odpaliło w tle. I 1 second, mister. Gdzie jest ten Discord? Że mamy tryb streamera, albo i nie. Check. Sobie tu zejdziemy. Campfire. I ogólny. O, panie, zajebiście, że ty to ogarnąłeś. Już to ściągamy, cyk. Otwórz przeglądarce. O, fantastico. Zapisz graficzkę. Oraz rozcina, nie? Bingo. O! Od razu lepiej, nie? Tylko coś mnie denerwuje, że te nie dają rady. Streamy. No ale mam nadzieję, że będzie dobrze. Tutaj skitramy nasze bingo. Na moment. Sobie każdy przeczyta. Kurde, gdzie ja mam te od ślubów, no? Nowe skiny, brak w bingo. Awesome. Ale będzie awesome. Będzie. Matsu. O, siema Matsu, dawno ci nie tego. Dawno u mnie na streamku nie byłeś. Dzisiaj jakiś rekord chyba padnie. Będą nowe skiny na bank. Już mi się browarek kończy, będzie trzeba zaraz pójść po następny. To zaraz wrócę, idę po browara, akurat mi trochę się ociepli. To tak przerywa. Kruchol, mogłeś dopisać do bingo. Minus. Czekaj, to jest za liczba. 92 kwantyliony, 337 trylionów, 203 tryliony, 677 miliardów, 58 milionów 08. Już S7, czekaj, co wy, żeście tutaj się wypisywali? 14 stycznia zmienili. S7. Ah. 21 był wcześniej, na pewno. Stycznia. To zmienili. Coś ten u ciebie kruchol laguje. No właśnie się coś tutaj YouTube mi burzy. Też mi się to nie podoba. Że z wiecha poleciało. Jednocześnie tu i tu. Ale stream chyba, ale kamera leci dobrze, nie? Nie, Nie ma, w ogóle nie mam żadnych, czekaj, dropped frames, nie? Bo wtedy to by już problem jest u mnie. Mam 0%, czyli to YouTube po prostu nie daje rady, bo jakbym miał dropped frames, to znaczy, że w ogóle moje połączenie bije, bo by stream się nie się ścinał, a to YouTube po prostu nie wyrabia, nie? Coś dzisiaj po prostu za dużo ludzi ogląda. Także tu OBS nic nie ma, wynika z tego do rzeczy. No ale znowu, na przykład ten się wywalił, ale muzyczka leci dalej, a ta muzyczka się wywaliła. Coś tutaj YouTube są. Czekajcie, może wiecie co zrobimy? Palę go ponownie, czasami tak może mu się wydarzyć. Palmy sobie YouTube'a. Daliście ostatnią dramę z Arkadikusem i Kiszakiem i tym, że ten dostał pozew Arkadikus z półprezesem gier online, ale beka, nie? No nie mogę z tego. Co tam się dzieje? Może TW daj off. TW? To nie dali nic na Midseasu, nie znają PTR-a, niech coś ludzie ma FPH. Ta, dobra, nie oglądam Menelojewcy. No, jest pozew, nie? Ale to film z pół godziny trwa. To za 5 minut campfire, także czekam. Lecimy w Diablo, już odpalę to, żeby było w tle. Skupimy się tylko na Diablo, ale możemy obejrzeć, nie wiem, jutro, czy coś, nie? Sobie o tym pozwie, jak nie widzieliście, nie? Bo beka jest w chuj. No znowu jest ten Feng Shui, znowu wchodzimy w samym momencie. Mamy cię na pełny ekran. Feng Shui mój. A nie, co to za drama. Dobra, to wkrótce może wam opowiem. Było tak, że koleś, który się podpisuje jako półprezes gier online, Bartosz chyba jakiś tam, nie pamiętam jego już nazwiska, wrzucił na Twittera, na Xa. Kurwa, ty nie wierzę, ty ścina nam się ten YouTube. Co jest? Co tu się dzieje? 6, Shift i F5 to jest chyba w ogóle z wywaleniem cache'u. To u nich coś jest, nie? No u mnie tutaj nic nie pokazuje złego ten OBS. U nich coś jest skaszanione. Tak. Czekaj, a jeszcze jedną rzecz zrobimy. Mamy zrównoważone, mam super wydajność, ale to nie powinno mieć przeznaczenia chyba. Jak ktoś tę dramę oglądał, no ja oglądałem. Dopiero oglądałem u Arkadikusa, u niego jak się to zaczęło, bo w tym bierze udział też Kiszak, ale tak trochę pośrednio. Głównie to Arkadikus, bo Arkadikus tylko dostał pozew, nie? Witam, babaś. Mamy 8 osób na YouTubie. I chcę widzieć 8 lajków pod filmem. Proszę państwa. 2 odcinki to praktycznie Arkadikus mówi w filmiku, a potem drugi filmik dostaje pozew od półprezesa Gola. No, dokładnie, to jest to. Dokładnie to jest to. No, ale w skrócie, co to miało być? Że ten półprezes napisał jakiegoś Xa, gdzie wiadomość, jakaś taka wymiana zdań między jakimiś 2 userami, że Arkadikus i Kishok, oni miał jakieś Arkadikus, czyli przez przekręcone ich ksywki, że są tam obiektywni w grę, w którą nie grali, chodziło o Dragon Age'a, nie? No i Arkadikus się odpalił, że dlaczego on go szkaluje, w końcu on jest recenzentem, i mówi, że w tą grę i tak zagrał. I że ten półprezes jakieś tutaj sobie wymyśla rzeczy i się go zapytał, kto to napisał, a ten mu prezes odpisał, że to są ochrona danych osobowych, on nie może powiedzieć. No i ten dalej zaczął tam drążyć temat, nie? Że sobie to wymyślił, że to hate jest, punching down jakiś tam robi, a ten się o to obraził, nie? Półprezes. I mu wysłał pozew, że ma tam przedstawić przeprosiny w białej koszuli na białym tle, ma wyłączyć na rok zarabianie z YouTube'a i tak dalej, i tak dalej. No drama w chuj, taka kurwa beka ogólnie. Polecam obejrzeć. Jak kogoś to oczywiście bawi, nie? No bo takie dramy internetowe wiadomo. Ale tutaj myślę, że to jest hit. Co to żeś napisał? Weź sobie inny filmik odpal na YouTubie albo na Twitchu. Ktoś stream dropi, czy to u mnie? No nie, no mi tutaj, no teraz pokazało mi, że dropnęło na chwilkę, 1,5% mam. Ale już jest stabilnie powinno być, bo na Twitchu nie laguje ten film. U Kruchola. 8 lajków, greedy. Greedy, jak. Arka Big Dickus. Dokładnie. A lajkujesz, wuja, live'y? Oczywiście, że lajkuję. Wszystkie. Wszystkie filmy, wszystkie live'y jemu lajkuję. Bo wiem, o co chodzi, nie? Nawet jak oglądam na TV-ku na chacie, to lajkuję przez TV-ko. Także ma podwójne lajki ode mnie. Dobra, browara, ciao. No, pół minutki. Powiedzcie, czy dalej laguje, czy nie na YouTubie. Bo to dziwne, że laguje na YouTubie. No ale zawsze macie alternatywę, jak tu laguje, to możecie przełączyć też na Twitcha i wam nie będzie lagował. Cała idea tego multistreama. No to masz lajka. No i o to chodzi. I suba. W ogóle tego nie rozumiem z tym okiem. O chuj tu chodzi, kurwa. Co miał... Ten, co robił ten film, co on miał na myśli? Rzucając to oko patrzące. Ma być jakiś hint? O, sam nasze.
Hello, Diablo community. Welcome to another Diablo4 campfire chat. We end with a creepy eyeball. We were just talking about.
Powiedzcie mi, o której się zaczyna, ja to będę patrzył na zegarek, ale wiecie jak jest.
Campfire chat. I know we were just here last week when we were talking about the mid-season update, but this one is kind of like the big one because we're going to be talking about everything coming with patch 2.1 and season 7. I am joined here
Już nie,
by
no
Mr.
widzisz.
Finer, Mr. Charles Dunn, who have appeared on prior campfire chats. We were going to have Adam Jackson. He is unfortunately
Powiedzcie, czy głos
not
spoko.
feeling very well, so we hope he gets better soon. And we do also have another guest here who is live.
Poprosimy głośniej. Proszę cię bardzo.
That is Mr. Dan Tangway, who's going to be talking a little bit as well about what's coming up.
Powiedz, czy teraz jest okej.
And he's showing off his red.
O Jezu, znowu typ z kartką. Zaczyna się znowu. Od typa z kartką.
How are you, Dan? Hopefully you're good.
Jeszcze ich głośniej? Poczekam teraz na waszą.
But either way, a few things that we do want to talk about before we actually do jump into everything. Obviously, PTR is coming up soon. We are doing this stream a little early this time, mainly because the Thanksgiving holiday is coming up here in the US. And so
Będziecie w połę grać, będziecie oglądać.
Contents before even the patch notes are ready. We do plan on having a blog immediately after this stream, so players can actually check out the blog.
Zrobimy tak. Obejrzymy ile się da, przejdziemy na połę, obejrzymy do końca i wrócimy sobie na bloga. I wtedy sobie bloga przelecimy i patch nocy tak pokrótce zobaczymy co się dzieje. To będzie dobre.
So everyone can kind of dive deep into the patch notes for PTR.
Jakieś podsumowanko zrobimy.
Start on December 3rd, so that will be after the US holidays here for Thanksgiving. So there's a ton of stuff that is coming up for players to kind of jump into. But I know what we want to do is really just dive straight deep into all the new stuff that we do want to talk about. So for the first thing we do want to chat about is just Season 7 and what that's going to be. So we're actually going to jump over to Mr. Dan Tangway in Albany to kind of walk us through. So Dan, do you want to take over?
Oh no.
Dan can't currently hear.
What
Się zwiesił.
I don't know what happened. I mean,
Chłopie, obudź się.
maybe we don't have satellites working or something like that. So instead, I guess we'll
zobaczymy.
just start with classes first.
Sure.
Mr. Charles Dunn, do you want to talk about class changes that are coming with Season 7? I know we talked a little bit about this last week with Adam Jackson. Just a reminder, Spearborn, expect that to be addressed for Season 7, and we will actually be talking a little bit about that now. So, Charles.
Yeah,
take us through it.
absolutely. I love to talk about some of the changes coming to all the different classes in Diablo 4, as well as some broader, more systemic updates that are happening that kind of affect all classes equally in a way. Yeah, so like I said, just going through individual class by class, seeing some of the new stuff that's coming for a lot of classes. Let's start with the Barbarian, I believe is the first one up. Yeah, so Barbarian is definitely a class that, we think a lot of the classes have been performing pretty well across the board. They're always
Nie
a step
wiem.
under the Spirit Born.
Dobra, od razu lecą Barbarian, ty, nie było podsumowania,
Step and
co
a
się
half,
dzieje?
Below, and so we're looking at a lot of buffs across the board for them here. Specifically looking at some stuff with Hammer of the Ancients, buffing that number up here. A little bit
Super
of a rework
buffy.
to the Walking Arsenal passive.
3
Previously,
tryliony, dokładnie.
it was
Pewnie wypowiedzenie już dostał i nie może
was
uczestniczyć w
8%.
Campfire
Now
Chatach.
we're going to be giving you a bigger bonus, and when you have all of them active, you're going to get more attack speed and
znowu
some bonus
buty.
crowd control duration, which we think really plays into that kind of build. Additionally, we're also updating Earthquakes. That has been one of my favorite builds on Barbarian, right? Just seeing those big earthquakes come out
Earthquake
everywhere.
build.
Leafquake, I
Kurwa,
absolutely love
co
it.
my mamy w ogóle w tym?
The visuals on that is just top notch.
Nowe skrzydło, aspekty, unikaty, nowe runy, balans klas, armory, coś nowego do kuras, nowy merc, gauntlet, spirit board dalej OP. Dobra.
Extra bit where it increased the
Może to
damage
coś
of all
zmniejszy?
your stun grenades, so that you kind of got these synergistic builds with the
Nie wiem, czy to
various
widać w
aspects
ogóle.
all together. And we're extending that over to earthquakes now here. So
O nie, wyjebało się. Dobra, będę to miał tutaj na dole. Będę sobie zerkał. I wyjebka poleciała. Oby PoE się nie zwieszało, ale na Twitchu ponad działa git. Ty, właśnie, na Twitcha przejdziemy. Skoro się tu YouTube wypierdala, to nie ma co tutaj siedzieć. Bierzemy Twitcha i będziemy odporni. Diablo.
Yeah, it's a little bit less finicky too, right? Because now it lasts
Source,
after.
the Sorceress. Sorceress, one of the key notes that we've noticed with
Jebać biedę.
Sorceress over the whole lifespan of Diablo as Diablo 4 is that players often felt like they were pigeonholed into burning builds in particular. Firebolt enchantment is probably the most used enchantment by far.
Yeah.
Because it was just kind of a free way to apply a very small amount of burning to enemies, but that
Co oni tu
was what you
zmienili?
needed
Dealing
to turn
damage
a
from
lot of
skills
the
applies
passes in the skill
burning.
tree.
Dealing burning damage
that
to
was
heal
a
you.
powerful build,
Okay.
powerful interactions, but we felt like that was making everything a little too homogeneous. You felt like you had to do this.
No co, te
in
ten
order to
enchantment
access
zmieniają w końcu. Przecież to było tego. Najważniejsze, co mogło być.
a lot of these passives. And so we decided that we really want these burning synergies to really be benefiting builds that are dedicated to burning type builds. And
Ale z
not
drugiej
just ones
strony
who are
to
splashing
był w
in
sumie
with, Firebolt enchantment.
ten enchantment zawsze
And so
był
with that in
brany,
mind,
nie?
we did a rework on the enchantment to
Tak naprawdę.
increase the
Ten enchantment był brany
remove
zawsze.
the burning damage from the enchantment and change it over to this, which has a healing component to it.
No
And then
leczenie,
we
no.
also updated a lot of those burning
Już tego
passives
na
to
pewno
really
nikt nie weźmie.
play better in the
Po
dedicated
prostu
fire
wyłączyli
based builds,
enchantment.
rather than being something that you just want to splash into everything.
Yeah, hopefully there's a lot more build variety.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is one of the main driving goals of a lot of our updates is increasing that build variety, so you don't feel
Devouring
like you
Blaze,
have
co
to
tu
take
mamy?
this checklist of
To
mandatory
też trzeba było
things
zawsze
before
brać.
moving on
Znaczy, no,
to like
zawsze,
actually
prawie
your
zawsze.
build. So an example here on Devouring
Pyromancy
Blaze,
skills.
you've got bonus.
Okay.
Previously, it was bonus critical strike damage against burning enemies, no matter how much they're burning for.
No
So
właśnie,
just
bo ten
apply
burning
that
się
little
łączy
bit
z
of
tamtym
burning,
enchantmentem,
and
no.
you would get this. Now instead, you get a bigger bonus, but it's just for your pyromancy critical strike skills. So it really encourages, hey, you're a fireball build, you're a meteor build, something that wants to do those big fire crits. Devouring Blaze is now even more valuable for those builds, and it's not something that you necessarily need to or feel compelled to splash in other builds.
No, z drugiej strony zabrali crowd control, nie? Po prostu dali
All right, on to
10%.
the next one. We also did some updates for Ball Lightning.
Meh.
So
Ball
Ball
Lightning.
Lightning, the previous upgrades, like kind of these Mage's Ball Lightning and Wizard's Ball Lightning, were about stunning enemies or spawning some cracked energy with admittedly
zamiast
some kind
stunować,
of
to
complex conditions. You had
damage,
to
a
jump through a lot
tutaj?
of hoops to get these. One of the things we really like to do with a lot of these updates is simplify them down and streamline and really focus in on
I
what
crackling
the
energy
interesting
szybciej.
factor is.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit more
Chyba
modular
były
too,
buffy,
right? So
nie?
the more builds, the less sort of focused that initial step is on that skill.
Absolutely. So we've got the Mage's Ball Lightning here that now
Bo w sumie
is just
50 razy
increasing
udarzy
your
kogoś,
damage
no.
against stun
Wszystko na
enemies. It's
strzała
really
ma
got
schodzić,
payoff
nie?
for a lot
Nie
of
ma
Ball
czasu, że
Lightning
ktoś
stun
50
effects.
razy.
And then
Przecież to jest w
Wizard's
sumie
Ball Lightning is just
enemisów
always gonna be
50
generating
razy,
more
czyli
cracked
każdego
damage, just more
enemisa.
consistent generation.
No nie, ale 50, no to dużo jest, kurde.
All right, on to the next one. We've got some of the new uniques that we want to
O,
show off
nowy
here on
unikat,
Sort.
nowy unikat, bingo.
Talking,
Mamy
about Ball
bingo.
Lightning. So this is actually something
Kurwa, nie
interesting
to.
we're doing this
Czemu
season
to jest
where
to?
we're making
Zamknij
two
to.
uniques that are in the same slot. And they're going to modify the skill in a different
A,
way.
bo
So
co to-
they're-
czekaj, to jest
they will be
focus.
mutually exclusive. So you can take either this one here, which turns ball lightning
Na ball
into
lightning.
a kind of like a bowling ball, really. You send it
Aha, coś
forward,
takiego. No w
it goes
końcu
pretty
jakaś
fast,
zmiana.
and when it hits the
Hello.
target, it's going to explode
Szok,
and kind of
szok.
splash
Babać,
outward.
dokładnie. Szok.
And I think this is really cool. It
No w końcu
offers
coś
a
zmienia
switched up
ten.
playstyle, so the way you're familiar with ball lightning, which was kind of slow moving forward.
I stanuje.
If you pick the other unique,
Maximum range, to jest super ball lightning. Our Lorder, 100% more damage, have a higher lucky hit chance and stun duration is crit. O, wow. No, ładnie.
Right, so
I znowu
a lot of
fokusik.
the ball lightning builds in the past we're using the gravitational aspect that causes it to rotate around you, and we've updated that and kind of reworked the gravitational aspect so that now that
No i takie powinny być, i to powinny robić unikaty. Każdy unikat powinien zmieniać skill. Każdy.
To encourage this kind of playstyle, and obviously the
No dobra, no już przesadziłem każdy, no ale tak
gravitational aspect
90%.
that used to do this has been reworked into a new cool effect that you'll be able to demo out on the PTR as well.
It's like a fun trade-off now, and sort of
Yeah.
how you want to use ball lightning.
Yeah, it really helps it be a bit more build defining, which is our goal for a lot of these
No właśnie,
uniques,
build
is hey, you
defining,
get
nie?
this unique and it feels like
Co to możesz do 2 ball lightningi, 4 do ball lightningu, damage reduction, no, attack speed.
On this, right up near the top, that ball lightning can be cast while moving. This makes it a lot smoother to just
O!
keep moving around
Fajnie, można go rzucać kiedy się ruszamy. Powiem wam, że to wkurwiało, jak się właśnie trzeba było szłeś i ona tak co chwilę bo ball lightning rzucało. A teraz sobie lecisz. W ogóle w PoE zajebista jest rzecz, że twoja postać właściwie zawsze może się ruszać, kiedy rzuca jakikolwiek skill. No i właśnie nie, czy jakikolwiek, poprawcie mnie, jeśli się mylę. Ale tam poszli tak właśnie, że może się non-stop ruszać, nie? To jest zajebiste. Fajnie to daje.
A lot of werewolf updates, Season of the Werewolf. I absolutely love werewolf builds, and I think they've been, maybe a little bit behind the rest of builds.
No dobra, powiedzmy, że no zmiany na plus, tak? Na razie co pokazali, na bardziej sorkę. To będzie co, sorka ball lightning będzie. Biegniesz i wszystko ginie.
Yeah, a lot of times you saw some like rapid shape-shifting builds, and those are fun, those are great, but pure werewolf wasn't quite hitting the mark.
Tutaj, mamy tutaj druidziarzy na czacie? Bazyl, ty byłeś druidziarzem, nie? To nam powiedz, czy to dobre zmiany. Ja w ogóle tym druidem nie grałem.
Previously, the Raging Shred upgrade was just a combo attack that applied some poisoning damage. So now it's going to still do that and apply a lot more poisoning damage, but it's also going to cause them to take even more poisoning damage for the next 5 seconds. So this is, you're kind of finishing on your combo or your core combo, but then it also enhances all of the other poisoning damage that you've applied through something like rabies. All right, we've got,
jak kastujesz, to kastujesz PoE. Tak, ale ty mówisz o jedynce. W jedynce jest też dużo skill, że się zatrzymuje i coś tam nie ma, bo uderza i się zatrzymuje jest uderzenie, a w dwójce cały czas się ruszasz. Przynajmniej z tego, co widziałem w filmikach. No, czyli każda pewnie klasa po unikacie też dostanie. Jednym. I taki, co będzie zmieniał na bank.
Like just a giant ball of poison. Yeah. What does that look like, or what does that do?
Changing the damage type always helps sort of
Tak będzie.
make it feel really different.
Yeah, and we have some really sweet visuals for it too. I'm not sure if we have a video on that. I think we'll just have to rely on that in the PTR.
Yeah, people will see it on the PTR, but yeah, it's got some cool visuals associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that one will be very cool. Definitely check that one out.
This one I'm very excited about because Bloodhowl, as we see, has always just generated spirit, but now.
Yeah, it was always just generating some
25
spirit,
mnożnika
but you still do
dodali.
that, but now it gives you even more increased damage until you shapeshift out of werewolf form. So going back to what Colin mentioned about really focusing in on pure werewolf, that was an area that we felt.
Dokładnie. Właśnie w PoE będę grał na padzie, nie? Będzie się właśnie, przez to, że się można ciągle ruszać i sobie klikać guziczki, będzie się zajebiście na padziku grało, nie?
Alright, so let's talk a little bit about one of the updated legendaries.
Nie, Piotrix, tak jest, no obejrzyj sobie jakiś filmik. Koleś biega i po prostu jego wygina się w miejscu jego postać i napierdala, nie? Lewo, prawo, góra, dół. Kastujesz i nie przestajesz chodzić.
You actually
Zajebiste to
do
jest.
still
Fajnie się
do
gra,
more
fajny
damage
feeling
all
daje
the
to
time.
walki.
And
Zobaczycie.
depending on how far you're traveling for
Wy tak jakbym grał w
you're gonna
PoE2,
do
ale
some
no, nie
bonus
grałem,
hits. And
ale
it looks
grałem w
so
gry, które
cool.
właśnie tego typu mechanikę mają jako
werewolf
główną.
is dashing across the screen and then just doing this like multi-hit kind of
Ja na wsadzie, więc podobnie jak na kontrolerze. Tak, na wsadzie też. No jakbym na klawiaturze grał, to grałbym na wsadzie, nie na myszce, nie? Myszką bym sobie tylko celował.
You're going to get the full 4 hits. So it's really about positional gameplay a bit more than it was in
Co
the
to
past,
jest?
and you get very heavily rewarded for it when you do.
No Jezu, doskoczenie do tego. W ogóle nie lubiłem spirytysty, że on ma wszystkie skille na doskakiwanie.
Absolutely.
Across the map, which I know
Wolę biegać sobie, biegać i wybierać, w co mam strzelać, niż on
big thing
skakać
that
po
players
15
really, really
rzeczach, nie?
want, people have always been asking for, so it'll be cool to see people kind of like just bouncing around and through it with the aspect of the blue piece, so very cool.
Yeah.
It's always great when we can inject like changing how you play also, right? 'Cause you can
Aspect
imagine,
of Wolf Rain.
launching into a group of enemies, then picking
to
out
to.
specific targets that you really want to launch to and
Czekaj,
actually
czekaj.
optimize that build combat-wise.
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite ones in this
Absolutely.
patch, actually. Big fan of a lot of these Druid updates. Aspect of Wolf's Rain.
Sorry.
So this is a combo kind of legendary,
Sobie tutaj
combining the
o Jezus,
powers of
przepraszam.
Hurricane and your Wolf companions. So when you cast Hurricane, all of your wolves actually spawn a little mini Hurricane of their own. And these will do bonus damage for each of your active wolves. So it really encourages these
Nowe runy,
companion-based
nowe
builds
aspekty,
that already have this
unikaty.
wolf
Unikaty
pack of
przekreślę.
5 wolves following them around. Now your Hurricane affects all of them, and they get bonus damage for how many you got. So you really want to be stacking up as many wolves as you can. They all get hurricanes, and you just get to shred through the whole screen with that.
That's super cool.
All right, moving on to Rogue. So this is one that Shadow Clone has been probably the Rogue skill that I would say
Shadow Clone.
it maybe wasn't
Ty,
quite
ciebie,
hitting the
nie
mark
było
compared to
unikatu
most other
żadnego.
skills. And that was for a variety of reasons. And not to get too technical here on the details, but for a lot of the effects that that you have with your legendaries and your passives and those kind of things, historically Shadow Clone behaved inconsistently with those. It wouldn't necessarily pick up all of the bonuses, it wouldn't trigger all of the effects, and the end result was basically that your Shadow Clone dealt a whole lot less damage than you did. You thought, hey, I'm hitting for millions, and my Shadow Clone's hitting for like thousands, right?
Yeah.
And so we really looked at that comprehensively and thought, okay, we need to kind of rethink how Shadow Clone works across the board to really bring it up to par, to make it behave the way you expect, and then also extend that to a lot of the other summons in the game. The summons like your Necromancer skeletons, your Druid companions, and so on. So we did basically a rework of that entire system. And the long and short of it is that they should just work a whole lot better going forward in this season, where they're going to trigger all of your lucky hit effects. They're going to interact with all of your damage modifiers and multipliers.
Nie, powiem trochę chyba zmęczony są takimi zmianami tylko procentowymi, nie?
So just one example here, a very simple example. You've got Wind
Campfire
Striker's
chaty powinny właśnie być
This is a
tylko
very
o tych
simple
takich zmianach
legendary, just says, hey, when you
mechanicznych.
critically strike, gain
A nie
some
tam
movement
tylko tam
speed.
15%,
Now, in the
20%.
past,
Kogo to
that was only
interesuje,
when
nie?
your player character critically strike with one of your skills. And it would not happen whenever one of your Druid companions or your Shadow Clone critically strikes.
Czemu
But
nie
now
spotkaje,
all of that will work. So your
Dokładnie
companions or your summons or your Shadow Clone critically strikes and you have Wind Strikers, now your character gets that bonus.
No zobaczymy, wiesz.
Yeah,
Później
I really
będą
can't,
na pewno
overstate this, like how many new
zmiany,
interactions and synergies
które
this
mają
unlocks
wyjść
with
na
not just
sezonie,
Shadow
nie?
Clone,
No i
but all
armory wiadomo.
summons in general across the game.
Pewnie na początku są takie
But
pierdolety,
with
nie?
Shadow Clone in particular, we've got
Co już
a
było?
new
Barb,
unique item.
Druid, Rogal.
This one is Assassin's Stride.
No, to jeszcze 3.
And the effect here works
Przeżyjemy,
with
musimy to
mobility
przeżyć.
skills and your Shadow Imbuement. Once again, kind of playing up that combo
jest unikat.
aspect. So all of your mobility skills are going to always be Shadow imbued with some bonus potency. So they're going to do
Always
some more
Shadow
damage.
imbued.
And whenever you damage an elite or boss with a mobility skill, there's a chance to trigger an instant free Shadow Imbuement explosion. So those of you who like playing Shadow Step builds, one of my favorite ones with Rogue, just like Adam had said before about jumping around the screen with Werewolf,
To spoko, nie?
that was Shadow Step now too. And you're just going to be getting a lot of those those resets and kills much quicker as you leap out of the shadows, trigger a shadow imbuement explosion, and then move on.
Czyli co,
to the
będzie
next pack
ten
of
teraz?
Really cool
Evade Rogue?
kind of build.
Mobility skillem?
Additionally, caltrops, maybe the skill that was the most kind of clunky on control-wise to use.
Thank God, seriously.
If you've ever tried to use caltrops,
W ogóle Rebeka cisną z tego, co mają w grze, nie? To też jest dobre.
Backwards and you wouldn't go in the right direction, wouldn't hit the enemies. We've updated the animation here to just.
No bo oni to źle zrobili. Ten odskok był spoko, ale to powinno być na zasadzie jak Evade Teleport. Że tam, gdzie myszka, on tam odskoczy, a zostawi po sobie caltropy, nie? A tak to wiadomo, działa tak, że zawsze do tyłu i to takie było klanki, tak jak on to powiedział, nie? Come on, Blizzard. Bo tak ten skill no stracił to jednak tą mobilność, nie?
Thank effing God. I was like, oh my God, please. So yeah.
Stream rip in pepperoni.
Caltrops should be so much more usable now, and we think that this is a really good change going forward.
Yeah.
All right, on to the Necromancer. So Necromancer, we've done some improved
Co tutaj
itemization and
Necrys ma?
updates to the Overpower synergies, specifically the Rathma's Vigor key passive. So previously, it would just give you some an Overpower once every 12 seconds, and or when you overhealed for some bonus life, and now we're just tacking on a big chunk of overpower damage to it. We definitely felt like
idącą stronę z tym, nie zmieniają skilli, tylko procent. No, dokładnie, nie?
Quite hitting that mark, and you know, just pumping the power into these pure builds.
Zobacz, jak wygląda nasze bingo.
I think is going to be very helpful to make these builds really shine.
Czemu nowe runy zaznaczyłem? God damn it.
On to the next.
Unikaty.
We've got one of the new uniques. So
nowe
similar to
unikat.
what we did with the sorcerer, where we had kind of these paired uniques. That we were going to have two uniques in the same slot for Necromancer as well. This time in the pants slot, and they're both going to be working with Bloodwave.
Co tu mamy?
So this one, Kasemi's Legacy, will cause, instead of shooting one blood wave out forward, you're going to get two that kind of converge on you. And this definitely changes up the targeting of it, the positioning requirements, and really the use case, because it's pulling towards you instead of pushing away. So instead of being a defensive skill, it's much more about the damage and pulling them together. And then when they hit, they do a
Balans
big
też
chunk of
był.
damage as
No
well.
był balans.
So definitely turns Bloodwave into a much more damage-focused skill and a little bit less on the CC and
Możemy
the knockback,
zabić.
crowd control.
W sumie to balans trwa.
Absolutely, absolutely, especially if
już
you
mamy
want to
dwa.
be using this for that big damage moment. Now the alternative is Indria's Memory, where
drugi.
it still shoots the blood wave forward, and then at the
Tylko to jest
end of its
update, nie?
path, it will trap the targets in a bone prison. So this is a unique that is very much about combining blood and bone. So a little bit less of the pure blood and much more about combining.
Zamykanie ich w bone
Now,
prison?
additionally, you see we're using some bone spears here, or should I say blood spears, because that is what they now become.
Fancy.
Blood spears, and
Zanim oni się znajdą w tym więzieniu, to ciebie już tam dawno nie będzie.
Or sorry, they drain maximum life, still cost essence there, but they drain maximum life to cast additionally from a nearby corpse to fire an extra bone spear / blood spear. So there's a lot going on with this one, but I think it really comes together to be a very strong build when you're using the bone spear and the blood wave, and then casting bone spear reduces blood wave's cooldown. That's the inherent affix on these legs. Really makes a really cool build that
No na razie w minionach nic nie ma.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
All right, and so
O, Spirit Copperlekę zmieniają?
Warned at the start, Spiritborn we recognize has been one or
Nerf?
multiple steps above most other classes.
No pół procenta. O! Sześciokrotny nerf, ty.
We do have to recognize, for the long-term health of the game, it's
Grubo.
important that we have a bit better class parity across the board, so you don't feel like you're doing it wrong.
Zmienili pasywkę.
Yeah, and we have like a lot of the classes outside of the Spiritborn are actually in a really good spot. They're pushing pit tier 100 plus, which is great. And
Czyli
again, we're not
znerfili
looking
tego.
to really buff every class up to clearing pit 150 easily, right? We don't want to create that arms
Jezus
race. We want to
Maria.
continuously sort of ask you, the player, to chew through 20 different torment tiers because we're just arms racing that power so much.
Yeah, we do think that
Sześciokrotny
kind of
kepelek.
our target there is closer to where the other 5 classes are, and Spiritborn was just too high
outside
up.
of that, yeah.
And it's rather than try to power creep the whole
No.
game. We'd like to make
I do
sure
innego skilla, nie wiem co to za skill jest, nie
some
kojarzę.
small improvements everywhere
Nie, to
else
pasywki
for the
chyba.
underperforming builds and those ones that don't have enough love, and then get Spiritborn back down to a more healthy spot. And so with that in mind,
O,
one of
mamy
the
ile?
biggest offenders, or
Ale
biggest
1/10
power points,
ten
rather,
hit twice, to tam dla mnie
on-
duży, ale
on
ten
the Spiritborn
Vigorous,
was the Rod of Kapaleki
co
here.
to było?
This one is the one that converts your core skills into basic skills and it used to do
Aha, ale
reduce damage
zdjęli,
based
że
on
reduce
bigger
damage.
costs, and admittedly the calculations there were kind of complex, and so we've simplified it down a little bit where they will just gain the bonus critical strike damage. It will be substantially
do
less.
wyjebania.
Previously it was 1 to 3%, now it'll be down to
Znaczy do wyjebania, no.
0.1 to
Chyba będzie,
0.5
nie wiem
for
jaki on
point
będzie,
bigger
ale
there.
już
We think this will bring it
Spirit
to a
Bond nie
much
odleci z
healthier
nim
spot,
tak
and still
daleko,
can
nie?
retain the core
Z tym
fantasy and the core
unikatem.
build implications of this item. It just won't be pushing
Mamy
quite the
jeszcze
same,
drugi, nie Kepelekę,
trillions of
tylko
damage that we were seeing before.
jak on się nazywał?
Also fix some of the issues called out here at the above, like viscous shield and things like that. Scaling in
Wypadło mi z głowy.
unintended ways that were just way outside of our
No
expectations.
będzie
Yeah,
mocno,
definitely
będzie, ale
some unintended kind of bug
Nie aż
interactions
tak.
that were maybe double dipping or scaling too high.
Sypazontek,
taken a
o
pass
właśnie,
to make those,
sypazontek. Dzięki.
more in line with our expectations. All right. Additionally, we've got new aspects. Of course,
Nowy
being
aspekt.
a class in Diablo 4, you're going to be getting new content
Do
every
Spiritborna.
season. So we've got new legendary aspect here, the aspect of endless talents that causes you a razor wings to increase all of your eagle skill damage.
Eagle
and
skille.
razor wing critical strikes
Quill
will
dostał buffa.
grant even more stacks. So you can really stack that up. It stacks up to 50%. That's a whole lot. So you really want to be
Quill
spamming
dostał
out these
buffa.
razor wings and getting those crits to stack this up to as fast as possible.
Yeah, and this goes back to like just the prior slide where we talked about how Razor Wings and Centipede builds are getting some extra love in this specific season, which were more so underutilized.
Tak, bingo, ale mamy to już zaznaczone w naszym
With
bingo.
season 7 players will be able to see these new legendary
Tutaj
aspects, of
balans,
course, and then,
nowe aspekty.
and how they actually tie back in with some of the changes that we're doing for those builds.
Pyk.
Absolutely. All right, we've got some updates to
O, tego zmieniają.
some of the underused
Aha, nie, dobra, to jest ten
as
taki, co w ogóle nie był używany.
Ring of Writhing Moon here.
I co on ma
This
tutaj?
one would trigger a Pestilence Swarm every
Great
10 seconds. We
moment.
felt like that was a little too long.
Lucky
given the
hita
pace of
wyjebali.
combat in our game, and especially
Double
compared to
damage
some of the
wrzucili.
other options at the
I tu Lucky
slot
hita
of
wyjebali.
ring slot. So we've reduced that down to
dobra.
every 4 seconds. You'll spawn a Pestilence Swarm.
Nie wiem, co ta pasywka
and
robiła.
the figure generated goes up
Unrestrained
from 1
power.
up to 3. So a lot more resource generation because
4
your rings are
seconds.
often resource generated ones, so we want to make sure this is a compelling option.
Orbit
compared to
you
other,
and get...
choices
Aha, i
in
więcej
the ring
wigoru
slot.
generuje, okej.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about
Gameplay.
some of the broader updates that affects all classes. So the one I'm excited about
Co?
here is the ultimate updates. So in the previous season, we introduced skill ranks on ultimates, right? So
Co tu się
you can
dzieje?
now rank up your ultimate up to rank 5, and that was good. Gave you some cooldown reduction, some damage. But now, when you actually fully invest in it up to that rank 5, every ultimate in the game is going to get a new rank 5 bonus.
O,
for
nowy
example,
bonus,
here on
ty,
Lacerate,
patrz, zmieniają.
at rank 5, Lacerate's damage is going to be increased by 40% of your critical strike damage bonus. It gives it this scaling
Jeszcze
factor.
ulty
So
buffują
you can see on the
ostro.
left, Lacerate at rank 1 is doing about 38,000
Tak, kolor mogliby
damage.
zmienić. No ja też
Rank
patrzę na
up to
pierścionek
5,
i od razu
and it
się
goes
mylę.
crazy high up to
Next
119,000
rank,
damage
at rank
because it's
5.
now getting that critical strike damage scaler. And so if you
To
really
no,
want to
czyli
build
nowe
a
ulty mam,
dedicated
znaczy nowe
Lacerate build
bonusy
as
do
kind of
ultów.
your core
Okay.
damaging effect, this is going to be a great way to build around it and a good reward for investing all those extra skill points into it.
Definitely. I love to see us add more things that incentivize you to actually put some points into skills.
Yeah.
To by było
so
dobre do
often,
rozwinięcia, tylko znowu by to
sometimes
dało,
you
żebyś...
see,
W sensie, żebyś mógł dostawać skill pointy i różne rangi, żeby różne rzeczy robiły. Jeszcze tam dodać 3-4 efekty, żebyś mógł sobie to rozdysponować. Na przykład 30 punktów w jeden skill i on się zmienia, nie? Tylko powinno być coś tam, że typu jak unikat, że coś zmienia takiego.
Definitely.
All right, we've also got some new generic legendary
Aha,
aspects to really
generic
support this
aspects.
style.
Też do ulta.
That talk directly to ultimate skills. So we've got the Vehement Brawlers
4
aspect
additional
that
ultimate
causes,
skill ranks,
casting
okay.
an ultimate skill increases all of your damage output by 10 to 30%
Good
for
damage
8 seconds.
at
And you
10
also gain
stacks, cooldowns
additional
and
skill ranks in your ultimate. So,
at your cooldowns
we
and
just
these
talked
bonus
about
are
skill
reset,
rank
okay, czyli że
bonuses.
ultem
Now we've
napierdolanie.
got a legendary.
No
that will give you
będą
some bonus
kombinacje, też już tak to czuję.
We also
Że
got
nas
the
tutaj
Ring of Apogee
wystrzeli w kosmos,
which
nie?
says casting your ultimate skill will increase your damage by 8 to 18%, so a little bit less than the Vehement Brawlers, but it stacks up to 10 times, so you can get way more if you can cast your ultimate fast enough and kind of chain it together. So this will be really good for like rogues that use preparation to really get that ultimate cooldown reduction, or any build that really wants to focus around casting your ult many times in a row. This one is going to be a great legendary for those style of builds. All right, we've also done some updates to the rune words. And so rune words, Vessel of Hatred feature, has been really well received. We think that they've really spiced up some build variety, and we're going to add some new runes here and update some of the old ones. So all of the invocation runes have overflow. So the cost of many of them have also been adjusted to allow you to proc this overflow effect when you generate more offering than needed.
Okay, boost the rune.
And then also the ritual runes, the ones that generate the offering. Some of them have been redesigned to have some
Exhausted, co to znaczy
potential
exhausted?
moments of this overflow. So an example here on the Seer rune. This generates a ton of offering, 300 offering at once. And you get that by casting 5 skills. But then, instead of just casting 5 skills and then generate all of it and then casting 5 again instantly, we've added in this exhausted period for 3 seconds. So you can get that 300 offering at once.
No ale wyczerpanie, ale to już było w grze, wyczerpanie? Coś takiego?
It's like getting like large buckets every like couple seconds instead of offering now with these.
Yeah, this is a good tuning knob to kind of make sure that, hey, we can give you this strong moment of power, but then it is followed by a...
Tak, ale ja rozumiem, co to znaczy po angielsku, ale co to daje? Chcesz napisać może, że przez 3 sekundy skilli nie możesz używać? Wszystkich skilli? Jaka chujnia.
Yeah, it's about potency versus frequency. So you get really strong
Nie, no to jest do wyjebania.
Right. And that'll play right into the updates with a lot of the overflow to make sure that when you do overflow, it feels really good and feels really rewarding to get that.
Proszę cię, aktywowanie runy to jest takim bombs i mamy na 3 sekundy włączyć skilla. 30 minut, dokładnie, Piotrix.
As long as you're maintaining a summon. And so, as I kind of alluded to earlier with the Shadow Clone section, summon is our new catch-all term for anything that you summon. It's pretty self-explanatory, but that includes things like Necromancer minions, Druid companions, Sorcerer conjurations, Rogue Shadow Clones, and even Barbarian Ancients from some of your effects. Call of the Ancients and some of the legendaries that summon those are all summons. Igni rune will generate 25 offering, but it stores up offering every 0.3 seconds. So you're actually generating about 75 offering per second.
Dobrze nam bingo idzie.
And you actually cash it in by casting a non-basic skill to get that offering. So as long as you're out there kind of spamming your basic skill, you're going to be kind of banking up this offering. And then when you cast the non-basic, you cash all
Igni
in.
zwierzka,
You
no
probably
dokładnie.
trigger the rune it's connected to, you get a big overflow, you get a big moment of power there.
Jakie były tam wszystkie? Było Igni.
And finally, we've got the Chak rune that generates, or requires 20 offering rather, and this will invoke Druid's Lightning Bolt. That's one of those. It's not the core skill, but Lightning Bolt is kind of that other power in the Druid's kit, similar to like Earthquake or Stun Grenades.
Quen, Quen było jeszcze, to była ochronka.
And enable those kind of builds to really tap into that effect.
Awesome. Lots of runes.
Yeah, awesome.
Lots of updates,
awesome.
Lots of changes coming to classes. There's more changes in the notes that we'll have that will be hitting next week. So players can look into those. These are just a few examples.
Art, właśnie. Quen, Irden, Axi.
Really need feedback on a lot of these changes. I know there's some people going in chat going like, hey, I'm noticing like, maybe you're giving a lot of offering and then there's a little bit of a cooldown period or something like that. Let us know. Like, we want people to try those out, like test it out so that we have the feedback so that before we go live with patch 2.1, we can end up making any feedback changes based off of community feedback. So lots of cool stuff. Thank you so much for walking us through all the different class changes and everything like that, Charles. Do we have Dan available from all the
Żonka ogrywa piętro raz mieć katrykę.
Dan
I
is
can
actually
hear you
gonna walk
now.
us through. Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
O, jest nasz
Dan was
zapomniany
just
Dan.
like staring blankly at the camera, and I was like,
Yes,
uh-oh,
I
what's going on?
was.
But
Yeah,
Dan is actually going to be talking about all the new content that's coming in patch 2.1
New content.
with season 7. So Dan, do you want to take it away and
Dawaj,
talk to
czytaj,
us
czytaj,
a little
Dan.
bit about it?
Absolutely. A couple of technical difficulties could not keep me from sharing this with everybody. So, this
Dawaj, hype.
PTR for patch 2.1 is a PTR of a couple firsts at this point. This is going to be the first time that we're bringing the seasonal realm to a PTR. So what does this mean? We've got a lot of seasonal content coming up in season 7.
O, mówiłem,
wanna be
seasonal
able to
content. Dużo.
Get all of your feedback on this content. It's pretty important for us to,
Seasonal
like, Adam was
content.
saying,
Ty,
really have
ale
those
jaja.
iteration cycles where y'all are able to test. And,
Seasonal Barrowed
show
Power,
what's working
więc
and what
no
isn't.
nie, naprawdę?
This is also
I
going
Witchcraft.
to be the first time since season 2 that we're bringing back seasonal character powers. So if you remember in season 2, Season of Blood,
Okay,
you were vampire powers.
No były, no.
And you slotted them into your sanguine circle. And so for season 7, it could be a little bit different. Not vampires this time. This time it's going to be witchcraft. And so
Aha.
I'm excited to really dig into that right now.
Czyli to samo co
Tease
było,
out
tylko
what-
zmienione.
what y'all
Okej,
can, play in a couple weeks. So witchcraft
posłuchajmy.
enables you as a practitioner to call upon the power of the swamp to do your bidding. And so you've
Okay.
met some witches before in the game, and you're going to meet some more in the
Season
coming
of Witchcraft.
But before I really dive into witchcraft, we got to talk about your enemies. Now, your enemies of this season are going to be called the Head Rotten. Now, the Head Rotten are abominations that spawned from the Tree of Whispers. And
Head
you're
Rotten.
going to slay them and collect what
Worker
we
wrac.
call Restless Rot. And this is going to be our currency for the season. Now,
Okay.
like I said, this season is about witchcraft. So there are going to be some witches. And those witches are going to be residing around the Tree of Whispers. And they're going to have some altars. And these altars are pretty
O
important to
Jezu,
you learning your
altarze.
witchcraft. And so you're going to travel to an altar. You're going to make an offering of restless rot, and that's going to
Czyli
enable
będzie
you to
jak Helltide,
learn
osobna ten,
witchcraft.
będą ołtarze pewnie na mapce rozmieszczone i będziemy ich
Equipping
klepać, nie?
witchcraft is going to be pretty simple. We wanted to take what was best
Rangi widzę.
from a lot of these styles of menus that we've done in the past and distill it into something that's very convenient and easy to use. And the result
Okay,
is this
czyli mamy
witchcraft menu that you can see in
Typowy
front of
power
you.
spike.
And so equipping is going to be super simple. You've got an
I
inventory on
tablica
the
renomy,
bottom, and
oczywiście.
then you're going to drag
Season
or
2
otherwise
Reborn.
move that power to one of the slots up top. And you're going to have 5 normal slots, 5 normal powers you can equip at any point, and 1 unique power for really special witchcraft that you can find. The other thing is that you can upgrade your witchcraft directly in that inventory using Restless Rot. So again, we're streamlining the process to make it easy for players to equip and upgrade their witchcraft. Now, obviously, it wouldn't be a season without some rewards, and so let's talk about those a little bit. This season, we're going to have another reputation-style gameplay in the form of Coven's Favor. Now, killing Head Rotten will get you Headless Rot, or killing Head Rotten will get you Restless Rot. But in order to advance the Coven's Favor, you actually need to complete Whispers. And completing those Whispers will increase your rank and allow you to unlock rewards, including items and materials and things like that. In addition,
Jest
due to
repa.
this season,
Jest
you're going to
tablica,
also
bingo.
unlock at certain ranks new witchcraft. And then you will
Zaraz
have new things
zobaczymy.
you can learn from those altars. And
Coś
then,
nowego,
because everyone
Spirit
loves
Up,
it,
Gauntlet,
we're
nowy
bringing
Max,
back,
nowe skrzydło. O, nie ma
Resplendent Spark as
tego.
well. So that's going to be at the end of your Coven's Favor rank. And of course, the Resplendent Spark nowadays can be used from
Ale jest bingo.
crafting, a random mythic unique to actually targeting uniques using a lot of those runes that you can earn in the game. All right, one last little thing with respect to witchcraft. So we wanted to try out something a little bit different. And so we've also created several powers that are lost to these witches, the Coven of the Swamp. And so those you can only find by traveling out in the world and discovering forgotten altars. And these forgotten altars will allow you to learn these lost powers. And
Będzie grind.
yeah, we just thought we'd try something a little bit different here. And yeah, let us know what you think about it. Now, let's talk about some of the witchcraft itself. You know, we've
Jak
talked it
osób,
up a bit.
dokładnie. No, w
We're going
content.
to release, it's over 20 powers for the season, and we're going to show
Tylko, że to
you
nie jest new
4 of
content,
those
to już
right now.
było.
So let's talk about the first one. This one's really popular. This is the poison frog. So the poison frog, as you imagine, is a servant that you can summon that fights alongside you. As its name implies, it will poison your enemies, and you know, if it runs out of health, it's going to explode viciously with a lot of poison damage. Folks are having a lot of fun with this one. Next up is Doom Orb. So Doom Orb is a pure orb of eldritch energy that circles around you and damages any enemy it touches. And it can also launch itself at distant enemies before returning. Also another favorite at this point. Vengeful Servant. So Vengeful Servant, as the name implies, is another servant like the frog. And this one will absorb damage and then rush enemies. And then last but not least, we've got one of those lost witchcraft powers I was telling you about. And this is Piranado.
O fuck,
So-
piranid.
This one procs when you cast
No,
other
no
powers.
szamanowe takie
And
są.
so if you
Piranady.
cast a hex and an aura at the same time and inflict it upon an enemy, there's a chance that you will then proc the Piranado. And the Piranado, as you can see, sucks everything into it in a swirling dervish of
40 000 physical damage. Aha, przez 20 sekund to nie ma czasu. To już widzę, że to jest do wyjebania, nie?
But what good are powers if we aren't offering you some new activities within the season to participate in? And so these come in the form of headhunts.
Co
Now,
to jest?
headhunts are a whisper-driven activity. And so the tree is searching for these head rotten. The tree wants you to eliminate these head rotten. And so it's going to help you by highlighting areas within the world where it thinks there's a lot of head rotten for you to kill. So you're going to follow the whispers in order to, you know, find the head hunts and kill the head rotten. Now, these are subzone
Fioletowy hentai, dokładnie.
similar to Helltides. They're going to feature a number of all new whispers mixed in with some existing ones. This was an opportunity for our team to try out some new whispers and really kind of tell a little bit of a story each time you're going out on a headhunt, because whispers offer us that opportunity. Now, completing whispers has a chance of spawning a head rotten boss. And the head rotten bosses are the things you're really going to be looking out for, because those are going to give you some additional rewards I'm going to tell you about. Delivering a head rotten boss's head to the Tree of Whispers enables you to earn occult gems. Let's talk about occult gems. Now, we're pretty
O panie,
excited
ile
about these.
kontentu. Nowy
Occult
content.
gems are special socketables that have unique effects that help you fine-tune your build.
O panie.
So they can
Znowu.
only be slotted in the jewelry slot. And so this is a way of basically having them coexist with runes. And they only last for the season. So when your items transfer to the Eternal Realm at the end of the season, these are going to disappear. But in the meantime, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with them. Let's dive into them a little bit. So each occult
Powinni
gem
zrobić, że na
has
Eternal jak
built-in
to przechodzi, to
defense.
powinien się
We
zamieniać
don't
albo w
want you to have
Sparka,
to
albo w
make a
jakiś
choice
Kesha z
between,
czymś, żeby itemy były z
a
tego.
Royal Diamond or a Royal Skull
Żeby
and
nie
an
było tak
occult
smutno, a
gem.
na
So
tym,
all of these
na tym zwykłym realmie
occult
to
gems
każdy
have
ma wyjebane i
defense
tak to
built
nie.
into them,
A tak by zawsze było,
so
że
that,
coś.
really you're getting a bonus above and beyond, those gems that I just described. And so here are some examples of
Jezu, i
them.
te są
First up, we've got
podzielone.
the Elder Sigil. This is going to boost your damage whenever you hex enemies.
Aha,
So
czyli
if
w
you're
amulet
leaning
trzeba
into
wsadzić,
certain
to.
types of hexes you like using, Elder Sigil may be a good fit for you. Killing Wind. This is going to boost your crit and move for folks who really dig, specking out with Eldritch powers. So if you equip 3 or more Eldritch powers, then slotting a Killing Wind into, say, one of your rings might benefit you quite a bit. And then finally we've got
No
Dust
nie
Stone.
wiem, no.
This is a legendary one, so it's going to be even more powerful than the other two
Gemy
I
teraz
talked
będziemy
about.
wsadzać.
This is going to boost when you use Hex and Aura and afflict other enemies with those. So each
Ale
time
czym
you
one
do
się różnią?
that,
Czemu się różnią kolorem w sumie?
not
A
only do you have a chance to proc that
poza tym niczym się nie
tornado I talked
różnią.
about before, but you're going to increase the damage that you
Oho, chyba runy w
output per
odstawkę
absorption.
idą. Nie no, runy
So you can
zostaną w
kind of get a
ekwipunku, a to będziemy
sense
wsadzać
that
pewnie
the occult gems are
pierścień i
providing you
amulet,
even
nie?
more incentives for, creating a certain type
Zresztą
of
no,
build.
w pierścieniu amuletu co było? Resy i armor,
We
tak?
are
Na to mają
just
pasywną
really
zdolność,
excited
resów
to
i
see what
armor,
kind of
więc
combinations y'all
no
come up with.
brainer.
I think
Wszystko leci w
yeah,
ten
it's going to be pretty exciting.
jewelry, nie?
Final thing
Biżuterię. Tak.
is, we were doing a lot with the Tree of Whispers. We've got the witches around them.
Ancestral Caches, tej. Trio Whisper będzie
So we
dawał.
thought, well, we should,
O, tam
take some of the
ulepszony,
quality of
zobacz.
life feedback we've heard from players and
Raven
try and
of the
address
Tree,
it.
co to jest?
So the first thing we've done is we've updated the town around the Tree of Whispers. We added some more services to it because we expect
Raven of the Tree to będzie Trio of Whispers, ale w wielkich miastach, że nie będzie trzeba się tam tepać.
We've changed the layout a little bit to make it a little more convenient to navigate and move the waypoint so that it's just quicker to get to the Tree of
Unity?
Whispers to join things.
To na
But
pewno.
sometimes, you're in the middle of a headhunt we found and you're getting a lot of grim favor, but you don't want to leave. You want to try and go fight the boss that you just summoned, right?
Czekaj.
So we've also implemented what we call the Raven of the Tree. And the Raven of the Tree appears in every headhunt zone. And that allows you to turn in your grim favor on the spot so that you don't have to go back to the tree.
Czyli to co
Now,
mówiłem.
you're not going to have access to all those other services, so you hit your inventory limit, you'll probably want to go back to town. But in the moment, when you're in a flow, you can go to the Raven of the Tree, get your cash, and then keep fighting. And then finally, we felt like we wanted to expand the rewards a little bit more for the Tree of Whispers. So we've added ancestral caches. It's a pretty low probability of getting one, but they're there. And these guarantee you getting an ancestral item from a cache. So obviously you see this pop up. I have a feeling you're probably going to select it. So yeah, I think that's all I have to talk about for the upcoming PTR.
Nowy, stary
back over to you,
content.
Adam.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. Talking about a ton of new stuff
Więcej
coming
jebania
for,
będzie, żeby to
patch
tylko
2.0 PTR
zebrać te
for
wszystkie
Season
mnożniki
7.
razem.
I'm super excited for all the Tree of Whisper updates. I know a lot of people in chat are, especially with the Raven not having
Dobra,
to go
15
back to
minut
the
też się
Tree
da
of Whispers
odlić.
every single time, being able to turn in Grim Favors right there through the Raven. On top of that, also just the rework of the zone, so everything's a little bit closer. You don't have to walk all the way across, to walk all the way back to the waypoint, or to get to the vendors and everything. So there's a lot of big changes with that. And please do choose the ancestral cache.
Yes,
like,
it's so
why
powerful.
would you not? Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember we added the ability to favorite waypoints
Yes.
as
Yeah.
part of Season 6 or the last patch that we did. So it's super helpful with that Witch Town.
Yeah, most definitely. And of course, we've people have been seeing some of the new witchcraft powers and noticing some familiarities of like past Diablo lore. And I will say we'll be talking more about the story of Season 7 as we get closer to launch, so players can hear more about kind of like the origins of all of like what we've been kind of talking about here with this story with Diablo 4. So thank you again, Dan, for walking us through all the content that's coming with Season 7. And of course, last but not least, we do want to talk about some big quality of life changes. One really, really big one that we're really excited to talk about. And Mr. Colin Feiner will talk and walk us through everything.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So most of these are sort of systemic updates, so I'll talk through them. Paragon migration is more just a reminder on how the new Paragon system works. All of the Paragon experience that you've earned in a season is actually at the end of Season 6 going to be added to your Eternal Realm Paragon. So what that means is, if you're Paragon level 230 on a season, all of that 230 worth of experience is going to get added to your Eternal, which probably is going to level up your Eternal Paragon. And I mention this because we added the really cool Soul Stone. I kept calling it the Vessel of Hatred Crystal, but it's a Soul Stone. That really cool Soul Stone that you get at Paragon level 300, you can actually earn that on Eternal. So if you're not willing to sort of put in hundreds of hours to get that in a season, you can work your way there on the Eternal Realm as you sort of cash in these seasons. So we think that's going to feel
Yeah,
pretty
it's
good.
going to be really nice is you're like playing through multiple seasonal characters, and then eventually you'll end up just getting enough XP to actually earn those rewards at level 300 Paragon. So that's actually, it's not like, I have to have it in this season or something like that. You know, you probably end up getting it in a couple seasons if you play pretty extensively and you level up your Paragon.
Yeah, definitely. The second one here is now we are essentially tying the unique power. So if you think about like the Fists of Fate, that random damage roll from 1 to 200, that's going to be tied, the floor is going to be tied to the amount of greater affixes that are on that item. So if you have 1 greater affix, the floor is going to go up a little bit from the 1%. When you get 4 greater affixes, it's going to go up quite a bit. It's not exactly perfect because we wanted to maintain the sort of specialness of a 4GA with a perfect unique roll. We've seen some of those on Reddit, and I think it's always such a cool moment to sort of see those drop. But it's going to be a substantial increase to the power of the floor. So it's going to be nearly impossible to get a 4GA with a really crappy unique power roll.
Yeah.
Co oni pierdolą? Co ja słyszę?
And then rolling
1%.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Co tu się będzie działo?
You never want to be comparing like, oh, I got a 4GA. Well, my 1GA1 is maybe better because it has a better unique roll. That wasn't a moment we felt was really enticing, so we wanted to make sure that
Paragon
the more
migration?
GAs you get, just the better the item is, comprehensively, just better.
Ja to tego słuchałem cały czas, ale nie tego.
Quite a bit.
Nie zarejestrowałem.
I'm going to talk about one thing previously on that, which is ancestral legendaries. They are now going to, when an ancestral item drops, it's going to drop the top end of the legendary aspect roll. So if you think in season 6 we added 5
Aha, że sobie zbierasz czysty paragon. Dobra, że przechodzi. Exp.
rank 21
Dodaje się.
usually where they end up
Rozumiem.
landing. Now ancestral
A tak
items
nie
when
było?
they drop, they're going to be at the top end of that.
A nie, w sumie to
you should
pierwszy
always be
sezon.
pretty excited when an ancestral
tak
drops
to
because
robi.
it's always the best sort of top end ranks of that legendary power.
No dokładnie, tam też to oczywiste. Teraz w sumie to
conspiracy theories
na tym
on
pomyślałem.
Reddit of people going like, hey, I think like my Codex of Power is not getting updated correctly or something like that. And we totally understand. Like there was a lot of confusion behind it. We admit that on our end. And this just makes
Dobra,
it
dawać
easier
to.
and better for players and being able to
Armory,
grab it. It's
proszę
not
państwa.
Colin behind the scenes on a
was.
computer like it was. It actually was. He was literally just like making sure you got the lowest aspect rolls or anything like that. But no,
grind harder.
So
don't
that
think harder.
most definitely will address a lot of the confusion there.
Feature.
As well as,
Super
just making
feature.
it simple roll.
Yeah, definitely. And then the
Super
second one here is
feature, kurwo.
we substantially increased the ancestral drop rate across the board. They're not going to be raining from the sky, but it's definitely a pretty substantial increase that we think is just going to level up all the different activities in the game. That should just
Future,
build up.
kurwa.
We don't want to go too far where they're no longer special, but we thought that we were a little bit too conservative on our first swing.
And this will affect all Torment tiers, right? Not just tier Torment 4.
Yep, exactly. So all
Ceny szeje do pory. Dobrze mówisz.
And then the next one. So we saw that
Conversion?
gems were dropping a little too frequently, constantly getting stuck on the ground, and players were capped on them. So we are doing a pass to reduce them overall. But to compensate, we're actually adding a sink for them. So you're going to be able to take gem fragments and craft random legendary amulets and random legendary rings. Those all obviously have a chance to be ancestral.
Naprawdę? Z gemów będzie można crafcić randomowe te?
To sort of make sure that you're never hitting a point where you just have so many gem fragments there.
O Jezu, znowu więcej legend. I mogą być mytikami i
The next
wszystkim.
one I think is going to be I'm super excited about, and that's Class Quest.
Blizzard.
They're going to work similar to Altars of Lilith, right? Do you have more details on that?
Yeah, so class quests, so most classes, or every class has this, special mechanics. So like on Sorceress, you've got your enchantment slots. And in the past, when you hit level 15, you'd get a quest where you had to go and help out a mage to find a lost tome. So for players who have already completed that, you are going to, if you do need to log into that character first,
questa klasowego robić?
across your account. But once you've done that, any subsequent sorceress that you make, once you hit level 15, you're going to immediately unlock that first enchantment slot.
O chuj,
And then once you hit level 30,
spoko, ale to takie kurwa ominięcie. Zresztą Spiritborna był taki chujowy ten quest i trwał miliony lat. Więc że się będzie trzeba tego robić drugi raz. Tyle wygrać! Tyle wygrać!
There will be a pretty juicy reward if you do choose to do it, but you're going to get that mechanic right off the bat.
Ty, reward będzie, jeśli zrobisz. Juicy reward, tak powiedział.
Seasonal character and do it to unlock the class mechanic. Not, we don't require you to log into your eternal character to get this.
Ale ciekawe jaki jest reward, bo nagle się okaże, że on jest jakiś OP.
check
Co
the
to jest?
time, like, oh,
Armory!
40,
Mamy
I should
to!
probably
Bingo!
my class.
A!
I have
Armory, było
forgotten to
widać
unlock my gold,
chujki.
on my necromancers for a little longer than I would like to admit.
Well, production spoiled it as they raise their hands up in the air. But the next update is obviously a big one, which is finally we
Czekaj, bo
don't have
tutaj-
to say this is in development.
Czemu to wygląda jak gówno?
Armory is coming with Season 7 patch 2.1.
Naprawdę?
So
Kurwa, takie coś to bym skleił w 15 minut w
Absolutely, yeah, this
pęcie.
one was a really niche request.
Save load,
I'm
name your
super
favorite
grateful
builds.
for him. So that one guy who
Character
asked for this,
bound.
this is for you. I'm just kidding.
Character
This has been a
bound?
super hot
Aha,
requested
no dobra,
feature.
niech będzie, że to ma
We're excited to
sens.
bring it to everybody. So everybody's gonna get this
Nie
update.
kosztuje
Armory's gonna allow you
golda.
to save builds. It's gonna save all your equipment, all of your
Sanctuary,
skills,
Tree of
all your
Whispers,
Paragon, all your
Triggers.
glyphs. You can even name it. And what this really allows you
Wygląda
to do is be a
jak
lot more flexible
gówno.
in the endgame, right? So
No wygląda jak
you're really liking
gówno.
your fireball build, but you got this really sweet ball
Jako
lightning
nawet
beginning.
in development.
Now it's really
Kurwa
easy to just
jest.
save off that
Te
fireball
kwadraty
build,
po
you
lewej
can come back
stronie.
to it, and you can start
No chuj
building
to
out
takie
that ball
wielkie.
lightning build. So we're really excited about this.
To
We're
robił
not gonna
stażysta
charge
za
you for
darmo, na
respec'ing
bank.
or anything like that, so you save it.
Znaczy, no wiadomo, że
it's
placeholder, nie,
It's
ale...
even come with some cool quality of life things where we actually mark all of the equipment.
No ale ile tam armory
that's
zapowiadane było, że coś tam niby coś tam myślą o tym. Ile to było zapowiedziane czasu temu? 2 sezony?
Right? So you'll wanna know
To
if
jest
you're
kurwa
gonna
pół roku
modify this
temu.
item
No
that
to kurwa w pół roku takie gówno, no proszę cię, to się robi w 2 dni takie coś, w dzień. To jest dzień roboty, że tak poukładać sobie rzeczy, które już mają dostępne, nie?
It's still part of that build, so it might not be the right one. So you do
Proszę
probably
cię.
want to get multiple sets of gear if you want to be building this up, but it's so much easier to swap between them, so much easier to explore all of the new build possibilities that we introduce every season with the new items and updates.
Absolutely. And it's in all the main towns. It's even
No na
in the
serio, no
training
takie
rooms,
zmontowane,
which is
wiesz,
very
no
nice.
ikonki poukładane.
And it's important to note
Tu są
that
jakieś,
you will
dobra, chyba
swap
3
it
nowe na
from where
dole.
the equipment is in your
Zrobione w
stack.
tym klimacie i wrzucone ikonki
It's
legendzie
worth it.
napisane.
Don't worry
No
about
przecież to
it.
kurwa,
Swap it out.
dla grafika, który wie co robi, takiego gówna zrobienie, to jest, nie no pół godziny roboty, no bo przesadzimy, no może godzina, tak? I jak wiesz, już ma co skąd wziąć, nie? No pyk, proszę cię,
So,
kurwa.
yeah, they're super
No
excited.
dobra, beka, fuj, no.
Really
Wiadomo, to nie będzie jak wygląda, ale tak beka
That's why we just
zniknie.
removed a lot of the cost to switch around, and we think this should
Ja to nie widzę.
you know, if you're playing Druid, you don't have to go make another
5 minut do połę, no.
300 clicks.
Spieszcie się, dawajcie tutaj jeszcze co macie szybko, patch nocy i nara.
I do want to notice because this will be in PTR. We really need people to actually test it. It's a brand new feature. There's a lot of complexities behind it. Obviously, it's pulling things from
No,
staff.
no w sumie tak, run by działało, no ale
etc.
kurwa,
So,
no.
wanna
Indie
make sure
company.
that, players
Armory.
do get opportunity
Big.
to actually test it during PTR. Give us
Mamy to.
feedback. It's something that we're going to continuously iterate. One thing I do want to call out is in PTR.
Za Armory
it
na
won't
pewno
have
exploity będą.
controller support. It will have controller support when we do launch it with patch 2.1, the final patch itself. But for the PTR, it won't actually be, there won't be controller support on it. So I just want to caveat that now for players that are
Nie będzie
actually
controller
that do play
supporta,
on
a
controller
Gauntletę
to
dalej nic nie
know
powiedzieli,
that
nie, że
it
będzie.
won't be there for that specifically. So tons of changes coming for season 7. Obviously, all the class changes, the ultimate changes that Charles talked about. The balance and items are related to that. New rune words, reworked rune words as well. We have, of course, all the season 7 stuff that Dan talked about with the witchcraft powers, and of course our new gems, the occult gems. So we want players to actually jump in and try those out, and with all the quality of life fixes that we do have. So I know we do want to jump into Q&A before
Czyli koniec.
Oh, PTR.
Idealnie, idealnie.
Sorry, I forgot about PTR updates. I can't even follow my own.
Dobra, ale już się wygadałeś, dobra, chuj z wami. Chuj z wami, idziemy na pole. Jaki smak palę? A taki zielony sobie dzisiaj kupiłem. Ogólnie kupuję tylko te z tym, z kuleczką, nie? Zielona, niebieska, czerwona i czasami jak jestem w galerii handlowej i jest IQOS, to sobie kupuję taką fioletową.
Things are going to be a little different for patch 2.1. This is way better for players. If you guys remember back with even the patch 2.0 PTR.
Dobra, to wszystko wiemy. Już na QA i tak nie zdążymy. To co? Pauzę robimy? Bo to już takie pierdolenie będzie. I co? Idziemy na połę, nie? Zostały 3 minutki cooldowna. Wszyscy idą siku, po chiperki i tego typu rzeczy. Wiemy co jest 5. Czekaj, bo są 2 GG live. Dobra, viewers. Join stream. Nie ma żadnego odliczenia. Login. Czemu login piszą wszyscy? Twitch dropy. Ludzie na Twitchu, którzy chcą, Marzak, zobaczyć się ten. jak wszedliśmy tu na streama i że połę robię, czy dropy działają u mnie na tym, na kanale. Ile widzów? 80 000. A ile było na YouTubie? Znaczy nie na YouTubie, a tutaj? Ile było? Przejdźmy. 4,5. Dobra. No fajnie, tam bawcie się. A my sobie tutaj poczekamy. Tam jest emotka, której nie widzisz. Jest odliczanie, już zerkam. Tak? Masz odliczanie? A my tu nie mamy żadnego odliczania. Jest po prostu co? Kruchol TV, wysłałem ci na Discordzie. Pokaż sobie na Discordzie. I czekajcie, ten Discord jest teraz, panie. Tutaj. O, dźwięk się jakiś zaczął. Ale gdzie wysłałeś? Na połę ogólny. No, jak coś to przechodźcie do mnie na Twitcha, to dropy od razu będziecie mieli, nie? Kurwa, pa jak w tej viewercy lecą, 100 000 już, nie? No, to jak coś to wbijajcie na Twitcha. Tam, ja mam dropy odpalone, więc będziecie dropy mieli. Żaden problem. Czekaj, gdzie mi ty to baba się wysłałeś? Coś tam. Login. Nie wiem o co chodzi z tym login. Kruchol, łapa. Sensation robot. A, login. No tak. Okej, rozumiem. A czemu ja tego nie widzę tutaj? Nie wiem dlaczego, jeśli oni wrzucają te... Dobra, wszystko jasne. Gifa wstawiłem. Tam będą te reklamy. O, poleciał, co tu mamy? Dziękuję, dziękuję. Chlebaczek. Tu follow. O Jezu, ile was tutaj ten. Minuta. Tak jest, subujcie. Subujcie, róbcie. Co, bo już leci? No właśnie, gdzie on jest? Czemu nie ten? O, jest, dobra, leci. Musiałem odświeżyć. Co to jest? Kurwa, reklama jest. Ja pierdolę. Reklamę dojebali, nie? Emotek nie widzisz, bo nie masz wtyczki. No nie wiem właśnie. Nie wiem o co chodzi z tą wtyczką. Dobra. Monster, super. Ale już proszę mi więcej nie wrzucać. 124. No gdzie jest stream? Dobra, jest. Leci film. Dobra, dajemy na pełny ekran. I leci fabułka.
Captain Oren? Captain? It's here. Rain! Send the signal!
What the fuck?
Rain!
What the fuck?
On my back will be blade up!
Come on. I'm ready. I'm ready. It's a man.
No, it's not.
Kojarzycie fabułkę?
Run!
Dobra. Wali fabułkę. Hype babaś. I kolejnego mamy followersika. No ja tego korydu nie widzę. Ogór.
Captain! Captain!
Dokładnie. dawajcie tam lajki, wszystko. Ale czekaj, bo nie wiem, czy mi potwierdziliście. Macie dropy u mnie na Twitchu? Normalnie wam lecą? Już są odpalone? Kogo tu mamy znowu? Nęka, dzięki za follow, Marzak. Witamy. Chyba za duże to powiadomienie zrobi. Tak jest. No i zajebiście, że są dropy.
What is it?
A czy ja mam dropy włączone? Nie działa nam twój stream na TV, na Twitchu niestety, a wszystkie inne działają. O, ciekawe, dlaczego nie działa.
Your kind no longer control this world. We cannot destroy your body, it's true. But you will...
Ale reszta co? Aha, bo ty Ksu oglądasz na TV-ku? Ktoś jeszcze ogląda na TV-ku? Chyba ten... Bazil chyba na TV-ku miał odpalonego. Weź tam Bazil zaczął, u ciebie działa. Czy to tylko Ksu takie ten?
I'll make sure you can...
Taka afera. No, ale klimacik dobry, nie? Już przeszła na kompa. Aha, no i dobra. No. Rozpierdolcie nas.
Hi,
Hi.
Jonathan Rogers, Game Director on PathofExile2. Now, PathofExile2 is going into early access in around 2 weeks on December the 6th.
YouTube
Even though
działa.
it's early
No
access,
dobra.
this isn't just some small taste. The game is huge. In this live stream, we're going to be introducing everything you can expect. So without further ado, let's roll the gameplay trailer.
Let's roll the gameplay. Gameplay trailer lecimy nowy.
Thing of beauty, precious, but impermanent. Life and death are mortal enemies, and yet bound to one another. The continuation of life must be protected at all costs. Some have said my methods are brutal. To this, I say, there can be no salvation without sacrifice.
O, to mi się podoba. Dobrze idą. Daj głośniej. Okej, już. Proszę bardzo. Dobrze jest. Jest klimacik. To mi się w ogóle z Link kojarzy ta babeczka. Kim będziecie grali? Amerkiem.
We are faced with the end,
Są mi mapki.
and I will do what I must.
Nie, mi nic nie zacina. A, działa to już na TV. No dobra, dzięki Bazil. Czyli coś u was musiało być chyba nie do końca. Dobra, dawajcie konkrety, bo tutaj już wiadomo co się dzieje.
Those who obsess with death, let them soon be acquainted with it.
Now, as you just saw, even in early access, PathofExile2 is a big game.
Big game,
It's actually
big
been
dick.
5 years since we announced PoE2, and over that time we've revealed a lot, but it's been in bits and pieces. It's pretty hard to keep track of it all, so today we're going to do a full rundown of all the content that will be available at the start of early access. Classes, character progression systems, and for the first time, a full overview of the end game. This is going to be a big one, so get comfortable. For 20 years, Rayclast has been free from any sources of corruption. but the Count of Ogham, tempted by promises of power, intends to harness it once more. The dead are rising, monsters are mutating, and madness is spreading. Under the dark influence of corruption, the Count doles out sentences of death to any who would question him. And this is where you find yourself at the start of PoE2. Explore the dark forests of Ogham. Traverse
No, ktoś napisał, że przycięło i teraz przycięło.
the barren plains of the Vesteri Desert. And delve into the
proszę
jungle
nie
ruins of
przecinać teraz.
Utsal, an
Bo Jezu,
ancient Val
kapitulowy.
city.
Co jest do chuja? Diablo, kurwa, rzuciło na nas urok.
There are challenging monsters, hidden runes, lost
No ej. Video is buffering?
source
No
of all
latency.
this devastation. On the way, you'll face fearsome monsters, meet strange characters, forge unlikely bonds, lost camps and treasures,
Disable low
roaming
latency
merchants,
mode.
and of course, unique bosses. No two areas are the same.
Dobra. Zróbmy tak jak...
You'll need to pick a class.
wyłączyłem.
Now, early access will initially have 6 classes available. Let's have a look at them. The Monk is a fast and furious melee
Kurwa,
fighter.
Diablo było git
He
na
dashes in
Twitchu.
and out of combat and has mechanics that involve building up and keeping
Leci jakaś,
momentum.
kurwa, jakiś fail leci.
Like all classes in PoE2, you'll want to use a wide variety of skills to mix and match
I to nie u mnie, bo widzę tutaj na OBS-ie, że 0,5% dropped frames, czyli nic. U nich.
different combos.
Okej.
To get new skills, you will first need to find skill gems. Using a
Ja
skill gem
rozumiem.
will open the gem cutting menu, which shows all the active skills available.
Dajmy niższą tą. Technical difficulties, dobra. Czyli u nich. Kurwa, gdy dzisiaj straszą w ogóle. Dobra, wracamy na auto. Ale fail, kurwa, za dużo ludzi ogląda, ty. Technical difficulties. Ja pierdolę. A ile jest ludzi na streamie? 133 000. Tyle ludzi subskrybuje, ty z Prime'em. Ile kurwa tych dostałem subów, ty? 172 już. Ja pierdolę, faktycznie. O panie, kurwa, wszystko jebnie zaraz, nie? Ale hit. Słuchaj, no i masz taki na przykład campfire w Diablo. Jakby się teraz poczuł? Oni na bank to teraz oglądają, nie? Na bank mają gdzieś obok odpalony monitor i to po prostu się dzieje. O fuck. Twitch jedno, czaisz? Ale hicior. A jak to jest na tym, na głównym Twitchu? Aż zobaczę, to jest na głównej stronie Twitcha. Na pierwszym tym.
Something that I truly believe in.
Dobra, ty tam bądź cicho, nie chcę cię mówić. Kishop ogląda, od razu mi pokazał, Nadine ogląda. Ale ja chcę, czekaj, ja chcę przeglądać, browse. No, PathofExile jest na drugim miejscu po Just Chatting. 400 000. Stalker wczoraj miał chyba coś koło 200 chyba. Jak na LG odpalić streama? Na LG, na WebOS-a masz normalnie apkę. W ich sklepie. Natywną apkę jest na Twitch. No i nie chcę rozpocząć streama. No to ciekawe, czemu nie chcę. O, wrzucili z powrotem. Ty od początku leci. Nie.
Power
Ale dalej
tends to
coś
harness.
coś dalej, coś nie
There are
halo jest.
21 active skills for quarterstaves.
O, mam
So this
zaupdate'owane
distracts
butelki,
the
widzicie? Dwie
service
tylko
of
są.
options that you have.
Kurwa, nie widzicie, bo ja
By
jestem na
in-game, you'll
kamerze.
be dashing from pack to pack,
Czekajcie, ja się
pursuing
tutaj
where you find yourself
przeniosę.
at the start of PoE2. Explore the dark forests of Ogham.
Żebyście
Traverse the
widzieli.
barren plains of the Vesteri Desert.
A, już
And delve into the
znikło.
jungle ruins of
Następnym
Utsal,
razem
an
będę
ancient Val city.
ogarniał.
There are challenging monsters, hidden runes, lost camps and
Tam się
treasures,
trochę zmniejszę.
roaming
Tam
merchants,
się troszkę
and of
wyżej.
course unique bosses. No two areas are the same. It falls to you to track down the seed of corruption, the source of all this devastation. On the way, you'll face fearsome monsters, meet strange characters, forge unlikely bonds, and uncover lost civilizations.
Kurwa, dobrze to wygląda. No,
But
jest
first, you'll need
klimacik.
to pick a class. Now, early
Yes,
access will
klimacik.
initially have 6 classes available. Let's have a look at them. The Monk is a fast and furious melee fighter. He dashes in and out of combat and has mechanics that involve building up and keeping momentum. Like all classes in PoE2, you'll want to use a wide variety of skills to mix and match different combos.
O, teraz widzicie. 2 flaszki zaktualizowane.
To get new skills, you will first need to find skill gems. Using a skill gem will open the gem cutting menu, which shows all the active skills available in PoE2. You can choose an existing skill to level up, or choose to engrave a new one. Since this is a level 7 skill gem, even if you pick a new skill, it will immediately be level 7, so there's no harm in trying out something new.
Czyli tu jakby skill gem jest osobno, w którym skill gemie wybieramy te skille, jakie mają być, jak to
There
działa?
are 3 schools of martial arts: lightning, ice,
Fire.
wind.
O, wind.
But don't think you have to stick to just one. The best combos are going to involve mixing elements of all 3. Let's try killing Palm. Like many monk skills, this can be used to quickly take advantage of a specific situation.
Aha, gemami sobie
If
wybierasz
there's an
aktywne
enemy on low
skille.
life,
A skille jak
use
się
killing
odblokowują?
Palm to dash to them and kill them instantly. This will provide a power charge. Then we could use a different skill to consume that power charge for a much more devastating attack. The monk also has powerful combo skills. Tempest Bell, for example, is a skill that places a giant resonating bell. Hitting the bell causes it to ring, dealing damage to all enemies around it. You can also do things like freeze or shock the bell, which will add elemental damage to the strikes. The monk also has a variety of abilities to empower his staff. If an enemy is close to being stunned, you can use Staggering Palm to punch them down. After that, any attack you do will shoot out wind projectiles. There are 21 active skills for quarterstaves, so this just scratches the surface of the options that you have.
21 skilli
By
tylko dla
endgame, you'll
quarter
be
staffa,
dashing
nie?
from pack to pack, spewing projectiles and obliterating screens of enemies with huge combo attacks.
I'm sold.
Now, if you like a style
Ale
of
będę
melee that's a little
napierdalał po
slower,
pole.
but
O
hits
Jezu.
much harder, then the warrior is for you. He pounds the ground with big, chunky attacks and can shrug off the hits of small enemies with large amounts of armor. Even though the
dzwonki
mace slams
Zynka,
are slow,
dokładnie.
you never lose control. Longer attacks can be retargeted as you go, and if you find yourself committed to a long attack,
Dokładnie,
you
jedna
can
broń, a
dodge
broń
roll
jest
out of it
odchuja
at
tutaj
any
przecież.
time. Among the skill option for maces, you will find a variety of slams, fire attacks, war cries, and shield skills.
No właśnie.
Here, I'm going to slam the ground, rending it apart with lines of fire. Any slam skill will then cause these fissures to erupt with lava. I can even run through them with a skill like Stampede to do huge amounts of damage. The warrior can also use war cries, which can empower your next skill. Seismic Cry, for example, will double any slams from your next attack. The Stampede counts as a slam, so I can double that for even more craziness.
No, będzie.
If you want to go a little faster and be a little more defensive, equip a shield. In PoE2, you can raise your shield at any time to block all damage from the front, even spells.
Czaisz?
While holding up
Aktywny,
your shield,
aktywna
your stun
tarcza.
meter will build as you take damage, so be careful. If it reaches 100%, your stance will break and you will be vulnerable.
Vulnerable. O.
Some enemies also have unblockable attacks, which are indicated by this red flash. If you see one of these
Zobacz,
coming,
znowu Dark
make sure
Soulsy,
to
nie?
dodge out of the way. Using a shield also gives you access to shield skills, like Shield Charge, which allows you to charge towards enemies and stun them.
Fajnie, że tarcza ma
While
aktywną
charging,
taką
you're
tą
also
wartość, że
blocking
wtedy
the
ma
whole
taki
time, so
sens
you have full damage
aktywny.
immunity from the front.
Zajebiste jest to, kurwa.
The warrior also
Ale
has
to będzie
access to
giereczka.
totems.
Ja pierdolę.
Some totems have built-in abilities, like Shockwave Totem, which can be placed to stun nearby enemies
Tak,
and
są
trigger
tylko 2
aftershocks
potki
like
teraz,
those
no,
from
ale
the earthquake.
mają pasywne takie swoje
You can
te.
also get Ancestral Warrior Totems, which allow you to use any slam skill in your repertoire. This is a meta skill, which means that it's a skill you can put other skills into. I can take a slam like Sunder and socket it into my Ancestral Warrior Totem. Now when I summon him, he'll sit there and slam the monsters from a distance.
Kurwa, zajebiście to będzie działać. W końcu ta
There are
zmiana
20
z
active
gemów
skills
to
for
było
maces,
takie dla mnie
so
game
there's a
changer,
lot
chyba
more to try
największy
out.
jest, nie?
But by
Że nie
endgame,
są
you're going to be
przypisane do
dropping
broni.
hammers from the sky, leaping fearlessly into combat, and separating the very earth you stand on. Time for
Zajebiście to
the ranged
wygląda.
attacks. The ranger is primarily about the bow, but we wanted to make sure that she feels agile as well. In PoE2, you can shoot while moving. Combined with all the skills the ranger has that allow you to jump around, you will have a lot of mobility in combat.
No, zajebiście.
Both skills
poruszaj,
have a
strzelaj.
variety of lightning, poison, ice, and physical attacks. Lightning attacks bounce around between targets. You can also stick lightning arrows in the ground which explode when hit by the bouncers, or electrocute enemies to take them out of combat. Ice attacks allow you to slow and freeze enemies to keep them away from you.
Konkretną broń, żeby skilli. No właśnie widziałem.
Using poison, not only can you slowly damage your enemies from
Ale mimo
afar,
wszystko, nie?
but also grow some
Tak będzie dużo
interesting
lepiej.
plants. With 21 bow skills and all the mobility and combo tools the ranger has, you can take advantage of every situation. By endgame, you'll be creating hundreds of arrows, be they falling from the sky, bouncing around between enemies, or spraying out of
O
tornadoes.
kurwa, ale to wygląda
You
zajebiście.
might have noticed in the bottom left of the screen that the flask slots look a little different. In PoE 2, you have one dedicated life flask slot and one mana flask slot. Flasks gain charges as you kill enemies, and typically allow you to heal 6 or 7 times if they're full. But that's not the only thing you can use charges for. Charms are a new item type that will automatically defend you from various debuffs or damage types. Having trouble with getting frozen? Equip a thawing charm. When it's fully charged, it will make you immune to freeze for 3 seconds if you get frozen. To recharge them, just kill more monsters. You can gain more slots for charms by upgrading your belt.
Oj, belt, więcej czarmów. Kurwa, zajebisty
The
system.
mercenary wields a crossbow that can be loaded with different ammo types, offering versatility, power,
O,
and
jest moja
mobility.
klasa.
All classes in PathofExile2 can be controlled with
Kurwa,
WASD,
no
which makes
zajebiście to
this
wygląda.
class play
Ja
exactly like a
pierdolę.
shooter. For the crossbow, you will find skills that work like shotguns, sniper rifles, assault rifles, and even grenade launchers.
Kurwa,
But not
assault
only
rifles,
that, there are
ale
a
to
wide
ale to
variety of more
napierdolę.
interesting elemental arrows
Zajebisty
too.
gameplay. Mój gameplay.
It's very
FPS do
fast to
RPG,
switch between
dokładnie.
ammo types, as long
Nie
as
wiem, czy
you already
graliście w
have the look,
Greenland.
which
Bo
makes
to
the
była taka właśnie
mercenary able to
strzelanka
combo
taka, tego
abilities
typu, że
together
chodzisz
for
w sadem,
devastating effect.
nie przerywa ci ataku i upgrade'ujesz postać. Taki rogal
Use
trochę.
Glacial Bolt to create walls of ice to separate enemies,
Kurwa, to
then
jest moja
switch to
klasa.
fragmentation rounds to explode the ice, dealing massive AoE damage.
Z shotguna.
If I come
Zajebiste.
across an armored enemy,
Kurwa.
I could use armor-piercing rounds to break their armor, and then high-velocity rounds to take them down. Or perhaps I could fire a gas grenade to poison enemies before detonating the cloud
O,
with
Dropson,
explosive
pamięta,
shot for
Crimson.
massive damage.
Zajebiste była giereczka.
If you want to call in some suppressing fire, you can summon artillery ballistas.
Co, artylerii
These have a
nawet jest.
minimum range, so you'll want to
Pięknie.
prepare your position carefully before moving in. There are
Wspaniale,
22
że to gra.
active skills for crossbows. By endgame, you'll be calling destruction down from the sky as you litter the battlefield with grenades and pepper your enemies with your automatic shotgun. If you're looking to take a back seat and let your minions do the work, then the witch should be your choice. She can call forth hordes of undead monsters to fight for her, while casting powerful chaos spells that
No nie no,
debilitate
Merk
your enemies.
zajebisty jest. To jest taki właśnie Crimson Land
Occult skills are some of the most
PathofExile.
varied in the game,
Będę
with
łupał jak
skeletons,
szalony.
noxious spells, specialty minions, curses, and sacrificial magic.
Kurwa, każda klasa w sumie
Before
wygląda
we talk about
zajebiście, nie?
minions,
Każdy
we'll have
będzie
to
chciał
talk about a
zagrać.
new resource in PathofExile2 called Spirit. This is a spirit gem, which allows you to pick from a range of persistent skills. All classes have a variety of these skills which can add some very interesting effects, like Arctic Armor, which does cold damage to enemies that hit you, or Raging Spirits, which summon fiery skulls each time you cast a fire spell. For the Witch, though, we'll want to be using our Spirit to create permanent minions. These minions will be revived automatically when they die, so you don't have to worry about resummoning them all the time. Here, I'm using the skill screen to allocate which minions I would like in my horde. You can see the spirit cost of each one. Skeletal warriors are cheap, but weak, useful for tanking damage and distracting enemies. But I want more heavy hitters in my army, so I'm going to unsummon some warriors and instead add skeletal arsonists. Permanent minions come with special active abilities called command skills. You can order these guys to detonate your own minions for even more damage and area of effect. If you want a bigger army, you'll need a scepter. This new weapon type is imbued with even more spirit, allowing you to summon even more friends. And if you want an even bigger army than that, you can take advantage of corpses to summon true hordes of minions. But what can a witch do while her army is at work? Well, she has a range of chaos spells to spread disease amongst your enemies, or bone skills to impale them. Or, you know, you could curse them to make them weaker so your horde can take them down. There are 25 active occult skills. By the endgame, you'll be the leader of a fearsome army of the dead, consuming everything in its path.
Cool.
The sorceress bends the elements to her will, using them to unleash devastation on her foes. This classic spellcaster weaves a flurry of elemental magic from afar. The elemental skills have everything you might expect and more. fireballs,
Zajebiste
icy
to jest, że
explosions,
chodzisz i
lightning
zawaj skilla i
storms,
sobie
you get the
uciekasz,
idea.
farmisz sobie
Each spell is unique and has many different ways to build and
mopki,
combo
one
with
biegają
others,
za
even
tobą,
between
a ty
different
lecisz i po
elements.
prostu je
For
palisz
example,
skillami, nie? No,
Flame
zajebisty
Wall
gameplay
conjures a
będzie.
burning line that not only damages enemies,
Firewall jak
but also
zajebiście
empowers all
wygląda.
projectiles that pass
Kurde.
through it. If you place a wall and fire
Co tu się
lightning
dzieje na
sparks through
ekranie?
it, they'll gain extra fire
Ja,
damage.
kurwa, czarka też jest
It's a
mega,
good
nie?
idea to take advantage of the ability to automatically swap weapons when you use certain skills. Having a special staff with bonuses to fire skills and another with bonuses to lightning skills can really power up a combo like this.
Kurwa, zajebiste
The
to jest.
sorceress can also take advantage of powerful trigger gems.
Trigger
For example,
gems.
you could grab the Cast and Ignite gem and use it with Firestorm.
Okej.
As you ignite enemies, a counter will go up in the top left corner. When it's full, a Firestorm will automatically be cast at the enemy that was ignited.
Kurwa, zajebiste.
There are
Jakie
25
dobre
active
ten.
elemental
Aż
skills.
ciary
Like
mam
in-game, you'll
normalnie,
be firing
kurwa,
projectiles
aż
left and
ciary
right
są
as you
po
rain down
prostu, nie?
elemental storms on your
No
foes.
ty. Ale będzie
Now,
upada.
those are the characters that will be available at the start of
Kurwa,
early access.
Diablo już tam
But we'll be
siedzą
adding
srają.
6 more
nie?
character classes with just as
Ja
many
macie
skills and
co?
options as these.
Dokładnie.
There's a
Ale
lot more to
kurwa,
come.
giereczkę kurwa robią. No nie mogę
There's
po
one more
prostu.
important thing to mention about skills. Even though we talk about them as belong to each
Ale
class,
rozpierdol.
in reality there are no restrictions. You can use all these skills on any class so long as you have the attributes. For
Jeszcze
example,
kurwa każdą
a
klasą,
poison ranger might
każdy
want to
skill.
try out using occult curses to increase her poison damage. Or a monk might want to trigger
Trzeba
elemental
kupić
ice walls to use with his glacial cascade combo. The possibilities for cross-class
Kurwa, lać mi
combos
się
are
chce, aż
practically
nie mogę iść.
unlimited.
Dobra,
We're
uciekam na
looking
2
forward to what kind
sekundy.
of things you guys might find. Now, PathofExile is a game known for build customization, and we haven't even scratched the surface of what is possible yet. So let's talk about support gems. PathofExile2 has a system of support gems that can be combined with your active skills to dramatically change the way they work. If you find a support gem, then right-clicking it will open up this screen. Here you will find a variety of recommended support gems for each of your skills that you can pick between. For example, this is a multiple projectiles support gem and can be used to add multiple projectiles to any skill. Normally, when you fire a grenade, it'll look like this. But if we add multiple projectiles, then you get 3 of them. Once you have the gem, you can also freely move it between any of the skills on your character. If you want to have a multi-shot sniper rifle instead, then simply move the gem over to your high-velocity round skill. Generally speaking, if it sounds like a support gem should work with a skill, then it will work. So it's a good idea to experiment. Note that you can only have one of each support gem on your character, so you'll want to think carefully about which supports can be used best with each skill for maximum damage. Now, if you want to stick to the
Ani razu o co mnie
recommendations,
było.
you should have a perfectly good time. But if you want to experiment a bit more, then uncheck that recommended button and you can see the full list of supports that will work with your skill. There are hundreds of support gems to choose from, and even we don't know the results of all the possible ways these can interact. Each skill can have up to 5 supports socketed into it, and if you're clever, you can come up with some pretty interesting ideas. Now all of this is just scratching the surface. You can make frost
scratching the
vortexes,
surface,
break people's
to
armor,
jest-
make minions explode, make skills repeat,
O co?
make enemies set each other on fire, cull enemies, or pin them to the ground.
Kurwa, wszystkie klasy zajebiste są.
Supports let you drastically change the behavior of your skills and create your own unique build, or at least follow someone's OP build guide. So, speaking of builds, let's talk about one of the most iconic PathofExile systems, the passive skill tree. Yes, it's huge. There are over 1,500 nodes on there. Now, a lot of people
150
open
nodów.
the tree and can get a little intimidated at first, but try not to be scared. There are lots of options, but at its core, it's pretty simple.
O proszę.
Each level you get 1 point to put into the tree. Each class starts at a different location, but they all share the same tree. Around your section of the tree, you'll find relevant bonuses for your character. You should be safe in the knowledge that there aren't many wrong choices here. Almost all the starting nodes will be useful for your character in some way. But if you do happen to make a choice you regret, you'll be able to respec any nodes you've taken by spending a little bit of gold.
Czyli za golda respekt, zajebiście. Fajnie, że ten gold ma
Now, the
kurwa
tree is
wartość,
generally
a właśnie
divided up
pole
into
to jest ważne,
clusters
że
which
nodów
have
jest
similar
dużo, to się
themes.
fajnie
In each cluster
wybalansuje.
you will find small nodes that give simple bonuses like increased damage.
Miodzio
but the real
masterek,
power
dokładnie.
comes from
Znowu mam
notables.
ciary, kurwa.
Notables normally have much more interesting bonuses, and they tend to care a lot more about how your build works and what skills you're using. For example, in the mercenary area of the tree, this one gives a
130 zł?
25%
Nie, no
chance for
30
crossbow
dolków.
skills
No
to not
tak, to
consume a bolt.
130 zł.
And here's one that
Racja,
gives grenades a chance to blow up a second time. This one gives a chance for
Tak, żeby
projectiles to
wszystkiego
rebound
brudnie.
off terrain, as well as giving you some pierce chance to make that more likely. Note that even though this is in the mercenary section, this would work with projectiles from all classes, so there are often reasons to go to different areas of the tree. In order to get between these clusters, you will generally have to allocate nodes in the attribute highways. Attribute nodes allow you to pick which attribute you would like to use, so it's very easy to get points for any attribute that your gear might need. You can change which attribute these nodes give you for half price at the respec vendor.
Ja pierdolę,
In
zajebiście.
addition to notables, you will also find even larger passives called keystones. Keystones have both an upside and a downside, and often require changing your entire build to design around them. A great example is Giant's Blood, which allows you to wield two...
Co jest? Network error. Hej, kurwa. Bez jaj.
...before your life pool, but you lose 50% of your mana regen.
Pierdolę.
Skills like these can be tough to build around, but if you're up for the challenge, they can be very rewarding. As we showed you earlier on the Sorceress, you can swap between weapon sets on the fly as you use certain skills.
Już naprawione jest.
One of the new features in PathofExile2's
To jest
passive
zajebiste
tree
też.
is that you can choose to have your passive tree change as you switch between weapon
Ale
sets
to będzie
to take
kurwa
advantage of
gruba
specific
rozkmina, nie?
bonuses
Żeby
on the
tak to
tree.
połączyć dobrze.
For the Sorceress, you might want to change between fire and lightning specialization. Or you could switch between one hand and a two-hand setup in order to be able to block boss attacks while following up with heavy hits from your bigger mace. Or perhaps you could have a full curse setup on your witch to debuff enemies
Za
before
dużo
switching to a
hypa
chaos
po
degen
prostu,
build for
kurwa. Za
maximum
dużo hypa
damage.
jest.
If you want to stick with just one weapon set, you can just use these specialization points as bonus points to invest however you like. But creative players will find plenty of opportunities with this system.
No.
You can get weapon specialization points throughout the campaign from optional bosses and quests.
Z optional
For
bossów.
example, if I manage to defeat the Crow
I
Bell,
to jest
I'll
spoko, a
get
nie
a
jakieś
weapon
kapliczki
specialization
wilk,
book.
kurwa. Optional bossa trzeba
There are
jednąć.
lots of other permanent boosts available from the campaign too.
O,
On the map, you can see icons that indicate the many optional encounters you can find.
zobacz.
Some of
I
them
to
have
jest fajna
permanent character
nagroda.
boosts, and others
Za
have
farmienie
powerful
bossów.
items. If you're
A tu
having
dopiero
trouble
pół
getting past
godziny
the
streama,
boss, it
dokładnie,
might
a
be a
już
good idea
jesteśmy,
to explore
kurwa,
and see what you can find.
na Mount Everest.
For
A
example,
Diablo dopiero
if you
chyba
defeat
rozgrzewa
Blackjaw
nogi
the
tam gdzieś.
Remnant, you'll gain a permanent
Na dole.
increase to fire resistance. One of the most important finds are spirit bonuses. You can find the first one here in the canopy in Act 1. Defeat the boss in this area to acquire a permanent addition of spirit. The permanent buffs you gain from spirit are very powerful, and every class will find a use for them, so make sure you hunt down these upgrades. There's
Kurwa,
one in each
zajebiście.
act. Now we haven't even talked about the most important element of character progression.
Ja mam gacie
items.
moc.
That's why we're all here, right? Items in Path of Exile can be broken down into
Kurwa,
4
ale
rarity
zajebiście te
groups:
zbroje wyglądają. Widać, że
normal,
takie 4K
magic, rare,
podciągnięte.
and unique. One of the things you're going to want to do as you play through the campaign
Nie?
is
Te
upgrade the
orby,
items you
jak
find,
ile
and you can
detali
do
mają
that
w
with
sobie.
currency items. An Orb of Transmutation will allow you to upgrade a normal item to a magic item with one mod. You
Bardzo,
can then
znaczy
apply
się
an Orb of
zastanawiasz,
Augmentation to add
kurwa.
a second mod, then use a Regal Orb to add a third mod, and upgrade it to a rare. Finally, you can use some Exalted Orbs to add more mods to your rare to a total of 6 mods.
Ty, mody się dodają tak po prostu. Okej.
One of the things we think is really important is to make these options available to use as you play. All the items that add mods are much more common than they were in Path of Exile 1,
Okej, więcej
so that you
orbów.
can use them throughout your campaign playthrough. We want you to
To
find things
spoko,
on
bo
the
to
ground
fajnie
that can be crafted into
eksperymentować,
upgrades much more
eksperymentować możesz,
frequently.
nie?
As well as making the drop rates on these items much more common, you can also get them by disenchanting unwanted gear at the magic item vendor.
Ale kurwa,
If you
jak zajebiście
disenchant magic
wyglądają
items, you
te
can build
orby,
up
nie?
to an
Fajnie,
orb of
podobają mi się te detale na
transmutation,
nich.
and by disenchanting rares, you can build up to regal orbs. Another important area of crafting items in PoE2 is sockets. Some items you find will have sockets
widzisz,
that can have
mają
Ezomite
sokety.
runes placed in them that add more mods to the item. If I
A,
insert this
mody
glacial
dają.
rune into my helmet, it will give extra cold resistance. This is a great way to solve problems that you have with your build, like resistances
Zobacz.
or damage.
Czyli można
If you find socketed
seketować jako
items
po
that you don't have
prostu
a use for,
afiksy.
you can take them to the salvage bench in town to work towards an artificer's orb. This will allow you to add sockets to your existing items.
Ty, zobacz,
Body
sokety można
armors and two-hand
dodawać.
weapons can have up to 2 sockets, while the rest of your armor and one-hand weapons can only have 1 socket.
Zajebiste.
You can also salvage items with quality to create items like armor scraps or whetstones.
No
These
to
will allow you
wiadomo.
to increase the quality of your items for an up to 20% boost.
No, quality to znamy.
If you don't want to disenchant or salvage your items, you can always sell them for gold. Gold can be used to buy items from vendors, and
Zobacz, to
we've
jest
tried to do a
zajebiste,
lot to
nie?
make sure that the
Albo
items they have for
orby,
sale are actually useful.
albo golda
Every
bierzesz.
time you level up, they get more stock, so make sure to check back often. Other vendors offer a gamble. Pay a flat amount of gold and you'll get a random item of a specific
I
type.
gambling, nie?
This could be a
Kurwa,
great way to improve your gear,
zajebiste.
if you're lucky. Gold is also used to
Stary, nie,
respec
Steam
your
klęknie,
passive
kurwa.
skills.
Jak to wyjdzie,
Take
to Steam
advantage of the
klęknie.
system
Tyle,
to
miliony
experiment with your
monet na
tree
ich
and
konto
rework
wpłynie.
it as
Miliony
required.
monet.
The other thing you might want to use gold for is the currency exchange. This allows you to exchange currency
O,
items with
zobacz,
other
wraca
players
to.
on an open
Currency
market
exchange.
in exchange for a small gold fee. Now, all items in Path of Exile are freely tradable. We never bind anything to your character, except gold.
Okej, czyli golda nie można wymienić. Settlersów, tak, a to było dobre, to
Now,
fajne to
most
jest, nie?
gear in Path of Exile 2 is randomly generated, but there's another type that isn't.
O, ale będzie.
Uniques. They are
Uniques.
especially rare, each with a handcrafted set of unusual mods which can
O, ale
dramatically
fajny
change a
ten
character's
efekt,
build.
nie? Jak go
They're not just better
zidentyfikował,
rare
zajebiste.
items. They can do much stranger things that can fundamentally change your character. Corpse Wade will make any corpses you run through explode into clouds of poison. The Sands of Silk is a body armor
Kurwa,
that
ale
changes
fajnie
your
na
dodge
tym,
roll into a blink,
na graczu
morphing you into
wygląda, nie?
sand as you teleport past your foes. And of course, some uniques
Ciekawe,
are
czy
just
będzie
pure hits of
transmogryfikacja, żeby sobie
dopamine, like Quill
ustawiać.
Rain, which just turns your bow attacks into full auto by doubling your attack speed.
Quill Rain, no dobra, to coś było
Each
podobnego.
unique is something that you can build your character around. We try to make sure that most unique items have a potential use at endgame, even if you find them
Kurwa,
early
fajnie
on.
zbrojki
And as you
wyglądają,
can see,
fajnie.
every single unique item comes with custom art to match.
Fajnie wygląda art, podoba mi się.
The last character progression system that you can do during the campaign is
W końcu
Ascension.
nie wyglądasz jak kurwa
Starting
bezdomny
in Act 2,
spod
you will
mostu,
come
nie?
across
Z
Ascension
garkiem na głowie.
trials, tests that you must complete to unlock your Ascension class. We'll explain these trials soon, but first let's take a look at what Ascending can do for your character. Each class has access to 3 Ascendancy classes, but at the start of early access, only 2 per class will be available.
Okej, dwie ascendencje.
Ascendancy classes are unique to each character class, so choose wisely. They can drastically affect how you build your character.
Kurwa, Merka nie pokazała.
As a sorceress, you could become a Stormweaver, a master of the elements.
No wiadomo.
Tempest Caller causes elemental storms to be summoned each time you do a critical hit
Skilla
with a
daje.
spell. With Strike twice, you can stack 2 copies of Shock for more damage. And going deeper into the tree, you can make all your damage types apply Shock. Make a Shock build from any skill. Alternatively, you could become a Chronomancer and command
Chronomancer,
time
podoba mi
itself.
się ta nazwa.
She
No,
literally
browaraczą
has the
otworzyć.
ability to stop time with Time Freeze.
To
Not
jest
only that,
ciekawe.
but she has many other time manipulation abilities.
Time
Using
Freeze, tego nie było
temporal
nic, nie?
rift,
Że
she can
zatrzymuje,
teleport
znaczy
back
wiadomo,
to
no
a
to
previous
trochę jak
location,
Frotnowa, nie? Ale
resetting her life
na
and
większym
mana back to
obszarze.
what it was. Or with Time Snap, she can reset all her cooldowns and cast all her spells again.
Ale będzie
On the
łupane.
warrior, you can choose between the Warbringer or the Titan. The Warbringer channels the might of his ancestors to gain tremendous power. Using Answered Call, you can summon ancestral spirits linked to each of your totems.
A, zimny kipik.
With Jade Heritage, you can encase your body in a protective layer that absorbs all damage until it breaks. Warcaller's Bellow allows you to
No,
explode the corpses
klepsydrę,
of your
nie?
enemies.
Właśnie to też fajnie, zobacz,
And with
patrzycie na
Great
to,
Wolf's Howl, you can
jak
ignore the
zajebiście
cooldowns of
wygląda,
your
te
war
pasywki
cries.
wyglądają, nie?
Let all that
Całe te
hang around.
UI, kurwa, porównaj sobie do Armory, nie?
Titan
Diablo.
class is all about hitting big. With Earthbreaker,
No
every slam
contest.
is a chance to create an aftershock. With Crushing Impacts, every hit becomes a crushing blow, which will allow you to stun your enemies with ease.
Kurwa, jaki on ma te movement, ten
With
boss,
surprising strength,
zajebisty,
you can
kurwa,
take
ta walka
advantage of
wygląda.
stunned enemies to deal 40% more damage. As a ranger, you might choose to be a Deadeye, an expert markswoman who can take down foes with style. With endless munitions, every attack gains an extra projectile.
Poe 2 to będzie peak Poe Experience.
With gathering winds,
To jest
she
kopanie
gains a small
leżącego, to
increase
jest
in
jak
movement speed
plucie na
every
niego.
attack. But be
Po
careful,
prostu, nie?
she loses them when getting hit.
Ale też rozumiem,
With
że
eagle
może...
eyes, she will never miss, allowing you to stop wasting all those
Może być
passive
za
points on
ciężko po
accuracy.
prostu dla niektórych graczy Diablo 4. Po prostu, że no Diablo jest jednak takie, że siadasz, piwko, guzik naciskam, bo lightning i
She
lecimy,
can
nie?
choose from one of several
Jest tak-
throwable concoctions,
Widać, że
allowing her
Poe
to
2
spend
będzie
her fast
bardziej
charges
taka
to throw explosive
evade,
bottles that deal
no i
various
plus
types
cała
of damage.
rozkminka oczywiście, nie?
A
Builda.
bleeding concoction will make your enemies bleed, while a fulminating
Ale fajnie,
one
że te
shock
buildy będzie można
grenades,
łatwo
allowing you
zmieniać
to
za
do
golda,
extra
pójść
damage.
tego na farmi, nie?
Contagious Contamination allows her to spread poisons between her foes, while overwhelming toxicity doubles the number of stacks they can be infected by. Running
Nie,
Assault
no dokładnie,
allows her
builda
to
z
move
neta
much more
bierzesz
quickly
i
while
robisz, nie?
firing,
Ale
while
widzę, że
Relentless
fajny
Pursuit
potencjał, żeby
makes
się
her
samemu
totally immune to
pobawić.
being
Tak,
slaughtered by
a,
enemies.
pierwszy gameplay to lecę po prostu blind,
The Witch can
blind
ascend into
rano,
the
nie?
Infernalist
Co
or
wymyślę,
the
to
Blood
będzie.
Mage. As an Infernalist, she can summon a loyal Hellhound companion. The Hellhound sets enemies on fire, as well as taking a percentage of the damage if the Infernalist gets hit. With Pyromantic Pact, you can turn your mana into Infernal Flame. As you cast more spells, the flame builds up, and if it overflows, you'll take damage. Using Bringer of Flame, you'll want to make sure you keep the flames topped up. While your Infernal Flame is above 30%, all damage from you and your minions will ignite enemies.
No i to efektów jest na ekranie, nie? A dalej widać, co się dzieje. Nie ma cyferek, nie ma niczego, a dalej widać na ekranie, co się dzieje. To też jest ważna część jakby tego, nie? No bo w Diablo jak włączysz itemki, włączysz cyferki, to chuja tam widać na ekranie.
All blood mages must pay the price and make their skills cost life as well as mana. But in exchange, every monster they kill will drop life remnants, which allow them to quickly gain back that life.
Okej. O, ten skill z tymi ładowanymi... Jakie te efekty zajebiste są.
Vitality Siphon, she can use her spells to leech life back as well.
O to nie? Jak fajnie to wygląda.
You can use Gore Spike to make your critical hits deal incredible amounts of damage.
Normalnie uczta dla
A
oczu.
monk who is in tune with the elements might become an invoker. With elemental expression, the invoker will create waves of elemental power each time he does a critical strike. With faith as a choice, you gain the ability to meditate, allowing you to double your energy shield. Choose between I am the blizzard or I am the thunder to specialize in cold or lightning. And I Shall Rage will allow you to turn into an unbound avatar. Each time you apply a status ailment to an enemy,
co klasa,
you
nowe
gain
skille,
unbound
nowe te,
fury.
nie? Nie możecie tak nie możecie zadążyć, po prostu tyle tego jest, że to w takim po prostu karabinu maszynowego,
Some
nie?
monks choose to reach into the darkness instead. The Acolyte of Chillout can exchange their mastery of spirit for darkness, a resource that can be utilized to both absorb and deal damage. The Shroud of Darkness will protect you from all damage incoming, but if you take Grasp of the Void, you will deal extra chaos damage from all the darkness you have. Their Dark Pact offers greatly increased resistances to chaos damage and can allow their mana leech to not only happen instantly, but apply to their energy shield as well.
Takie fajne notki.
Another node you can take is Waking Dream, which allows you to see into the domain of the Breach Demons. There you will see the flames of Chillout that can be taken to gain life, mana, and damage. The Mercenary has a job to do, but which job suits you? You might choose to become a Witch Hunter. Obsessive Rituals will give you a sorcery ward, allowing you to defend yourself against elemental hits in exchange for less defense against attacks. With Zealous Inquisition, your enemies have a 10% chance to explode on death.
No
Chances
co ty?
doubled against demons and undead.
Kurwa, się explodą
With
death
Judge,
jestem.
Jury, and Executioner, your initial hit against enemies can deal up to 30% of their life and damage, if you're lucky. This is
O,
great for hunting powerful bosses.
no, na bossy dobry
And
mech.
with Witchbane,
Z tym
you can break
30%.
your enemy's concentration,
Mówię, podobne
preventing
do
them from
tego,
casting
z Diablo
spells as
2 był
often as they
taki
would
skill.
usually do.
Jak on się nazywał, że też
You
procentowo
also choose to
ściągał i
become a
też się
Gem
brało na
Legionnaire,
Ubery, nie?
enhancing your abilities by embedding gems directly in your flesh. Integrated
Sorry.
Efficiency will give you extra skill slots. Thermatological Infusion gives you extra maximum resistances as you sock up more and more support gems. Adaptive Capability allows you to use any color of gem without worrying about attributes. While
No co ty
Crystalline
pierdolisz,
Potential
takie ma
adds extra
pasywki?
quality bonuses to every gem
3
socketed into your
dodatkowe,
character.
nie, ja.
So those are the Ascendancy classes for the start of early access.
Kurwa, merk
One thing
wydaje
we
się
haven't
OP.
talked about yet is how you ascend in the first place. Ascension in PathofExile2 requires completion of one of the Great Trials, which you'll find as you progress through the campaign. Each one is associated with one of the major cultures of Rayclass.
Static Field, o dzięki Bazyl, Static Field.
Located in
dokładnie.
the Vasteri Plains are the Maraketh, a
Wyciągnąłeś mi
culture
śrubę z
of
głowy.
rich tales and brutal traditions, who must do whatever it takes to survive in the desert. The highest position in Maraketh culture is a Sekima, and it is not a title given freely. All aspirants must complete the Trial of the Sekimas, a grueling gauntlet that will test their strength, will, cunning, and patience. To enter, a warrior of the Maraketh must prove their worth by trapping the soul of a djinn in a coin, and you are no different. Once you have earned your coin, it may be placed in the relic altar to begin the trial.
Co to było takie potężne? Relic Locker, okej.
In the Trial of the Sekimas, each room has its own challenges to overcome. In this room, each rare monster you kill will send its blood to the chalice in the center of the room. Once the chalice
Kurwa
is filled,
mechanika, żeby w
you will
ogóle
be
sobie
able to
klasę sobie
proceed.
zrobić.
While fighting monsters in the trial, you will need to be very careful. Each hit will not only hurt you, but will damage your honor. The monsters are well telegraphed, so that you can avoid their attacks, but if you run out of honor, you will fail the trial and need to find another coin in order to try again.
O
It is a good
kurwa.
idea to make sure that you are well prepared before challenging the trial of the Secondus.
Czajcie? Prawdziwy trial będzie.
After each room,
Patrzcie
you
na
will be
info na
rewarded.
Discordzie, na
In this case, you have been
PathofExile2.
given a
A co
key
tam
that can be
rzuciłeś?
used to unlock chests later in the trial. Once you have claimed your reward, you will be shown a map of the rest of the floor and may choose how you wish to proceed. Which challenges would you like to face, and which rewards do you want to claim? Some rooms are more dangerous, afflicting you with debuffs that will persist for the entire trial. For example, entering this room will afflict you with Spiked Shell that will cause all monsters in the rest of the trial to
Zakupy.
have 50% increased
PathofExile2
life.
w sprzedaży.
You will
137
want to take
zł. No
care
i
if you
dobra.
choose such a path. There are many
Zajebiście.
different challenges and rewards as you journey through the trial. Deadly traps, waves of monsters, and strange artifacts will test your honor. As you progress, you'll be able to gain boons from the Jinn, which will help you on your journey. For example, the Sekima's cloak will revive you once if you die,
Kurwa,
giving you a
boon,
second shot
ja
at a run.
pierdolę.
One of the rewards you may find is Sacred Water, an extremely valuable and treasured resource to the Jinn and the Maraketh.
Kurwa,
Trading
zrobić
it
to
with
ma
the Jinn
tendencję
will
też,
allow
że
you to
będzie tak
receive
hopsiu.
many benefits. You can recover honor, gain additional boons, or remove afflictions.
Kurwa, merchant jest cały tym
At
związany.
the end
Ja
of the floor, you'll find
pierdolę.
a powerful boss which will truly test your limitations. In
Jakie
order to
kurwa.
ascend, you will need to defeat him.
No ale jak zrobicie to ma tendencję, to kurwa, jaki power creep fajny, nie? Zrobię filmik z
Having
podsumowaniem
defeated the boss,
na
you've earned the
kanale.
right to ascend. But first, the loot.
No,
The
loot.
keys you have found may be used to open the various treasures in the vault at the end of the floor. We only have a single bronze key, so we'll just have to open one of these small chests. If you want to open the better
Oh,
ones,
well,
you'll need
that
silver
much.
or gold keys. Let's use the Altar of Ascendancy. Your first ascension will allow you to pick your class and grant you 2 points to use in the tree.
No.
Now there are more floors and many more rewards that can be found within the Trial of the Sekimas, but we'll save that for the section on the endgame. For now, let's talk about the second Ascendancy trial, the Trial of Chaos. In PathofExile2, you can choose whichever trial you like to earn your ascension. Each culture on Rayclass had their own methods to ascend. If the Trial of the Sekimas is not your kind of playstyle, or you're finding it too difficult, you could try another. You can gain all your ascension points from just one, or mix and match them. It's up to you. For
Okay.
early access, we will have 2 trials as options, with a 3rd trial coming later for the full release. While exploring the Vaal jungle, you'll discover the Temple of Chaos. Before the Vaal embraced the science of corruption, their civilization worshipped chaos. This ancient trial was once used by the Vaal to test their high priests. A high priest of the Vaal must show willingness to risk
Kurwa,
everything to gain
kurwa,
power.
z Diablo usunąć za
Entry to the trial
ale to
requires a
było.
token from a strange entity known only as the Trial Master. For those in which he sees potential, he shall inscribe an ultimatum. Many have attempted these trials in search of greatness. Most have perished. Will you be able to defy the odds? Before you begin each chamber, the Trial Master will offer you a reward and a choice. Choose one of 3 tribulations to affect you through the rest of the trial. These modifiers might beef up the monsters, curse the player, or add environmental hazards like turrets or trap runes. In this case, we'll be picking shocking turrets. As you enter the room, the Trial Master will fill it with hazards to test your commitment. In this case, you must destroy all the monsters that fill the room, while dealing with the lightning projectiles from the shocking turrets.
Kurwa, ten merk jest zajebisty. Pyk, pyk. Już się rozkręca. No, Ultimate, ja nie grałem w Ultimate tam w ogóle.
After each room, you will need to make a choice. Take the rewards you have earned so far, or go double or nothing. Increase your rewards, but take on more risk. Each tribulation you add is minor on its own, but they quickly stack on top of each other and can become overwhelming.
Pała, ty.
There are many types of chambers in the trial. Each will test your resolve in different ways. This one simply requires you survive for a certain amount of time.
A, to różne te. Kurwa, jaki ten.
Another requires you to
Przeciwnik
escort the stone
zajebisty,
idol to the
widzieliście to?
level as elevators full of monsters descend to attack you. Should you be
O,
able to
jaki
get through
boś,
the first
o,
3
jak zajebiście
chambers, you will
wygląda.
face your first boss. The order of the bosses is random, and combined with the
Scourge of the
tribulations you have selected, the
skies.
fight will never feel the same. After defeating the boss, you may claim your rewards. Of course there are the items, but you also gain the right to ascend. If you already did the Trial of the Sekimas, then you can claim 2 more points to add to your Ascendancy class.
I punkciki.
Now it's possible to go much deeper. There are more bosses, rewards, and risks to take, but we'll talk more about that when we get to
Triceratopsy, no?
endgame. So how about we talk about that now? So far we've only been showing you footage from the campaign, but some people would argue that the endgame is where the
Jaki
game truly
endgame w ogóle,
begins.
ty, tyle co kampania.
Something that happens almost every
Jedna
time a
z
new
tych-
action RPG launches is people saying, there isn't enough in-game content. Well, we want to make sure that in PoE 2, people don't feel that way. And we actually only changed our development priority for this recently.
O kurwa.
The first 3 acts of PoE 2 already take
25
around
godzin.
25 hours to
Pierwsze
complete
3
if you're a
akty.
new player. This is already a pretty significant campaign. On the other hand, people spend hundreds of hours in in-game each league. We realized that finishing the rest of the campaign
Już jesteś u
early
siebie,
access was
Ragdan?
actually a bad idea.
Tak, jestem u siebie, no.
Instead of having acts 4 to 6 in early access, we could concentrate on in-game and make that great. For new players, a 25-hour campaign is
Ja
already a
jestem u
huge
siebie,
game
przecież
with
no
lots
widać.
of content.
No mam
But for
tutaj
existing
już
action RPG players, what you
światełko
mostly
pierdolę.
care about is all the in-game challenges to overcome. So several months ago, we switched the entire development team's focus over to making in-game content.
Bo
At the start of
streamuję.
early access, there will be 50
Bo
bosses and
streamuję,
around
Ragdan.
400 monster types.
Poza tym, że Diablo
The
też nie
great
gram,
thing
więc
is
tak
that the
trochę
rest of
mi
the
to
game is
minęło,
like
nie?
80% there. We'll be adding content to roughly double the size of the game during early access and into release. Now, in order to make the endgame happen at the same character level as what it would be after we added the rest of the acts, we've added a second difficulty level called Cruel, where you repeat the campaign with all the monsters and bosses leveled up. And of course, new rewards.
Normal
You can
i
kind of think of it
cool.
as like a new game plus.
Okej.
It's also a lot faster to get through the content the second time as your clear speed increases. That will take you to around level 65, where the endgame begins. Once we add the remaining 3 acts, we'll be removing Cruel difficulty, so you'll progress straight from the end of Act 6 to endgame.
Okej.
But what is the endgame? To explain
No.
that, I'll hand over to Mark. He can tell you all about it.
Endgame, lecimy.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on PathofExile2. Well, one thing that Path of Exile is known for is having a lot of distinct in-game content to choose between. Each in-game mechanic needs to have its own progression system, areas, bosses, rewards, and player power that can only be gained
Każdy
from that
endgame
content.
mechanik.
We are going to be adding a lot more over time, but for Path of Exile 2, we decided to start with 7 distinct systems you can progress through.
7 endgame'owych.
This
O kurwa,
is
co
the
to jest?
Atlas, and it serves as the core of the endgame for Path of Exile 2.
Pierdolę.
It's infinite and expands in all
Infinite.
directions. Now, we are not going to spoil the plot too much here,
Ja
but
pierdolę, co
corruption
się
from the
dzieje?
beast has blighted the land, and your objective is to help fight it. In the center of the Atlas, you will find the Ziggurat, a temple in which the Val research the fundamentals
Kurwa,
of
gra-
space and
nagle
time.
gra
Here,
się
we
z
can
tego
open
robi ta
portals to nearby
tabletop.
locations and begin cleansing corruption and finding resources. In order to power the portal device, we will need waystones. Each waystone has a tier which will determine the level of the monsters that you will face. To go to an area, simply click one that is adjacent to an area that you have already completed. Insert the waystone and click Traverse. Portals will open, allowing you and your party to travel to the area you have selected. All the areas in the endgame feel distinct from the locations in the campaign, and we
Oh.
have dialed the randomization up to 11. The monster packs you will face in each map are totally random, and the combination of them can lead to some very interesting combat situations. There are over 400 monster types in early access, and they have a lot of
400
varied and
monster
interesting
typów.
abilities.
Early
Depending on
access.
which combinations you face, you might find some serious challenges. In order to cleanse the corruption from the area, you will need to defeat all the powerful rare and unique enemies in it. Once you have done that, the area will be marked as completed and you will be able to travel
Ty, a
past
czemu,
it to progress
co za
deeper
postać
into
jest?
the
On się
world.
zmienił jakoś?
If you die, then the map can no longer be run, and you will have to find another way around to get to the areas behind it. There are also all kinds of
Okay.
other random encounters you might run into as you play maps.
Nie
One
map,
such encounter are
distinctive
precursor
enemies.
artifacts. These are ancient, corrupting monuments that irradiate the monsters around them. The monsters that feed off the corruption are drawn to their power. If you defeat the monsters and cleanse the artifact, you will get a powerful temporary buff. Some of the buffs make you
rodzajów
faster,
przeciwników.
others rain lightning or fire around you, and some even give you increased experience or help you find better items. You can also find strong boxes. These enigmatic chests guard piles of treasure, but are always a trap. Monsters lie in wait to attack you the moment you open it, and the
Dobra,
boxes
strong
often have
boxy, czyli to
mechanisms to
też
unleash powerful
przechodzi,
spells
było.
or dangerous debuffs. There are different types of strong boxes containing different items, and you can even use your currency items to craft them on the fly, so you can optimize the content. But be careful of opening one you can't handle.
I ball lightning.
Sometimes you'll discover monsters frozen in essences, solidified crystalline corruption. These dangerous monsters can be broken free. If you defeat them,
To
the
też
essence
było.
they drop can be used to upgrade normal items to magic items with a guaranteed mod from a category.
No, to było, to już znamy.
For example, we could use this one on some boots to ensure a movement speed mod. Rarely, essences will also drop that allow you to upgrade magics to rares, adding the guaranteed mod. This is incredibly powerful, since it allows you to get a second deterministic mod in your crafting projects. Combining
zobacz,
these with the
cyk.
currencies that are commonly found in Rayclast for modifying items, and we
zrobiłeś
can get a
sobie
very
itemek.
nice pair of boots indeed.
Kompa i grafem. Ciekawe, jakie wymagania będzie miało w ogóle. Są gdzieś podane?
Waystones, like all items, can also be crafted using your currency items. Adding prefix mods will improve the rewards, while suffix mods increase danger. The more dangerous a map is, the more waystones will drop. Adding mods to your waystones is key to progressing to higher tiers and sustaining them, but it will require you to take on larger challenges. There are a variety of factors you'll have to consider when crafting your waystones. Some maps will have higher density, some lower, some have more magic and rare chests, or monsters, some are more linear, and others more open. Make sure you explore and think about what makes certain maps good if you want to maximize your returns. As you cleanse corruption from higher and higher tiers of the Atlas, you will gain points that you can spend in the Atlas tree. This tree allows you to
I
juice the
drzewko
danger
Atlasu.
and rewards of all areas in the endgame. You could increase the number of monsters, the number of rares, the number of precursor artifacts or strongboxes,
Czyli
even the
mapki
quantity of
przerobili na
item
ten.
drops.
O Jezu,
As
ale
you
żeście
explore the
zajebali.
in-game world map, you'll notice various different biomes, from snow-capped mountains to dense jungle valleys. Most maps are restricted to certain biomes. As you continue to explore deeper into the Atlas, there are all sorts of things to discover. These cities are constructed by different peoples of Rayclast, and have specific items that can be found there. These strange structures marked on the map don't appear to do anything for now. Perhaps you'll work out how to use them later. You might find unique maps like Untainted Paradise, an undisturbed island full of beasts that give an
Zajebiste to
extreme
jest.
amount of experience. You may even find a lonely man just enjoying his
Każdy
retirement
pójdzie-
who will give you a
ja.
unique item for free. In addition, you can find special areas that would
Co
make
to
a
mam za
good spot to set up
konfigurację?
camp. Clear these areas of their hostile inhabitants,
Jezu,
and you'll be
RTX
able to claim them as your own
2060.
hideout. You can decorate your hideout as you see fit, and invite various NPCs
O,
to join you
leci na
there
ultra.
to create your own personal base of
Ja już tam
operations.
się będzie nudził.
A great tool for exploration are towers. These mysterious precursor constructs are dotted around the Atlas. Completing the tower will reveal a large area
Kurwa, ale
around it,
animacja
allowing you
dobra.
to scout out your next challenge. There are
O,
lots
takie
of
te jak
things
z
to find,
Heroesów, nie?
so
To
keep
odkrycie
looking.
mapki.
Some sections of your Atlas
Zajebiste.
are influenced by corruption. This adds extra modifiers to the maps in the region, increasing difficulty and rewards. Here, slaying monsters in close proximity to each other will cause the vestiges of corruption within them to merge together, forming powerful and grotesque abominations. You may have noticed while looking at the Atlas that some of the areas have these icons above them. The icon indicates that the area contains some kind of special encounter. This icon indicates that the area has a powerful boss. Because only 1 in 4
Kurwa,
maps
jak gra
contain a map
planszowa, nie?
boss, we are able to make them very powerful
Fajny
and very
vibe taki
rewarding.
fajny.
These
Wywali
bosses come
serwery,
from the
kurwa,
campaign, but have
wywali.
had their difficulty increased with changes to AI and some of their abilities. It's worth noting that because you can see where the bosses are, you can choose to take them on or
Ale zobaczcie, jak to się
avoid
fajnie
them.
ogląda.
If you
Ciągle
do
jestem
choose to hunt
nahypowany,
bosses,
ciągle jest
though,
ten,
then you
nie?
will be rewarded
Nagrali
with
to
special
przed
points for the boss
i
hunting
lecą
section of
po
the Atlas
prostu
skill
z
tree. The
tematem,
points
nie?
here will allow you to specialize in boss killing, giving you
Bez
much
oglądania
greater
trzech
rewards
kolesi,
for
którzy mówią
defeating
ci,
them.
że skill zadaje 5% więcej obrażeń.
For each different type of content in the endgame, we are adding specialized trees in order to make it so you don't feel the need to respec your points when you change between
No,
different
piękny
types of
Atlas,
content.
kurwa.
We will be showing you 7 of these by the
Cała
end of
gra
this
jest po
presentation,
prostu
so there is still a lot more to come. Bosses are not the
fantastycznie
only
zrobiona
icon you will see on the
audiowizulnie.
Atlas. Let's take a look at one of the in-game systems, Breach. If you played
Breach.
PoE 1, you might be familiar with Breach. For PoE 2, we have created sequels to several PoE 1 leagues. While the mechanic is familiar, the monsters, bosses, rewards, and progression are all new. A breach is a tear in the fabric of reality. Opening it will allow you to see the demons and otherworldly monstrosities that lie in wait on this other plane of existence. By engaging with a breach, you'll create a bridge between their world and Rayclast. In order to keep the breach open, you will need to kill the demons that pour forth. The faster you can kill the monsters, the more monsters you will fight, and the more loot you will find. You can also find clasped hands that will open and drop more items if you run over them. These can be a good boost to the rewards of the breach, so keep an eye out. One of the rewards that you may find while fighting monsters from Breach are tablets. Tablets are special items that can be used with precursor towers to add more encounters to the Atlas. Breaches will drop breach tablets. Clicking on a
znowu
completed
ty,
tower will
przenikanie
allow you
mechanik.
to consume the tablet to add more breaches to areas within range of the tower. This makes all the content
zajebiście.
in the Atlas self-sustaining. Want to do more breaches? Find the tablets, add them to your towers, get more breaches, getting more tablets. Soon your Atlas will be covered in otherworldly domains.
Ja
In
pierdolę.
addition, like all items in PoE, you can craft them. Use your currency to
Kurwa,
add
jeszcze
mods to your
oczywiście
tablets,
craftić
allowing
można.
you to upgrade all the breaches in range. Tablets can have up to 2 mods. These mods do things like adding extra rare monsters, extra clasped hands, or even monster density of breaches, allowing you to keep them open longer. Often you will find multiple towers near to each other with overlapping areas of effect. This
Ty,
can
super
allow you to
overlapują
really
się.
juice the mechanic by stacking the mods from multiple
Stakują
tablets.
się, ja pierdolę.
In your fight to hold the breach demons at bay, you may want to use the powers of their
Kurwa,
world against them.
możliwości
Each
normalnie
in-game
nie wiem.
mechanic always has
Już
player power
widzicie,
that
już
can
mi
only
łeb
be
mi
gained
paruje,
from that
nie?
mechanic, and breach is no different.
Ale w takim
In breach,
pozytywnym
you will
sensie.
find catalysts, items that can
następne.
increase the quality of rings and amulets by improving specific mobs. You can
Aha.
also find breach rings, a special base type that can have its quality improved by catalysts up to 50%.
Do
In this case, you could create a
50%.
ring with around 170
Ja
life.
pierdolę.
Breach rings can become some of the
Ja dzisiaj
strongest rings in
ogoliłem
the
w tym
game,
miejscu.
giving you some good motivation to face the demon hordes.
No,
In
trochę to
addition,
przeraża,
each
ale
in-game
wiesz, to jest
mechanic needs to have a
endgame, nie?
pinnacle
To-
in-game encounter.
25
While killing
godzin
breach
masz na
monsters, you may
pierwsze
find
pierwsze
breach
3 akty, tak,
splinters.
tak na
Collect
spokojne
enough of
granie,
these and
więc
you'll be able to create a breach
powoli.
stone. Using a Val technology called the Realm Gate, you can use your Breachstone to access their domain and bring the fight to them. In this twisted domain, you will find nothing but a single massive breach. Triggering it will reveal hordes of breach inhabitants.
Dobra, nieskończony bridge, to. Spoko.
And should you be fast enough, you will be
Czekam
able
na
to fight
tablicę
their
z
leader,
reputacją.
Zesht.
Właśnie, nie
We
ma
that are
tablicy z
one.
reputacją. Kurwa, o, ale zajebiście ten boss kurwa wysiadł, nie? To było dobre, podoba mi się to. To jest boss. Kurwa. Co tu się dzieje?
This is just one of the pinnacle encounters of PoE 2. We won't
Pinnacle.
be showing the rest of them, so you will have to discover them for yourself.
Ciekawie, ile ich
But
jest.
rest assured, this is some of the hardest content we have ever made. All these encounters have specific uniques that can only be found from them, but that's not all. We still have the progression system. Defeating Zesht will give you points to allocate into the breach section of the Atlas tree.
Kurwa,
Allocating
jeszcze.
these points will make breaches and the breach domain even harder, but will give you more rewards. The small
Zajebiście.
nodes
Fajnie,
will
bo
increase
breache
the
są w tym
difficulty of the
atlasie.
twisted domain,
To się wszystko
while
ze
the
sobą
large
nakłada,
nodes
nie?
have
To
more
wszystko jest
specific
sens. Jakby nie ma
bonuses.
takiego
For example, this node
marnowania
adds more
czasu.
clasped hands to your breaches and adds a pack of magic monsters that can guard them. Get some more points and you can allocate Waking Nightmare, which will double the number of splinters you get from clasped hands and inflict you with a mysterious debuff. In order to earn more points, you will need to defeat Zesht at a higher difficulty, and some rewards from Zesht can only be found by increasing the difficulty of the Twisted Domain above certain thresholds.
Aha.
Defeating Zesht at difficulty 4 will be a challenge indeed, but there are many more threats in Rayclast. Ritual
Ritual,
altars are
kolejne.
sacrificial sites built by the mysterious King in the Mists. If you encounter this symbol on the atlas, then you know that the area contains ritual altars. Ritual altars demand tribute. Every monster you slaughter in the circle will feed the altar. After the sacrifice, touch it to begin the ritual. The monsters you just killed will be resurrected by the King of the Mist's dark magic, and you must fight to survive. The tribute you have offered to the altar can be spent to buy powerful items, but they can be expensive. To gain more tribute, you will want to find more altars. Each successive ritual you do within an area will spawn the monsters revived by the previous ones, in addition to the ones you sacrifice next to it. By the end of an area, you will be fighting a truly imposing number of foes, but will have a significant amount of tribute to spend. One of the rewards you can buy with tribute are omens. These are special items that allow for metacrafting. Crafting items that affect other crafting items. Have an item with good prefixes but bad suffixes? This omen will help you to remove the mod you don't want while keeping the ones you do. There are a bunch more of these with different effects, but we will leave them for you to discover. Now don't forget that Ritual will also drop tablets which can be used to specialize into getting more rituals. If you want to get to the pinnacle boss of Ritual, then you will probably want to use them. They can also be crafted to grant mods, making your rituals more rewarding. The pinnacle encounter of Ritual is the King in the Mists. Feared by the Asmeri people, he is said to have brought eternal darkness to the Wildwood. We won't show the encounter, but just like Breach, there are a range of unique items you can get for defeating him, and you will gain points in the Ritual section of the Atlas tree. Some maps have been touched by insanity. A mysterious entity has taken a special interest in you. Step through the looking glass and you will find your nightmares coming to life. When you touch a mirror, the mists of delirium will spread out across the area, infecting your mind. You must stay within the mist to maintain the nightmare, which is as profitable as it is terrifying. Everything you kill will increase the rewards that drop. However, the deeper into the mist you travel, the stronger the monsters are. Be careful not to overstay your welcome. Rare and unique enemies will become vessels for terrifying demons, who will manifest out of them to unleash powerful attacks on you. The mist also offers a strange crafting material, distilled emotions. By combining these emotions, you are able to instill your amulet with a notable from the passive skill tree. This is like gaining an extra passive point for free, attached to your gear. They are also particularly great because you don't have to traverse the tree to get them, allowing you to get off-class bonuses that would normally be much harder to get.
Ja pierdolę.
Distilled emotions can also be used to instill your in-game maps, applying Delirious to them and adding additional difficulty and rewards, allowing you to further juice your in-game maps. The tablets you can find from Deliria can be used to further improve it, increase pack size, make the fog dissipate slower, or improve your progress towards the pinnacle encounter of Delirium. Speaking of which, every now and then you will find simulacrum splinters. The mysterious entity will create strange encounters based on warped versions of your own memories. Monsters and simulacrums come in waves that get progressively more difficult. You will receive loot at the end of each wave, and you will have to make the decision to leave now or continue on, facing up against even tougher foes from the mist. The bosses you will face as you get deeper into a simulacrum are truly terrifying. If you can complete a simulacrum, you will gain points for the Delirium section of the Atlas skill tree. Next up, we have Expedition.
Kurwa, i każda ze swoim
Occasionally, while
stylem.
clearing corruption,
Ale to jest
you will
fajne
encounter
właśnie.
these Kalguran settlers. The Kalgurans have discovered
Wybierasz, co
ancient
ci
burial
pasuje i to
sites with lost
ulepszasz, nie?
Verisium artifacts, and they want you to help dig them up with explosives. The Kalgurans have marked the locations where the relics can be found. Place explosives as best you can to dig up as many as possible. There is just one problem. Corruption has brought the corpses of their ancestors to life, so you might have to do a little cleanup before you can reclaim the artifacts. You can also find remnants, the destruction of which will further anger the restless dead. Each one you blow up will make the subsequent monsters more powerful, but also more
Ja już wysiadam ogólnie, kurwa, nie?
Danig, Rog, Tujin,
ja już
and Gwynedd
wysiadam.
will exchange the artifacts for useful items and runic magic. You can also find tablets to increase the number of expeditions and the rewards.
No ale spoko,
This one
wybieramy
increases the
jedną
radius of
i sobie ją
explosives,
farmimy.
while this one increases the number of remnants you will find. Eventually, you might discover a logbook. These are special maps full of buried treasure and relics. Essentially, one giant dig site. Here you can create an extremely long chain of explosives and go through a very high number of remnants. But be careful, many remnants have mods that can really brick your build, so you will probably want to avoid these ones. If you add too many remnants, you could easily make the encounter harder than you can handle. There are all sorts of interesting things buried under the ground in logbooks. You might find dripping caves and hidden pirate caches. But the most powerful encounter is Olroth, the ancient undead commander of the Knights of the Sun. Defeating him will grant you unique rewards, as well as points to spend in the expedition section of the Atlas tree.
Czyli dobra, jak oni dają te unique rewardsy, to też pod builda będzie trzeba chyba endgame wybrać, nie? Bo czasami te unikaty są buildy fajne.
Much more content when you get to endgame too. Just like the other endgame systems, they also have progression mechanics, unique rewards, and player power that can only be gained from them. As you get higher level coins for the Trial of the Sycamores, you will unlock more floors to explore.
Dobra, to jest powrót do trialsów,
own
okej.
challenging rooms and a floor boss that you will need to kill.
Czyli każdy endgame ma swojego
There are 4
pinnacle
floors
bossa.
in total, leading to another pinnacle boss at the end of the last
Some
floor,
pinnacle
which
bossa.
can only be accessed at endgame. The Trial of the Sycamores is where you'll find jewels, which you can socket into your tree. These are like passives that you can craft with your currency items. They can be really powerful as they allow you to stack modifiers that may not be easily accessible on the tree normally. This jewel gives lightning damage and shock chance, for example. There are quite a few jewel sockets on the tree, so it's possible to gain a lot of power here. There are also other types of jewels that don't provide any bonuses themselves, but affect other passives surrounding them. This jewel increases the effect of small nodes and radius by 25%. With careful placement in the tree, you could get a significant amount of power from it. There are also unique jewels available with very interesting effects, but you will have to find those for yourself. In order to push further into the trial and uncover the secrets of the Maraketh, you will want to take advantage of its progression system, relics. Relics are items that can be placed at the relic altar as you start the trial. They give special bonuses that affect the trial, making it easier
Dobra,
and increasing
wróciliśmy
its
do trialsów
rewards.
spokojnie,
Of
tak?
course, you
Wróciliśmy.
can craft these with your currency items, making them even stronger. If you can complete the entire trial overcoming all 4 floors, the final boss will reward you with one of many unique relics. These relics will be consumed when used on your next run, but can reward you with unique and powerful items. For example, this is the Last Flame. If you use it, you will have only 1 honor for the entire trial, so you will need to do a completely hitless run.
Okej. Hitless run.
The Trial of Chaos also extends into the endgame. As you gain inscribed ultimatums of higher and higher levels, the number of chambers that you can go through increases. In
Dobra, i te
true
wszystkie
Vaal
mechaniki mamy
style,
jeszcze
this allows you to
podkręcone.
take even
Endgame.
more
Ja
risks
pierdolę.
for even more rewards. At endgame, you can progress through up to 10 chambers with
Tak,
3
Piotrek,
bosses on
mówiłem,
a
że biegnie
single
tyłem,
run.
rzuca skille.
Stacking 10
Może biegać
tribulations
i
on
rzucać
top of each
skille,
other
nie?
will make this a significant challenge, but it's worth it. The Trial Master will tempt you with items of the Vaal Empire, such as Vaal Orbs. Vaal Orbs are powerful crafting items that corrupt your gear with random, mysterious outcomes. Corruption prevents an item from being modified further, so it has to be the last step of your craft. But it's also the most impactful one. For example, if you use one on your body armor, it might add a new powerful enchantment, or it might re-roll up to half of its modifiers. Vaal Orbs also have the ability to add a socket, allowing you to bypass the normal restriction of how many sockets an item can have.
socket
A
jeden
body
wyżej
armor
można
can get up
dać.
to 3 sockets this way, allowing for a significant number of mods. Vaal Orbs can even modify uniques. Adding enchantments
Whoa.
or sockets to uniques can make them incredibly powerful, but there is
Jeszcze
a good
unikaty
chance that
można
you will break
zmieniać.
them as well. The Trial Master will also occasionally offer you soul cores. Originally formed by Chaos, the Vaal sought to replicate
Zajebiście
soul
to
cores
wygląda.
through human sacrifice rituals and blood magic to power their civilization. Soul cores are powerful socketable items, with mods that cannot be obtained from regular runes. Like all endgame content, there is of course a pinnacle boss. The final chamber will drop keys to this mysterious door. Some say this is where the Trial Master himself resides. Perhaps you are willing to take the risk to find out.
Dobra,
Had
czyli jeszcze
enough yet?
bossik.
Because there is still just one more thing. The most difficult content in PathofExile2.
Jeszcze wyżej.
While mapping, you might come across this fortress that has emerged
fuck.
from underground, surrounded by an enormous maze riddled with danger. Is the maze preventing something from getting in, or something getting out? This fortress is of ancient origin, and its construction has similarities to
No
the
to
towers
grubo.
and tablets that you have been using on your journey through the endgame. It is clear from the entrance that there are 3 keys required to enter. Local factions are vying for access to the fortress in order to seize the power they believe will be inside. Each of the faction's leaders have managed to get their hands on one of the keys, so you will need to defeat them. Each faction is led by an Uber-Act boss. You can see one of them inhabiting the city, but in order to fight him, you will first need to defeat their 2 lieutenants in the adjacent zones. Be careful. If you fail against either of the lieutenants, or to kill the leader, they will move on, and you will need to find them again. Kill all the Uber bosses and you will gain access to the fortress. We aren't going to spoil it, as we can't wait to see you guys attempt it for the first time. But is there a tree you get points in after killing it? Of course there is. This is Path of Exile. There is always another tree.
So these are your challenges for PoE 2. As you can see, this project is crazy huge. Way bigger than even we expected when we started
Zajebiście to
out.
wszystko brzmi.
How do you gain
Epicko po
access?
prostu.
Well, during
Epicko.
early access, you'll need a key to get in. To thank our existing PoE supporters who
Can't
have spent more
wait.
than $480, we'll be giving you guys a key for the PC version for free. Anyone else who wants one can get one by purchasing one of the new early access supporter packs that have just been released to the store. If you just want early access to PoE 2, then you can get a key in the $30 early access pack. The pack also comes with $30 of points to spend in the MTX store. But we also have a variety of other supporter packs filled with exclusive microtransactions, points to spend in the store,
Zaraz sobie
and even
wyjdziemy,
physical
zobaczymy co
items.
jest za ten
The
$30
cosmetics
pack.
can be used right now in PoE 1 and in PathofExile2 when early access starts.
$480.
Most of this footage has been recorded in PathofExile 1, since that's where you can use them immediately. The Lord of Ogham supporter pack contains a cosmetic armor set befitting of the Count of Ogham himself. There is also a matching back attachment, which has an alternate variant depicting the influence of corruption.
Wow. Zajebiste.
Also in this pack, you can find a portal formed of the rusted armor of the fallen soldiers
Kurwa,
in the
jaki
Red Veil
portal,
of
nie
Ogham,
no w ogóle, co
and
my
the
tutaj
offspring of a vicious
porównujemy?
crowbell boss found in the
Proszę
hunting grounds.
państwa.
This one doesn't look so vicious though.
Chuj, może
On top of that, you'll
1,60
receive the Iron Count's Y-hander to apply to your one-handed or two-handed swords. For those who are wanting to decorate your hideouts with fond memories and tales of Path of Exile's history, you will also get a series of hideout statues. This pack contains the statue of Hillock. For Path of Exile 1's closed beta, each pack contained a true New Zealand icon, the
Czyli tak, bo
Kiwi.
Hilak się przebijał i
Following this tradition, all packs in this series will also contain a new themed Kiwi pet. The pet will loyally follow you into battle, but run away at the first sign of trouble. Become the ruler of the desert with the King of the Faradin supporter pack. Show your mastery of traversing the sands of the Vasteri
O
Plains.
kurwa, pierwszego
The
bota
body armor
dostałem.
will allow you to glide along the ground with ancient sand magic. Now each armor set comes with body armor, boots, gloves, and helmet, but the boots are covered in sand. If you'd prefer to show them off, you can turn the gliding off if you want. The accompanying back attachment equips you with 2 powerful pillars that can
Pierwszego
control and
bana daj.
manipulate lightning. They will
Cyk.
periodically release their energy in a powerful blast
Zbanowany.
while in town, and hover in a circle around you, arcing lightning between them, forming a barrier of energy. Replace the appearance of any bow with the Faradin's glory skin. Or replace the appearance of a spear with the Tyranny's end spear skin. This spear skin can be applied to staves and war staves in
Kurwa,
Path of
dobrze
Exile 1.
wygląda.
If you want to truly show your worth as a king of the Faradin, then you
To miasto,
definitely
kurwa,
need your
ruchome,
trusty
nie?
moving entire city fortress known as the Dreadnought to travel across the Vasteri Plains. In Path of Exile, you can decorate your hideout however you like,
Hideout
and it's
fajnie.
no exception here.
Kurwa.
It comes with a variety of thematic elements to use, or use decorations from elsewhere in the game. Additionally, you will get the Deshret's Blessing level up effect.
Ja pierdolę.
The King of the Faradin Kiwi pet, and last but not least, a statue depicting the Vaal Oversoul from Path of Exile 1.
Kurwa, jakie te.
For those who don't know how supporter packs work, each pack comes with all of the cosmetics from the previous tier, so you'll get all the items from the Lord of Ogham supporter pack as well. The Thaumaturge of the Vaal supporter pack features an armor set
Vessel of
and back
Hatred.
attachment themed around the Vaal and their pursuit of science and progress.
Kauczka?
You can
Nie,
find
nic nie
the Soul
mówili.
Core weapon effect in this pack, which causes
Dawaj brodaty
thaumaturgic
na
energy
Twitcha.
harnessed from sacrifice to spill from
Tutaj
your
te
weapon.
dropy są.
This pack also contains Doryani's Idol. It replaces the default appearance of any foci to an ancient relic once used by
Na Hantu
Doryani,
zrobiono
and this
dobrze.
can be applied to shields in Path of Exile 1. That's not the only Vaal weapon you'll find. It also contains the Wand of the Thaumaturge skin. and the Royal Sacrifice Dagger skin.
Nie będzie
You wouldn't
a
think
tego,
to
to
put
się mogę
sacrificial
powiedzieć, że
gems
będzie
on a
co-opa na
Kiwi, but
PC.
the Val did.
To jest tylko na konsolach.
Thaumaturge of the Val supporters will receive the Thaumaturge of the Val Kiwi pet. And the Statue of Dominus. This is also the first pack in the series with a physical item. When purchasing this pack, you'll receive a PathofExile2 logo t-shirt. But if you don't want one, you can opt out in return for additional points to spend in the store. Becoming a Warlord of the Karui supporter will grant you
zobacz,
an
no
armor set
Vessel of
and
Fate,
back
jak
attachment adorned in jade carvings and iridescent feathers resembling power.
Ten sam klimat.
Enough to even impress the ancestral gods, specifically Tukohama, the Karui god of war. Overkill, you say? I think the Karui people would disagree. Why not drop a gigantic totem on rare enemies you slay to crush them to a pulp?
Co to kurwa za skill?
Replace your crafting bench in your hideout with the Ancestral Canoe crafting bench, where Ancestral Chief Marta will summon a giant canoe manned by Karui warriors to aid in your crafting desires.
Ale
You'll
hit.
also get a pair of weapon skins.
Weź te serca
Equip
później
Akoya's
wyjedziesz
felling
i
axe skin
zniszczysz.
to your one-hand or two-handed axes,
A,
or
te serca,
Tukohama's
dobra.
Crusher to your one-handed or two-handed maces.
Tak, zrobię. Alerty są włączone, tak jest, z bomby po prostu.
A true
Nie
Karui
tego.
warlord is always accompanied
Nie
by the
edytowałem
trusty
jeszcze
Kiwi.
ich.
Equipped with armor and harnessing ancestral magic, they make the perfect sidekick.
Wiesz, to jest pierwszy
Once
stream
one of the most
poważny na
feared
Twitchu,
beings
muszę
in
to ogarnąć.
Rayclast, Malachi was slain by a powerful exile. May the statue commemorate the virtue of exile's past, present,
Powiem wam,
and
że
of
nie
the
wiem
future.
jak wy, ale ja to jestem normalnie zmęczony tym streamem, nie?
Of course, it's not all about
Ale tak
dressing up in
pozytywnie,
game.
że
You'll want to look good in real life too.
przygniótł mnie.
By becoming a warlord of the Karui supporter,
Ciekawe, co
you'll
nam
also
Diablo
get a
słychać.
PathofExile2 hoodie. Our final tier of supporter pack in this series is the Liberator of Rayclast supporter pack. The Liberator of Rayclast armor set and back attachment come
jest
made
takie
with the
trochę
finest materials in
przekombinowane.
Rayclast, and shattered glass
Ten
mosaics
mi się
suspended in
jakoś tak mniej
divine power.
podoba.
Set up your base of operations in the Beacon of Salvation hideout. Why restrict yourself to just one island when you can liberate more? The Beacon of Salvation hideout comes equipped with your own collection of small islands and personal operators of boats that you can use to row between them. Just walk to the piers, click a boat to enter, and navigate as you choose. Decorate each island as you see fit to best represent your well-earned hideout. Everyone in your hideout can use their own boat. Why not have some races? You can also get the Window to Twilight portal effect, a beautiful mosaic piece of art that shatters and reveals a gateway to your desired destination as you approach it. As you walk away, the glass magically reforms back to its original form. Rule in style with the Throne of the Ruler map device. Sure, this map device can create portals to in-game maps, but it also comes with a throne you can sit on to oversee your growing kingdom.
Ja pierdolę,
Down on the
ale
plebeians
faza,
running your
to jest
maps.
zajebiste.
Being the Liberator, though, is not just about sitting on your throne all day. If you do decide to join the fight yourself, you can leave a High Priest in charge as your second in command. Liberator of Rayclast supporters will also get a set of varied weapon skins. The Light of Divinity Scepter skin,
Dobra, cofam to,
The
co
Deliverance
powiedziałem.
crossbow
Też jest zajebisty.
the Justice Flail skin, and the Redemption Shield skin.
Cofam wszystko, co powiedziałem.
Once again, you'll have
Przepraszam,
an
powiem.
accompanying Kiwi, and of course a statue depicting one of the most iconic events in Rayclast's history. The
Przepraszam, że
battle between a
zwątpiłem.
powerful exile and Kitava, the Insatiable.
Ale
With the
to
help
będzie
of two
wystryw
deities,
tych
Sin and
filmików
Innocence,
na
the
YouTubie,
exile was able
kurwa,
to
że
defeat him once and for
Diablo
all.
zaorany, nie?
This supporter pack also contains the PathofExile2 art book.
O Jezus Maria.
This 215-page full-color art book includes a huge amount of amazing concept art and lore produced during the long and exciting journey of PathofExile2's development. And finally, PathofExile has a tradition of letting the community participate in designing game features. For PathofExile2, we'll be adding the Twilight Order foil reliquary. By becoming a Liberator of Rayclast supporter, once PathofExile2 is released, you will be able to select any unique item you have found and be able to drop it from the reliquary. Once players have submitted their items, keys to the reliquary will start dropping, and other players will be able to find foil versions of uniques that you have submitted, along with a message for the lucky player.
Co
The
tu się
more players
odjebało?
submit the same unique, the more chances there will be for the reliquary to drop them, so choose wisely.
Ej, co
Now,
to za
almost
pay to
all of
win?
these items are available to use in PoE 1 right now. There are a few exceptions where the item class clearly doesn't exist,
Cześć,
such
źle
as
zrozumiałem,
crossbows
że
or
za
flails.
supporter packa będę mógł
And there are also a
postawić
few
przedmiot
microtransactions on
tym,
weapon types
który
that
mi
are
wydropił
unavailable in
unikat,
PoE 2
jaki,
at
który
the
już
start of
zdobyłem
early
wcześniej?
access. Once classes that use those weapon types are added, those microtransactions
Czy
will
ja
be
źle
available to
zrozumiałem?
use. If you can't decide which supporter pack to choose yet, you can always start with the Early Access supporter pack that just includes a key and some points to spend in the store. Then you can upgrade to any of the following tiers at a later date. These supporter packs will be available for purchase throughout Early Access. We'd really like to thank you for your ongoing support. Without you guys, PathofExile2 could not have happened. Now, I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. Stick around, because coming up next, we have a live Q&A with Ziggy D.
Dobra, Q&A. Proszę Państwa. Co, kilka przerw, żeby się odlać. Obejrzymy sobie Q&A. Zobaczymy jeszcze supporter paki na spokojnie. Zobaczymy co w Diablo. I jakoś to kurwa podsumujemy. Nie wiem, to się da podsumować teraz na żywo. Dobra, szybkie siku. I sobie postoimy teraz.
Got to do design whenever you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's been a few fun moments here already, but I'm your host Ziggy D, and I'm joined by Jonathan and Mark to talk about everything you've seen. Honestly, it's so much.
I mean, we were really keen to make sure that when we went into early access that people didn't feel like it was just, limping along and kind of, just like a minimal amount of content. We really wanted to kind of blow people away. So hopefully people feel like, there is enough content. Because, it was certainly a mission to get all that stuff in.
Yeah, I did come here expecting that there would be, maybe a basic mapping placeholder end game and your 3 acts and, the half the classes. But you've made a decision here clearly that's got the core PoE player community in mind.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we have to make sure, look, PathofExile's endgame is kind of known for the fact that you get to choose between different types of content and that, some people enjoy one thing, some people enjoy another. And I feel like that choice is a huge part of what makes it good. So if we didn't have that when we entered endgame, then I don't think that would be, that wouldn't be a PathofExile endgame. So that's kind of what we have to make sure of. So we kind of said, okay, well, what is the minimum number of different in-game things you need to be able to have in order to be able to actually have a viable in-game that we feel like you get different choices. And that's how we ended up with what we have here.
I definitely feel like a lot of games nowadays release, and their campaign's intact and real good. You get to the end game and it just falls real flat.
Yeah.
And it was certainly a very important moment for us when we were like, hold on, that's the wrong thing to do. Let's not make the same mistake as everyone else. Let's pivot. And we actually did that, and it made a world of difference and made the game all of a sudden, 100 times bigger with an infinite amount more content, right?
Już Diablo obrażają, ledwo wyszedłem. A już Diablo obrażają.
We're progressing. It's we would have made it. We would have gotten, all these acts in if we hadn't have changed direction. It's to actually say, you know what, we're going to specifically not finish this content that we'll be working on, that we
Kogo? Co to za pytanie, kurwa? Najbodrabana normalnie dostajesz. Co to za pytanie dajesz?
More important. That was certainly a hard one.
That would have been some
Upiłeś się już chyba.
For sure. Well, I mean, it's suddenly the whole, environment art team, it's they're all just whatever you're working on, just scrap. You don't want to scrap, but, just stop it.
No ale przygniotło, nie pamiętam. Na początku był taki mega hype.
Especially for a lot of the developers, because you got to also think, a lot of our developers have just been working on this campaign for, what is it now, 6 years.
Wiem, że też świruję.
Yeah, it's just this epic journey, whereas none of them, a lot of these people haven't been working on PathofExile1 this whole time, so some of us are we're just churning out in-game with everything and doing all of that.
Yeah. Weź tam Kogu, weź tam już tam zrób tego kanał na PoE2.
Everyone embraced it, we talked about it, everyone was happy about it, stoked about it, and
jakiś tam ogólny.
Weź tam,
zrób porządek z tym. Poprosimy. Wszyscy się zgodzą, że musimy tu rozwinąć trochę w tą stronę.
Info dumping all of the endgame. You're like, oh, we got this feature, we got this feature. I'm getting dopamine just from hearing about it. I haven't even seen anything yet. But do you guys feel like you're competing against yourselves a little bit here? Because PathofExile's kind of set the bar, the original game has set the bar for what is available to endgame in a game like this.
Dobra, to zapytam was może, czy chcemy słuchać tych Q&A-ów, czy sobie przejdziemy i sprawdzimy, co dostajemy za supporter paki? I sprawdzimy, co Diablo wysrało na blogu.
But cracking that out for beta even.
Yep, absolutely.
Czy na razie Q&A już starczy?
I think it would not have landed nearly as well without that. And I think it's important that our existing PathofExile1 community feels like they're also served. Yeah, sure, we're doing all this stuff for new players, and that's really important, and that'll expand the audience. But if we launched and all the PoE1 players are unhappy, that wouldn't be good. So, you know, we have to make sure that they also feel like, you know, they've got a game for both them and for all the new players we hope to bring to the genre.
And you definitely want all those different axes as well. Like just having two, right? You'll get a lot of content can be immediately divisive, right? Obviously, that's the nature of it. That's how it goes, right? And so you have all of these different avenues because there are different players who like different types of content. So if you're just like, here's your one end game system, well, immediately then there is this portion of players who are just like, I don't want this, right? And so having all of these options is like ultra key, and that is what PathofExile2 has taught us. And again, it's like, I'd say lessons learned, you know, for the genre, and it is expanding in other games and stuff. But yeah, certainly, as you said, competing with ourselves, yes, PoE1 has like, you know, 40 axes, you know, and we've got 7 really good ones here, and obviously more to come. But 7 is a lot, mind you.
Especially when it's all like, you know, like people have to learn a lot of things again. It's going to be very interesting to see how long it takes people to do the kind of difficulty 4 pinnacle content. It's like we have to. It's honestly like we actually don't even really know because like you never know what people are going to find in terms of builds and so on. Like I'm hoping that it will take people a while to be able to work it out, but you know, you never know. Maybe end of day 1, people just like, oh yeah, easy, no problem, mate. You know, it could be what it's like.
We have a few people that are doing that sort of thing. I saw like a solo self found level 100 in 24 hours. Or something.
This is where we've got it now, is it?
So I imagine there'll be a little bit of a soft reset there for people.
Czemu nie możesz konta połączyć ze Steam? A to spokojnie, dropy możesz sobie dropić, a potem sobie na spokojnie możesz te konta połączyć i sobie wybrać, jak chcesz odebrać. Także tutaj nie ma pośpiechu, nie?
PoE2 was first put forwards, like as to what it's going to be, because it was much smaller in scope originally.
Yeah, so when we started, it wasn't even a sequel. It was just we're just updating the character rigs.
Zostaw mi gadających sobie, zobacz te supporter paki. No i tak, możemy ich zostawić w tle i będzie się to naliczało, nie? A że u mnie jest kategoria PathofExile, to wam też to się będzie naliczało. To niech oni sobie tam pierdolą. Ale są po prostu na karcie obok. Zobaczymy. Co ludzie tutaj pisali? Ile osób oglądało? 140, 150 tysięcy. Kurwa. D4Bad, PoE2, login.
They really raised the quality bar to a level that took us way longer than we even really expected. Like those things there, just like it's huge, right? Like honestly, I feel like we underestimated significantly what it would take to deliver that level of quality.
I remember really early on a battle I fought for, and I mean like way back, was like.
Czekaj, to co, na Steamie to możemy zobaczyć? Czy tak będzie ładnie na Steamie? Czy nie na stronce? Macie jakiegoś linka, gdzie te supporter paki są?
You get things like the super uniques, and PoE1 did them, and it's just like, here's a boss with 1 or 2 skills. And I remember very, very, very early on in PoE2, I'm like, I want every single boss to be memorable and a thing. I don't want a unique monster that's just like dies in 2 seconds and uses heavy strike and has a fancy name.
Tutaj ktoś dał linka.
I remember, I mean, I even got some pushback. I remember getting some pushback at the time and thinking like, you know, I love the bosses, my favorite part of everything, and so I was just like, man, I don't want this. This is just terrible. But of course, that decision, me pushing for that, me wanting that, turned into this megalithic. Now we have 50, aiming to be 100. Honestly, probably later, several more 100 once all the end games, everything starts to evolve and more expansions comes out. And I'm like, we maybe just made 100 times more work for ourselves, but 100% bloody worthwhile, because I'd say those bosses are one of the main, attraction pieces of the game, and anyone who plays it is just like, holy crap, those boss fights are amazing. So like, obviously some are bad and some are good to different people and all that. That's how it all goes. That's part of all the fun. But it is true that me pushing for that thing literally created thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of work. Now, worthwhile work, but it is again that exact thing of like, the scope was kind of small on numerous axes, and as we just raised the quality bar to what we thought was good, it certainly went from, what was it initially? Just resetting some character classes and new rigs or whatever into this like mega scale entire campaign. Yeah, everything.
Kurwa, zjebane tutaj też mają.
Full standalone.
O, wrzuciłeś, okej.
Fun other anecdote, since we went out of that territory. It was originally codenamed Project Chimera.
Niżej.
What?
Dobra, bo ja spojrzałem tutaj, myślałem, że to zwykły sklepik. Dzięki, Boba.
I've never been a fan of
Dzięki,
the
Boba,
code name,
dobra, mamy to.
It was this like
Czyli tak,
there were times
podstawowy
way back
dostęp.
in the original Office. There was all this like
Czekaj sobie, tak
sometimes there'd be a feature you
ściszę.
can't really do in PoE1, and it was always like,
Słuchawce.
we'll do it in Project Chimera. That was like amongst the developers, and people were
Normalnie
like,
słuchawki
is that?
rozładowujesz
Now,
tego
ironically,
hype'u całego.
There is a boss in Act 3 called, well, it's got a different name, but it's called the Chimera internally. It is a Chimera. It's a multi-headed beast, and you've seen it in a few of the marketing, things here and here, different trailers, little snippets of it. And I think it's just ironic that was actually the first boss asset made. Before everything, the first monster, because back in when we used to just make random monsters and we'll find out how to use them. And that was made for that game. It was used in the original PoE2 trailer.
Polecam cię. Czyli tak,
It is the only incomplete,
300
technically,
punktów,
only from a
Extended
balance. It was
Digital
the last
Soundtrack.
boss to finish in the entire
No Really
PathofExile2.
Access za 30
Right
dolków.
now.
Kurwa, myślałem, że będzie jakiś może MTX jakiś gówniany, albo coś takiego. Zwykły. No ale mamy 300 punktów na wydanie w sklepie, nie? Pewnie będzie jakaś może promka od razu też na...
Oh my god, it's happening, the Chimera is
Czy tam tydzień po,
finally
nie?
being
Zwykle jak
finished.
startuje liga, czy tam
Holy, this
wychodzi
is
gra.
like, yeah, we were effectively like, we
Jakoś
need to
tak, nie?
celebrate
Jest
this
tydzień
boss
po-
finally being done. It was like at the origin and now it's at this,
Tydzień po jest
point where we're about to deploy
promka
early
na
access.
sklepie.
Not to say the end,
30 za 60 dolków. Forum title, portrait frame mamy taki, taką zbrojkę fajną.
For the first time, I feel really like laid bare.
Czyli tak, to są te dwie rzeczy, które mieliśmy i wszystkie to są nowe. Armor pack, back attachment, baby crowble pet, portal effect. To było fajne, to wyglądało, ten Rust King, nie? Jak się tak rozwalał cały. Iron Count Zweihander, aha, czyli ta na bronię, Lord of Ohankiwi.
Yeah, like it's tough. Honestly, I think that even we were feeling a little bit cocky
Dobra,
actually
czyli to
about
co
the fact because we release
60 dolków
content for PoE1 all the time, and I feel like we
i
kind
za
of felt
100
like we
dolców od
knew
razu.
what it took to get a game released, but honestly, like
Co tam z
PoE2
tyłu
was
się
just a whole
dzieje?
entirely different demon
1000
as far as getting things
punktów.
out, right? Like it's just
To
way more
jest w sumie
difficult. Like when you actually
nieważne.
have to make
Armor pack
everything,
dostaniemy
like the whole
nowy, back
freaking thing, right
attachment,
from the ground up again. It's like wow, there's way more stuff there, and like there's even things like the passive
do
tree where it's
tego,
like
do
I feel
hideoutu,
like we
postawienie
underestimated what it would
pomnika.
take to get
The
something like
Dreadnought
that to an
hideout,
actual
czyli
releasable
hideout
state.
jest cały.
That was a huge amount of
Na
work,
tym
just like
Dreadnoughcie.
absolutely colossal.
Terrans and Spear skin, Glory Bow
It's
skin,
just
Dashed
been
Blessing
crazy.
level up, extra effect.
Yeah,
To fajnie wyglądało, jak nie? Ten level
it's
to
nerve-wracking, coming up to a
Kurwa, za 100
release date.
dolarów.
But I think we do have something that players are going to really
160.
enjoy, and like it's always comforting when I mean, we had a live event in LA recently.
Early access orki.
We got to the time limit, and
A gdzie to
everyone's
jest
like, oh man, we
napisane?
don't want to
Early
stop.
access
So,
orki.
like, I'm really, I
Test z
think people are going to
koszulką,
really
$160 plus shipping.
It's been a whole different
Kurwa,
experience for me
shipping już
here
mógłby
playing
być w
this
tym.
time around as well, whereas before I was playing a
Portrait
very
frame,
buggy kind of internal
Wall
version of the game
supported,
that was very experimental.
plus jeden
Now
pad of
playing,
Early Access Key. O!
almost
Będę
what
mógł
I'm
komuś
gonna be
Well, I heard
klucz
you still
dodać.
managed to blow the
Tak, dla
count up the
znajomego.
elevator with
No.
some kind of knockback bug.
wasn't gonna mention
Za
that.
160
Yeah,
dolków. Będzie można kluczyk dać.
I did send the Act 1 boss up an elevator.
Kiwi Pet,
with knockback.
Dominus
It was,
Statue znowu do tego. Weapon
that was pretty
Effect,
funny.
tak, czyli te
He was using
ognie.
his like big wolf form and kind of trapped in there. So
Za
just
Shielda
barking at me
skin,
through the
Wand
wood.
nowy skin,
It's good.
Dagger
So
skin.
feel
Aha, czyli
optional
każdy
to
kolejny ma do
take
kolejnej
into account
broni.
for
Ten ma
like
dla
2 weeks.
Dodgera,
I
wcześniej
have to
było
take
dla
Pebble to the
Spira
rest for a
i
day
dla
before they get back into
Great
it.
Sworda, nie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
No i
been,
t-shirt
it's been a
albo
lot.
160
So
punktów
they've
za
done that pivot
t-shirt,
to
czyli
the endgame focus and got
16
so much
dolarów.
for us now
No,
to play
to
around
tyle,
with
ile t-shirt
Innovator
normalnie
and,
kosztuje, nie?
it seems like
Tym wyżej tak
originally I was
jest,
thinking,
w tym
we
paku
might be
wyżej, bo
playing
zawsze
for a few
wyjechałem
weeks here and then,
tutaj.
maybe going back over to some PathofExile 1 stuff, but it seems like you guys want us playing through Christmas.
That would certainly be good. I mean, look, there's enough stuff there. I think it will take people a long time to get through.
Yep.
And I mean, obviously, it's also going to be the first time people are playing through a completely fresh campaign as well. I think that will take
PoE2
a fair
or
amount of time.
Early Access Key, a gdzie to
So
jest
yeah,
tutaj
there's,
napisane?
and then of course the end game as well to explore. I mean, yeah, it
King
should
of the
be pretty
Supporter,
significant.
Extended.
I mean,
Path
we've
of
always
Early
wanted
Access
it to
or
be
PathofExile2
that,
Key.
PathofExile2
A,
leads
to pewnie chodzi o to, że
gonna be
dodajesz do konta Early
like how
Access,
PoE1 leagues are.
albo
Like, you
dodajesz
play them, you
klucz.
play them for like,
Czyli pewnie ten klucz możesz
reasonable
komuś
amount
dać.
of time. And then, sure, you get done with them eventually, and then you've got the next content that comes
Tak
out.
to bym rozumiał.
Yeah, in order to be able to realize that, you have to have enough
Możesz
of a base
wybrać, bo tu jest
to make that happen.
za
People
60.
definitely wondering like how invested they
To
can
też,
get
to jest chyba
in the beta,
podstawowy,
so
to.
I definitely want to ask a few questions kind of around that idea. So
Czyli
is
wybierasz
firstly,
albo
is
od
there
razu
gonna be
używasz, że na
wipes and
siebie, albo dostajesz
resets,
sobie kluczyk, nie?
and will there be something
Pewnie o to
for
chodzi.
So we are going to
Dobra,
be
za
having
240
new,
dolków,
like,
co tu
leagues
mamy?
effectively throughout the beta
Tu mamy
whenever we launch
znowu
something significant.
drugi
We want to make
kluczyk.
sure that all of the, effectively that people are able to play through. But
No i
that stuff we
standardowo,
merged
czyli
into
dochodzą
an
tak,
early
punkty,
access,
portrait frame,
league,
czyli do
and
położenia
effectively
w
after we
tym.
go into full release, that league
Tu jest
will stick
akurat
around.
hełm.
Now I can't promise that everything
Armor.
about your character will function exactly like
Surely
how
not.
it did in that thing.
I imagine it'll be
Kiwi
a
się
glorious
zmienia,
kind of snapshot of
statua
all the
nowa,
healing
to
programs
jest
all
wszystko
right now.
z
But
z
effectively
każdej
we can
kategorii
contain all that
o
stuff
jedno
in some early
więcej.
access league, and then if you still want to play those
To jest jakiś
characters,
finisher efekt.
then you can
A,
go right
finisher,
ahead and
chyba,
do
że
that, but
spada na
the
niego
action is always
ten,
going to
nie?
be in whatever the most recent
Logo
league is.
hoodie, o.
And then of course after
Masz
that point
koszulkę
there'll
i
be a
bluzę
standard that
dodatkowo.
everything goes into, which all our
Albo
economic
660
sins
punktów
will
jeszcze.
forevermore be archived in the
Kurwa, on
standard.
punkty wziął.
So,
Bluzę co miał
that's,
kupić, ale gra w Chińczyka za
Well,
połowę
it's nice that
ten.
it's A, not going to be
Bardzo będę
affecting
chciał, a punkciki będę mógł wybrać na stasze,
Also
będę
that
miał na
people
jakieś
will
inne
be able to
fajne
get invested in their
grze.
characters
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I mean, there's even something
No,
kind of cool about the idea
480,
of
to co to
making
było z tym
something
tym?
that will be like that
Kurwa,
little
480?
historical
Ile to
piece.
jest?
It's a little
2,5 koła chyba, nie?
Absolutely, and I'm sure there'll be some handful of legacy things that
Liberator
only
of
exist in early
Reckless.
access leagues. So,
I dwa
you know,
kluczyki jeszcze.
we'll have to see what comes with the balance.
You talked about like
W sumie
the
to kluczyk
you
możesz
know,
wziąć
playing
stąd
for
i
a
plus
week
jeszcze
or how
dwa,
long
czyli w
we're
sumie
expecting.
3.
We also got to remember,
Trzy
and a
kluczyki.
lot of the, a lot of the PoE1 players will be thinking very differently to people who are obviously going to experience this as a new game, but it is a new game, right? You don't have all these
I
predefined,
koniec.
hyper-refined
Czyli
builds to play to
480 dolków
immediately,
to najwyższy i
go
go
through
można
things. You
kupić na
don't have
stronie,
people
tak? Z
coming
tego
in
co
with like
mówiliście.
fully detailed 7 million line with
Co to
build
za
guides
lata
of
epoki
exactly
tutaj
what to do with what
wyskakuje?
items.
Bo tutaj można
The
kupić
discovery
na
is
samym
going to be there. The
Steamie
discovery takes time, and the discovery
King
is like honestly
of
ultra fun for me. I
Parading.
love it.
Tak? To jest ten
Now those
trzeci.
things will emerge after time, of course they do, completely fine. But you just got to
Czyli
remember, like
ten.
there's a lot of game to play here to
To
discover,
jest
to
za 100
learn about the
dolarków, a
world,
to
the
jest,
new
to kosztuje
narratives, the
ile?
new world building, the
462.
new unique items, the
To więcej czy
ascendancy
mniej?
classes, the massive passive tree, which is bigger than PoE1's,
100 dolców.
the like end game systems, the bosses. That
O,
like,
to lepiej kupić
it's not
u nich
going to
za
be
100
this
dolców.
like
Wyjdzie
even,
taniej.
I personally when a
No,
PoE1
widzisz,
league
Piotrek,
comes out, for example, I
gratuluję.
play for like a month. Sometimes a bit longer,
Udało się
sometimes a bit
połączyć.
less. It ultimately also depends largely what's going on here and how much I need to invest
No,
here.
już ludzie widzę
So,
się
and there are
wykrzyczyły.
other people who play for
A
more
jak
like
tam
3 and
dropy?
whatnot, but there's certainly going to be a much longer time period you can play this for while still discovering new
No ja
stuff and
dropa
not
już
feel
mam.
like you're finished. You know what I mean?
Dropa
Now,
wydropiłem.
of course, you see that's subjective. Everyone can pick their own point when they finish, but if you want to see everything and
No,
do
raczej
everything,
bardziej
you're
opłaca
going to
się
be
kupić
investing
u
a
nich
lot more
na
time,
stronce za
especially these
dolary.
first time rounds, and then obviously with every league, there's more to discover,
Za
but
400,
you get
a
faster at
ten
doing all these parts
najwyższy...
over and over and over again. You'll get more
A,
efficient over
nie
time.
zapominajmy,
That's how
że...
the game works. So
Aha, to jest
yeah, I'd
Settlers
expect
of
a
Kalgur,
lot of
dobra,
time
to nas nie
to be sunk into
interesuje.
this to fully explore it, to start
480
with, like a
dolków,
lot.
ile to jest
You
na
know,
polskie?
not a week,
Dzisiaj?
not 2 weeks. You're going to be going far, far longer than that if you want to see everything.
Nie, hashtag.
But, it's up to you.
Dobra.
Play at your own pace. See how you want to go. Learn at your own
Dwa koła.
pace. That's the beauty of a new game as well, which we
Dwa
haven't been
koła,
able to
proszę
experience in
państwa.
PathofExile1.
To co,
or
zrzutka?
other games and for so long
Tipy,
is
tipy tutaj.
actually
Za
discovering
2
the
koła biorę
entire
i rozdaję klucze
world.
na
And
streamie.
there's some familiar mechanics at the end game and stuff like that, which is awesome for people. But I certainly want to really, I'm very excited to see people discovering the new things and getting so excited about it.
No,
I can tell
będzie
you're
wysyp
amped
materiałów
for
jutro.
watching people go through that discovery process. I'm maybe even
like
diving in
100
yourself.
Chyba może bym
100%.
zebrał, bym dzisiaj spać nie poszedł, nie no muszę jutro.
I mean, I
kurde.
love sitting there in Path of Building, as many
Nie
of us
zrobię
do,
tego
but
podsumowania, jutro
I am
mam
very excited for
misję.
that.
Well, yeah, as we
Ale
were
dużo
saying,
tego
discovery
jest.
process for a
Obejrzymy
while.
u wuja,
I think
może
you were
wuja
saying how much
zrobi, albo
you were part spreadsheet.
Albo wiadomo.
I think I was saying
pełno
I'm
live'y,
like
które
maybe
zawsze robię.
60% spreadsheet, 40%
Co za
discovery,
case?
and that's my play
Co to jest
archetype.
zapisane?
You know,
Kluczyki
so-
rozdają?
Player profiles,
Jak się wpisze key,
Timmy
chuj wpisze.
spikes and things like that. For both of exiled characters, yeah.
The discovery part of me is ultra excited, and and I'll mind you, that's coming from someone who kind of knows all the content. I'm still, because there's something different about making it versus actually playing it live with the players, seeing them discover it, uniques being linked in chat and on Reddit and all of that is just so cool. So we're gonna get a massive dose of that, and it is like genuinely exciting to just see how people are gonna think. What's worth 1 chaos or what's worth 10 chaos, what's worth
No.
if chaos is
chaos
even the metric.
yes, is chaos even the currency that people settle
we were
already?
arguing about this earlier.
I'm pretty sure that one C
Jestem po
spam in chat
prostu
might turn
mokry i
into
gotowy.
one E, because like, you know, one exalt,
Na
given
przyjęcie.
that exalt is
I
now...
think, I think it'll be chaos.
People
People
probably-
the ad remove will still be.
People don't appreciate, by the way, like, so when we say we've increased up, you're going to be getting multiple exalts in Act 1.
No powiem wam, że czuję się jakbym, nie wiem, na
we
jakimś
actually have
takim
increased that a lot. It isn't just like
na
an
haju
idle,
jakimś
you know,
był i
like-
przeleciał po prostu i dopiero teraz
Yeah,
mi
I
opadł.
actually think
chaos
it will
being
be.
the new
I
divine.
actually
O,
agree.
mega to wszystko
But
wygląda.
we'll see.
But,
But,
like,
Ale
that's my
zaczniemy,
point.
na
it's a new
powoli,
economy,
na
right? Like, who
spokojnie.
knows? The market will have to...
But I like that we're already arguing about this. It's good
Może
fun.
boleć. Pierwszy raz zawsze boli. I w poetach jest.
Do you
Że
have
trzeba
some
się
kind of like
przemóc,
beta
a
release
potem już jest
roadmap
tylko,
for
wiesz.
updates and things like that for people to look forward to? At that
I mean,
as
we
well?
certainly
lepiej.
did have one 6 months ago when we were, but now that we're,
That feature
you
creep,
know, now that we're sort of getting to release, it's like, oh my god, like, you know, we have to look at it. So, I mean, look,
Dobra,
I don't
ale
think it'll be
teraz na
any less
poważnie.
than 6 months in. I
Proszę
think
państwa, teraz na
could
poważnie.
easily end up being more.
Którego support packa
I certainly
kupujecie?
don't want to. I mean, look, 2025.
30?
I think
Bieda wersja?
really want to be, you know, full release in 2025. I don't.
Tak, skrzynka
really
dla
want it to
nowa
be more
gildia,
than a year.
dokładnie.
That would be pretty crazy. But I mean, honestly, like, we have to get all the content finished and all that sort of stuff. You know, we always
Dobra,
feel like we
kogo, to
underestimate
w
these
topic
things.
lecimy.
And
A
of course,
tutaj
we have
Twitch ma,
to
wiesz.
learn what we need to learn. We have to get the game to the point when it is really fun. You know,
Powiedzcie mi,
we have
co
to
kupicie?
Make sure that like all of the things like, you know, we've got the
30?
difficulty right for the
Kurwa,
players,
no
the
sobie kupił
economy
chyba tego
right, like all the
60.
stuff.
Fajne
And there's a
było
lot of
to...
things that we're gonna
Ten portal fajnie
sort out. So
wyglądał.
I kind of
Czy
have a feeling
ładować
that
to
the first
hajs?
few weeks at
Ciekawe jest,
least
jak,
are
co
gonna
będzie
just
za
be
punkty do
scramble
kupienia,
of
jakie
like,
NTX-y.
you know, oh crap, someone
No
like
fajnie to
worked this
wszystko
crazy thing
wygląda.
out and we found this thing. Like, you
160 kogo,
know,
kto da więcej?
that's always scary, you know, because it's just
Za
when we had
stówkę?
gone into PoE1, it's like at least the kind of base of stuff that we have.
Stówka
is kind of, you
dawała
know,
co? A,
well
to że jak
tested and
ten.
people know
Też
kind
mógł
of what's
kurwa
going
myśleć
on.
nad stówką, bo
But here
podoba
it's
mi się
just
ten
complete
efekt
new
zdobycia
world.
levela, że byli
We're the kind of game
pierdolnięci.
that
Fajnie to
has a
podobało mi się,
lot
fajnie to
of
wyglądało.
ability for players to do
Za
stuff that
160
we
są
wouldn't
tutaj ma więcej.
anticipate. You know, we
Kluczyk,
have
aha, no i taki bardziej...
just the way support gyms work and everything like that. So I
Aha, i
just,
t-shirt jest.
there's certainly a lot of worry that like there's just going to be builds that are like completely ridiculous.
No i
that we
więcej
just never
punktów tak
anticipated,
naprawdę. Tutaj w
combining
tym
certain
rynku
things different
t-shirt i
ways,
więcej
you know,
punktów.
hundreds of support gyms that can be like that.
No a tu jest ten
you know, that's gonna
hideout,
be an
nie?
interesting one.
It will happen.
Yeah, for sure.
It is
Taki
inevitable,
fajny.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's nothing we can even do about it because you'd need hundreds and
Bazyl
thousands of hours
wilka.
of testing to be able to do that.
A
with
co? A ty?
what
Jesteś
can
jeszcze
only
z
be done
nami?
with hundreds of
Jak
thousands
tobie
of
to
players.
się w ogóle widzi?
And
Jesteś
but
chyba ten,
it's also
taką
the magic of
najbardziej...
it all, which is awesome.
That's why I was asking, like, are you literally really
Najwięcej
doing 12
informacji
classes
dzisiaj
in
chyba
36
wciągnąłeś z
sentences,
tego
like,
wszystkiego.
actually?
Yeah,
'Cause
that's absolutely.
Co ty myślisz?
We know what we want to do with
It's a
all
bit
that stuff.
unhinged.
It is a bit, but
Tak, w
you
tych
know,
wyższych pakietach zawierają się
we
niższe.
like
Zobacz,
challenge.
masz tutaj
I
wszystko,
mean,
wszystko
you know,
jest tutaj
the
wyszczególnione, tak?
studio that produces a
Każdy
passive
nowy
skill tree
pakiet po
like we
prostu
do,
daje ci nowe rzeczy, które są
clearly,
tutaj
has a bit of a
boldem
glutton
po
for
prostu
punishment,
wypisane.
with regard to just like mixing
You
in
totally
things.
could have done 6 and then like, oh no,
A
added
ciekawe
more
jak to
later
będzie, na
and
przykład kupię za
expanded.
60, to będę musiał tylko 40 dołożyć, żeby mieć ten większy, chyba tak, nie?
You know, I mean, like as people go through early access, it's going to feel like there's just expansion content coming up pretty frequently, just because we have all the stuff that we kind of got some of the way, a lot of the way
Ale
through.
przez cały early access to będzie można sobie dokładać,
I'm pretty
nie?
sure, like I really want to get the druid out, like we announced it, we've talked about it. It's a lot of fun. I'm keen to get out
Dobra,
there. as
ja
soon as we
wezmę na
can.
początek bieda
The
wersję
Huntress, we've talked about
i
a bunch about as
zobaczymy.
well. There's, like, those
W
kind of
grudniu mu
things I
wpadnie
think,
może jakaś premia,
we'll be able to
wtedy bym
move,
sobie tutaj
towards those pretty quick.
zupgrade'ował go
But, there's
o kolejne 30 dolków.
The other thing you mentioned,
I tak co miesiąc, 30 dolków, 40 i potem, no, na tym bym skończył też chyba.
You know, it's
Na
hard to predict
stówce.
because a lot of what
Co
will
miesiąc
happen
bym sobie jednego
is, and what
supporter
we
packa
leave
po
space
prostu kupił
for
i by było
is
cacy. I
reacting
wtedy
to
widział,
what the
czy to mi
players
się w ogóle
want.
podoba, czy mi się nie
And so
podoba.
if you plan everything for so long, you're going to have very, very, very slow reaction times to fixing, you know, or adding
I
certain
tak zanim
content
dojdę
where
do endgame'a,
you know, maybe the issue is like, the campaign
to
needs
rzeczy
more of
tutaj z
this, or this
endgame'a
class
dopiero
needs more
użyję
of this, or something. So if you're
później,
planning, then you're going to
chociaż
be
pewnie w
delivering on
miesiąc
what they want
trochę wyfarmimy, nie?
solved
I będziemy
like
lecieć.
a year down the line or even longer, and where we like to remain very, very dynamic and like, you know, you want to be able to fix that stuff like, oh, well, this is the main problem. Like, sure, obviously you need more than a week sometimes, most of the time.
Czy moje
But
krypto? No, wypłać
we want
hajs
it
i będziemy
generally to
grać.
be that
Dobra,
the
to
next
co?
releases,
Zaraz pan mi się
expansions,
pośmiać
updates,
teraz.
whatever, can alleviate as many of those problems as
Z
possible.
Blizzarda,
So,
All News,
yeah,
Diablo 4.
Try not to get too strict strict with the planning has generally been our philosophy,
Catch up.
because especially when it comes to actually having the live service
Czekaj,
product
to jest,
out,
nie, to jest tylko link do
because that is
tego, a
very, very
tutaj
important.
będzie...
Otherwise,
Też nie?
you're never going to seem like you're doing what
Są już
people
gdzieś
want,
patchnocy?
and what are you doing if not that?
Powiedzieli, że
So
od
that
razu
actually is a good
będą.
point. Like, I was going to ask, what do you folks, what does the team want
PTR
out of the
patch
beta?
notes
Because
powinno
obviously
być,
it's like
nie?
a good way to market the game, but it's also you know,
I
key to
pośmiejemy się.
shaping the game in the future, like
So-
actual beta. It's not just early access.
I think one of the most important things, I think it's going to be really good for the development team
6
to
dni
get back
temu,
into
3
a
godziny
live
temu. Live
mindset
blog.
and like get it back
Albo
into
w
the
kadzie.
idea of like okay, everything we make is shipping.
Tu mamy
So,
jakieś
see
summary.
this.
like get back into this, you know, people are seeing, you know, like actually getting back into that and like yeah, like and like being able to sort of see directly like okay, we make
Nie wiem,
something
czy
that
to
goes in the
kurwa
game,
jest
people like it,
przegląd.
don't like it, like that kind of stuff, like and that really like that has been our studio for
Kogo?
like most of its lifetime.
Ale da się
Obviously,
musicie
before
coś
we released
zapytać o
PoE1
to.
it
Właśnie
wasn't,
miałem
but
się pytać
after
u
that
nas na
point, I mean, we
Discordzie, czy
are
ktoś
a
coś
company,
robił z
like we are a company that likes
krypto,
to think
bo
that
ma
we can do live
możliwość
service better than anyone else.
wejścia
Like
w
that is our
krypto,
goal.
ale jako
And
górnik.
so, like getting back into that again, you know, for the
będę miał
entire
dostęp.
everyone in the studio, so that everyone's working on things that are going to be releasing.
Odezwę się
within,
do ciebie
you know,
po prostu na piwie.
certainly in less time than you know than 3 months away.
Jak użyczysz mi
Is
trochę
going
swojej
to be
wiedzy, to
really,
będzie
really
fajnie.
good for us again. I look forward to just being able to do that because these long term, like really long term things, like that span over years. It's like you go so long without proper feedback, like stuff kind of gets made, and then like
Yeah,
you know, it's not really in a real game, and so it doesn't get.
Nie, już
necessarily
jutro, już jutro.
And you absolutely lose perspective on the
Spokojnie.
stuff. So I think that that's just going to be a really
Ale
great.
też muszę tak, ja wiem, i dlatego ja sobie, może nawet nie
Honestly,
jutro,
as
ale
you
po
said,
prostu tam
it is early access, it is a beta
na
period,
dniach czy w
and
bliskiej
I'd
przyszłości
say,
zbiorę po prostu w
personally
sobie
speaking,
wszystkie
the thing
tam
that-
pytania
and we
i rzeczy,
mentioned
bo
it
będę też
briefly
robił
about the
research o
character
tym
balance and the builds that are broken
i
and
wtedy
all
do
that.
ciebie uderzę.
That's obviously pretty useful to me, right? Plus, we have other systems in there, like, you know, the checkpointing system, right? You have to kill the boss in one life.
Mieliśmy
You know,
Barba,
these are
Sorka,
things we
zamiana
haven't
tego
mass tested,
enchantmenta,
and obviously other games
za
have, and they
druida,
work,
chyba
and
to
that's
wszystko
awesome.
pamiętam.
There
Zmiany
are
roga,
other things
nekro,
like, you
wiemy,
know,
to takie
the
pelekę,
in-game system is a little bit less forgiving in that
gameplay,
if you
no
die,
ja,
you fail the map,
patrzy się
right?
na to,
These things are things that we
powrót tych
obviously need to
sezonów
test and
drugich,
iterate on in the future by adjusting the difficulty
jest
and stuff like that.
witchcraft,
And you, especially as you get
wsadzanie
towards this
tych
point
gemów
of
w amulet czy w biżuterię.
the end game, like okay, Act 1
Te
has been
drzewko
tested
szeptów
like
będzie
crazy,
miało i plus do
right?
tego
And
będziemy
you get
mieli
less and less
do
testing as it
wylosowania,
goes
że
on
ancestrale
because you
będą
get
lecieć.
less people,
Napisz mi
you know,
tylko, jaką
they've
masz
just been
opcję,
around
to
for less
przygotuję się.
time.
No dobra, spoko, to napiszę
And
ci
so
potem.
yeah, it's going to be a huge amount of iteration and
Jutro ci
feedback and
napiszę,
from
na
the players
spokojnie.
and us just, you know,
I
reevaluating
quality
all the
of
stuff.
life.
And the
To
thing
my
is,
tu mamy, że
we're
paragon
always dynamic
ekskluzywny
about
gry
that stuff. Like,
startujemy.
we'll just change things if it's wrong, we'll redesign
Extra
it, we'll come up with a
fragments,
new way.
create random. No to w sumie
Jonathan's a firm believer of if A doesn't work and B
szczerze to
doesn't
wszystko
work,
to
then we'll find C, we'll
pamiętam,
find option C, we'll find
co
option D,
oni
and we'll keep
gadali,
changing things and we'll make it work.
że nie musimy
So, yeah,
zrobić
it's going to be a lot of that
klasowego
iteration
questa.
on our
Extra
design
gemy możemy w
decisions, how
legendarki
forgiving,
zamienić.
because like the game is
Ancestral drop rate
pretty
has been
hard. You
increased.
know, it
O,
can be pretty hard.
o tym
And
tak
so
mi mówili, nie?
when you're on that fine line of
Czy
like,
to
you know, things are
Ancestral drop
difficult,
miał aż podkręcony,
you know, it's not
kręcony tutaj
too easy to
ten
know if
drop.
you've tilted one way or the other. So, you know, finding what everyone
Oh,
agrees should
when
be the
Ancestral
common corrected
Legendary item
difficulty is
will
something that
roll
I
on
will
the
obviously
top
be paying
end
very,
of
very,
its
very close
legendary
attention to.
power.
Pretty hard thing to nail down when you are making the game.
Tu masterek, co mieliśmy jak ten,
and
czyli Ancestral da ci
we've
z
seen that a lot, where
bomby
you
maksymalną
fix
rolkę
being
legendy
pretty willing
duchowego
to change
powera.
and then rechange
W ogóle
rechange
nie
again.
mieli tego, chyba
Some
nie
of the cool
tiera, nie
features
wiem
like
czy zarzucili.
flasks and the waypointing system and portals, and you're keeping that
Kto
kind of
to
mindset
będzie
going into
grał,
beta.
nie wiem kto to
Of
będzie
course. I
grał.
mean, look, we're always willing to change stuff. Like that flask thing.
Dlatego
like
mówię,
the most recent change to
Babaś,
that was like
powoli,
ultra recent.
można sobie upgrade'ować te
Like,
tiery,
I
nie?
don't- have we
Kupimy
ever
najpierw
had
za
like
30,
a closed beta of
zobaczymy
that
jak się
yet?
gra, czy w ogóle da się zagrać,
I
kurde
think
się
we
ludzie
haven't yet.
rzucą.
But I mean, I think it's way better
I
than
będzie
it
można
was.
sobie
Like, it's,
dokupywać, nie?
things have
Nie
improved
trzeba
a lot.
wszystkiego
And
naraz.
honestly, like that's one of those things that we wanted to do.
Potem mamy
something
to
to
armory.
sort out flasks for ages.
Yep.
And it really
Z
came
którego się
about because
pośmialiśmy.
when actually
Że
looking at
wygląda
what
jak
new players were
wygląda.
having trouble with when they were playing. Flask
Zmiana
piano was
loadoutu
actually like
nic nie
even from the
kosztuje. No
very
właśnie,
beginning of
zmiana
the game
loadoutu
actually
nic
ended
nie
up being one of those
kosztuje.
things that like people just had trouble just the manual dexterity required to like hit all your different flask keys.
Tak, Babaś,
and then,
można je upgrade'ować.
like you have to know when one of your flasks
Także
run
na
out, so you move to
spokojnie.
the next one and
Tier
like various things
pierwszy
like that. Like all that stuff
i
actually
potem
was like
sukcesywnie
just a
sobie już mógł
weirdly
dodawać
a
cegiełki
large
i
amount
sobie
of
po prostu
mechanical complexity
tiery
right from the very
upgrade'ować, tak?
beginning.
Early
And
Access
then
myślę, że
even in
potrwa
game,
no
I
co
don't think
najmniej
it was
te,
really
nie
that
wiem,
satisfying either because
pół
you ended up
roku,
with like
może
just like
dłużej.
having to press all these buttons all the time. And
Myślę, że tak
obviously
pół
there's
roku to
utility
minimum,
flasks that
nie?
people are using
Trzeba
in
liczyć,
game.
czy gdzieś w czerwcu,
And then we kind
że
of
na
tried to
przyszłą
band-aid this
gwiazdkę
in PoE1
giera
with the,
wyjdzie już
you know,
taka
some of the flask
dojebana,
automation stuff
nie?
that was added there. But there there was still this idea that that you're
Teraz
still more
Mikołaj można brać
powerful
maksa.
if you
A, Piotr
don't automate. So
nie
therefore,
stać,
you
to
know, like
od
it's
razu,
like, you know,
tam
it's like there's that
240
trade-off
dolków.
there. So
You're just more powerful if you get
PTR. Trwa i tyle, PTR. Jakie były pytania na Q&A?
Yeah, sure, all right.
Ale
But
PTR
you know, so the point is
to
effectively that the
też
charm stuff that
okej.
we're doing
Druids
effectively
lacking
means that
rules
you no
will
longer
count
the
as
game is
lacking
making that decision of
skill.
like, you know, that stuff
More
will be
will be
automated.
reviewed
You no
about
longer
the
have to
story,
do
close
that
to
like
the release,
crazy
okay,
bluff in order
history
to get the
gówno.
best,
Each season will
you know, the best
continue to
every character.
build
I think
on
that
the
is definitely a
story
step in
of
the right
the
direction.
Vessel of Hate.
And
Okay.
the other thing as well is it actually makes the
Czyli fabularnie
crafting,
będą szły.
more meaningful, I
No current
think,
plans
on
to
the
change the
flasks, because when
size
you've
of
got
the
like
item
5
stats.
slots, then
Dobra,
like you're in individual mods and
The team
individual
is
stuff
working on
like,
fixing the
seems to tend to
experience well.
not matter as much. I mean, obviously,
Okay.
people want
No
instant
plans to
recovery and
change
things
the
like
way
that,
the
but,
pets
you know, like
loot.
but like
No
now
plans
it's like the
to
actual,
release
it's
ravens
much
in
more
diffusion media
meaningful.
more powerful.
Like on your life flask, the choice between do I want instant or do
Item
I
saving
want way
armor loader will be
more
automatically favorite,
life?
so
Like
they
that kind
don't
of
have
stuff actually can be a lot more
sold
meaningful
or
once you level up
savage.
one. So yeah, I think it is a lot better personally.
You have we'll jump ahead to Floss since we're on the topic.
Piotris,
You
nie
have,
ma upgrade. Nie no, jest upgrade, mówili o tym na streamie.
locked in effectively the fact that there's a mana flask
Yep.
there now,
Mówili
so
o tym na
there's always gonna
streamie,
be
że
a
jak się
mana
kupi
flask
za
slot.
30
How does
dolków, to
how
potem
does that
masz
tie
ten.
into your design for mana, and are we always going to be using a mana flask slot, or if we
Zresztą
solve
co ja będę
another
wam
way,
tutaj
what
pierdolił,
does
po
it
prostu
do? You can
kupię już
absolutely
tego
solve another
paka.
way, and then you'll just have a flask slot that doesn't do anything.
Logujemy
For sure.
się.
But I think it kind of has to work that way because we really don't want. Yeah, because like once you
Mamy
sort of
mojego
start getting to
super
changing that around,
postać.
I feel like the system sort of starts to break with regard to like, you know, the feeling of like I know where mana is, I know where my health is, like that
Early
kind of stuff. That being
access.
said, you know, we've always got uniques and stuff like that. I believe there's already
there is a unique
access.
there's
that
a
allows
unique
you to
that-
equip two
yeah, yeah.
life flasks.
But the thing is, then that's a build choice that you're making,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit
Dawaj.
different, and that's fine. But yeah, I think the
Dobra,
system
jak
as
to
it
się
works now
kupuje
just,
u
yeah,
nich?
it's a lot easier.
So it does sound like on the mana side of things,
Chyba
then
nie
there
ma
are going to be
GPA,
multiple
szkoda.
angles of solving
Że
mana.
to
Not
jest
Of course,
safe,
I mean, yeah,
teraz
so we've got
będzie
Leech,
GPA.
edition number
Albo
475,
credit cardem
is how
trzeba
it works.
zapłacić.
And we've finally got it right this time. So, you know,
Łatwiej będzie to
and
kupić
yeah, I think it works, and I
chyba.
think it's good, so I think that Leech will be
Poczekaj, to będzie chyba
be
napisane,
more common.
supporter
I'm not going
packs.
to have to like crack out the leech diagram.
Supporter
Yeah,
packs
yeah.
providing
buckets
access
and
to the
things like that.
access
saying, I
and
think
you
that
can
Leech
upgrade,
might
zobacz, tu masz na stronce.
No,
You
I
can
think- I
upgrade
was
from a
gonna say,
cheaper
Leech is one
pack
of
to
the
a more
topics in the studio
expensive
that is most of
one
them
later.
wasted the most
These packs
design
will be
time and
available through
anything
early
in the
access.
industry.
Proszę
But I
bardzo.
actually don't think it's that. I think the actual worst offender is
Oh.
what stats should Dex give you.
Także
I
masz
think
tutaj
that
napisane
is
na dół, że można sobie
that one is wasted
upgrade'ować.
there's so many arguments about that.
I feel like that one's never come to the fore. Like
No,
we know about the leech one,
because the thing, but no one is happy about giving
Także nie ma-
accuracy.
nie ma
no one
żadnego
has a better
problemu.
idea than what accuracy that it can give. And then, like everyone's going to come up with like
Żeby
chat a
sobie
bit.
to
I bet they'll be like saying,
upgrade'ować.
oh, you know, it can give this or this, whatever. But there's like, yeah, seriously, there's been endless
Znaczy,
arguments
albo
about that
Maxi
topic.
wcześniej
It's
to
like
pisze,
it's
a
outrageous.
czat YouTube'owy gdzieś mi uciekł.
yeah.
Znaczy, czy będziemy obserwować te mechaniki
Yeah.
bossów.
You've got me thinking about it now.
Yeah.
Grałeś sporo w
I mean,
PoE 1,
the
Kruchol.
speed
Ogólnie
would
grałem
be
w PoE
good,
1
no,
od
probably
Clone
too much.
Beta.
For something like Dex, you just
Yeah,
can't.
Dex.
Ale nigdy nie grałem w niego dużo,
We can get all
także
the
za
designers
jednym
down here right
Yeah, I
now.
know,
grałem.
we'll have it-
Ale
we'll
dalej
have it
doszedłem
out
może
here.
na
You've
nasz
had it out here.
80
The
level.
longest Q&A
Level
of
wbiłem
time.
serką.
Yeah.
Jeszcze chyba w
It's
tym
already going to
becie.
be that.
Sometimes
A
you're
potem
just
tak
like,
co
you
sezon,
start
co
the day,
ten.
you're like, all right, here are the problems we need to solve. And then
Ale
you're
jakoś
like,
nigdy nie nacisnąłem właśnie przez te gemy, przez to jakoś mnie to tak
3 p.m.
zawsze odrzucało, ale bardzo mi się gra podobała, nie? Także w sumie godzin mam trochę najebane w PoE, ale nigdy jakoś tryhardowo.
Exactly. That is literally how it comes back to accuracy every
Jeśli to
time.
ci odpowiada.
This is okay.
Yeah.
Rewinding a little bit, we can't forget our roots with PathofExile2, of course. So for the PoE1 enjoyers, what is the plan for PoE1 during the course of this beta? Is there going to be
najdroższy.
leagues launching? Is it on the back burner?
Tak.
Yeah, and with absolutely
za
will be
Blizzardowe
launching. Now, I don't know
coiny.
the exact date, but the plan is kind of late February.
Yep.
But I mean, look, we'll see what happens. I will admit.
Dobra, kupię sobie to już
But unfortunately, we
off-stream,
did have to
na
steal a few
spokojnie.
PoE1 resources just
Mam za
towards
jeszcze
the end
5
here,
punkcików.
which is kind of been a bit unfortunate. I really wish we didn't have to.
Całe
But
4.
yeah, as I said, we kind of underestimated some of the stuff. But
Jeszcze tą plus
everyone
betę, że
is going to be going back to
grał, nie?
PoE1 again for the February league, and you know we're going to make sure.
No,
that
też
we
mam staż tabów
like,
najebane.
one of the things that was a big
Zatem
problem
tej
for our
promce, co
studio
tam
when we had a
kupowaliśmy sobie,
long-term
nie?
project and a short-term project
Yeah.
is that you know, you've always had that thing of like you always two short-term things coming up. I actually think it's going to be a bit easier to prioritize in some respects because
Funnily enough.
you know, it's like it's just like it's all that stuff is then you know, is like coming up soon. So but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we need to get that PoE1 expansion out next.
Yeah, obviously, you know, I just want to always make it clear that, you know, the reason why things can't be so planned out is, again, we're just releasing this game.
Co, mamy
And
rękawiczki
obviously we
jakieś.
pivoted to endgame, and
To są
then
buty, to
that
są
needed
łapy
more
tego
resources,
chyba.
and then of
O kurwa, wyłączyłem. Dobra, muszę sklejmować. Wracamy. Takie łapy wilkołaka.
course you have, you know, Christmas coming up and all of that, right? There's so many variables to consider.
Ale dzięki za
but we also don't
followowanie.
know how much
Miałem
time is
4
going to be
followersów na
invested
Twitchu, która mam
necessarily or
15.
need to be invested into live
Że
operations for
powoli
post-release. How many problems
rosną
are
w
going to go
górę.
wrong? How many builds are there? How many
W
of the
ogóle spoko,
uniques
że
are
zrobiłem
broken? How many, you know,
multistream
and
właśnie,
where do
że
all these
Diablo na
resources go?
YouTubeku.
There are like
A tutaj dropy na
millions of
tym.
variables here
Fajnie to wyszło.
very difficult, especially at
Jutro
this
się
time.
zagotuje od
But
filmików
once
o
you
pole i
release, you
szydzenie z
have
bobolu. Oj,
a
tak.
bit of a grace
Będzie,
period, so to
na
speak,
tym
where
można
more-
będzie teraz
more like a
content taki
period
ładny
of
ściąć.
extreme amounts of fire, where we're
Oj,
putting
będzie
out
się to
fires
ciągło. Aż
everywhere.
do 6
We have
grudnia,
we have a
czuję, nie?
period where we're fixing everything, you get everything
Rozkładanie
stable,
tych
and then we're
mechanik,
gonna be like,
analizowanie
alright,
tego całego
let's
trailera.
recalibrate, figure
Bo
everything
my to
out,
żeśmy oglądali,
and
ale
what
to
is
na
our
spokojnie
plans,
się to
and then
obejrzy,
establish
zobaczymy, co
all
wiesz,
that.
jakieś rzeczy,
Based
można będzie
also on the
przystopować
feedback we
sobie, na
get from
spokojnie
that,
pomyśleć
period where
i
everything's
tak
on
dalej,
fire.
więc no, będzie tego kontentu
Not to
tutaj
make it sound
dużo.
like it's gonna be bad, but that is the inevitability. Is that there's
W sumie
always
też mógłbym zrobić, na spokojnie sobie na przykład wziąć i
There's always
powiedzieć
going
na
to
kilka
be
filmików
like, oh my god,
Yeah,
people
we're
found
gonna-
this, and
dla ludzi, żeby
We don't have to see
klikali.
all fires.
Yeah.
Opo, raczej
ideally
nie
the
będę
best
robił, bo nie
thing
sobie
is when we're
sądzę,
able
to
to
za
fix
słaby,
some
ale
exploit
takie wiecie,
before people even hear
informacyjne,
about it. And when I
podsumowujące.
say exploit, I'm just talking about some broken thing. Like if we,
Gdzie
like, so
dropy były?
we're
No,
obviously
fajnie.
normally have to
Działa
worry about
fajnie,
like the whole
fajnie,
mid-league
że to
nerf
działa.
concept. But it's like
Z bomby.
if you can deal with something within like an hour or two of it happening, then it's like you're kind of okay because you know no one had a
Fajnie.
chance.
Powiem wam, że chyba był mój chyba
everyone
najlepszy
swapped their
stream.
build over to it or
Najfajniej się z wami bawiłem
but
i
yeah, we're gonna have to
nie
be
było
really
żadnych
on the ball
betonów
for
większych.
PoE2 just because there's so many things.
Tylko tak poszło fajnie,
Well,
smoothly.
I mean, look, we have several bosses with several elevators.
Prawie 3 godziny z...
How many
ile
of
mam
them
streama?
have been pushed up the elevator? You know what I mean?
3,5 godziny już.
When I say a fire, I'm
Non-stop.
talking about bosses getting pushed up elevators. Like that's not
Że
okay.
najdłuższy stream.
I am
Or
liking
maybe that's
my
okay.
mercenary flashbang knockback is very fun.
Right. Yeah, you need to look into that, by the way. The whole flashbang.
I feel like you're gonna nerf my build.
Yeah, yeah.
Is this when he's
Stay away from my
finding
grenade.
fires
Będzie trzeba
already?
jeszcze raz to obejrzeć wszystko.
No, these are the fun things. Discovering that stuff can be very fun for the players. It's just internally, it's like, oh no, what are we doing? It can get a little bit panicky after release, you know, and it you know, there's lots of things going on. You're like, oh geez, what do I solve first?
15 followers.
Obviously, you know,
Bardzo
it's the same as
dziękuję.
PoE1. We're
Kto tam
good
się
at it at this point.
Got some
you know,
experience.
yeah.
Indie belts.
Brodaty.
You aren't going to be
Auto
torturing us
40
with
minut
like
temu,
releasing
1000.
beta stuff at the same time as PoE2 league launch, PoE1 league launches. Like,
Yeah, the plan is to keep them separated a bit
Thank
from each
you.
other so that you know you get a chance to play.
Don't
with
make me
both teams.
choose.
Yeah.
So we saw a cinematic, to put it lightly. It was pretty. That was quite epic, and I know has been cooking for quite some time.
Łapek coś to
And,
jednego z głosików,
that
który
was pretty
było
exciting, but
widać
we've
na
also seen just a
streamie.
lot of
Aha, że
story
ten...
stuff happening in on a much higher
że
level
ten...
than
mikrotransakcje
previously
tam,
now.
no.
So
Yeah,
stepping
so-
up the storytelling game here a bit.
Yeah, so we're really wanting to make sure that the storytelling in PoE2 is much better than what it was in PoE1. Like, you know, there's a lot more kind of...
Ale fajnie, klimacik mi się podoba. Co,
I guess,
z tego, co
like
to
the kind of
zobaczyliśmy.
like stuff
Fajny
with the, like,
klimacik.
the introductions to boss fights and the outros and
Może
things
będę
like that,
zwracał
like, all
uwagę
that
teraz
stuff,
na
we've just got a
historię,
lot
nie
more
będzie taka,
storytelling going in, all of those,
że
all of
mnie
those
nie
things.
interesuje.
We do have the intro
Nawet coś
cutscene.
tam
There's
sobie
also
poczytam.
kind of like light, like between the acts, there's these kind of
Fajny
like,
vibe
kind
jest,
of,
w końcu jest
motion
taki...
graphic type cutscenes, just kind
Jak
of
to
establish
powiedzieć?
things.
To nie jest
And, there
Diablo,
might
to
be
jest
some
coś
more surprises later
innego.
on in the
Jest tak
game as
bardziej
well,
gore.
not in early access, unfortunately.
Ale
Later on
bossy,
that,
jak to w ogóle
the-
bossy
the-
są
the-
zrobione, jest
the
naprawdę
DLC as well,
coś
but
fantastycznego.
ultimately we
Jak
just wanna make sure that,
ta gra
like, I feel a lot of
wygląda,
people
jaki ten
who got through
cały
the PoE1 story
art,
had no idea what was
game
happening by
art
the
jest
end.
po prostu stworzony.
And so,
To coś po prostu
effectively, we
fantastycznego.
want to make sure that that is not the case this time around, that people really are able to absorb things. But
Guilty.
one thing I will say, though,
Ale
is
tych
that
łapek nie
it's
założę.
ultra important to us that we
Gniły
don't
gdzieś.
break the feeling that, like,
Słuchaj,
when
dobrze,
you're
że
playing a
tak.
second time, that
Za
it,
darmo
like,
to
that it feels
uczciwe
like
ceny.
we don't want it to feel annoying the second
Yeah,
time.
we were talking about this morning. About
Yeah,
you
yes.
don't take the control
Może
out of the player's
pewnie
hands.
jakieś
So, yeah,
streamy
I'm
jeszcze będą
personally
przed samą
a
premierą,
believer
więc
of the
pewnie
fact that
dropy
if you
też wtedy, nie?
change-
Wjadą
When
jakieś.
you change the camera position for a cutscene, immediately it feels way more annoying. Like, because there's this whole thing of like if you click on an NPC and like the camera.
Szkoda,
changes
że te, ja mam,
position, like,
ja
sure,
mam
when you're
trochę
playing through the
MTX-ów
campaign
z
the first
Playa.
time,
Szkoda, że one nie
that kind
przechodzą
of thing
na,
is like, you know, like that can be cool.
na
But
PoE2.
then
Ale
the
pójdą.
if you're like you're playing through the, you know, second, third, fourth,
Ciekawe,
fifth time,
czy
you want to
Karl
be able to
będzie
go
w
to the
sumie
NPC
nic
and
nie
click,
było.
click, click, and just get past, and without
Bossy
it feeling like
wypierdalają z kapci,
you
nie? No
had to
bossiki
sort of
były
worry about
zrobione
anything.
10 na 10.
So
w sumie.
yeah, like effectively we want to make sure that it's still that we still have that.
Na premierę też będą dropy, no
ultimately,
też
you
się
know,
tak
we're a game
wydaje.
you expect people to
Możliwe, że
play
zrobią tak, że
through
no
many
bo są
times.
rękawiczki,
So
może
ideally we can kind of deliver both
cały
the
set da się
situation
złożyć,
the first
nie?
time you play through it, it feels like an
Że będzie
amazing
broń
story that
jakaś
you're getting,
jedna
you're taking seriously, that
i
you're
armor, nie?
understanding, that you know, there's like all those sort of touch points and you know, little you know,
Ale
things
nie
just
pamiętam czego, czy oni coś
while
robili,
also
bo trzeba było
maintaining the fact that if you know what
zajrzeć,
you're
czy
doing,
mają
it's
już
like you
jakiś
don't have to go
schedule
talk to
tutaj
some
na
quest giver
Twitchu,
just to get a quest,
jeśli
like you
chodzi
can
o
just
to,
go do
nie?
the thing, you know, without having to talk to someone about it first. So that kind of stuff is really important just to make the
Super,
stuff
Twitter,
work well when
Facebook,
you know what you're doing.
Yeah, you said something this morning that stuck with me, where you
I
said like PathofExile
100% nie,
is a game
to
where the
jest
player's
wszystko
methodology is allowed and
Yes,
encouraged.
absolutely.
ostatecznie
You're allowed to cheat.
na premierę
Effectively, yeah. So effectively, there's
Wszystko
what the character
będzie
knows and there's what the
darmowe.
player knows, and in our game,
Cała
what the
gra.
player knows
Zajebiste
needs
to
to be
jest.
sufficient as far as like being able to progress the
Jak
storyline.
to się dzieje, że
You're not-
w
you don't wanna
XXI
have us
wieku
you just
mamy
talk to an
giereczkę,
NPC
która jest
just
za
to find out
darmo
something you already knew as a player.
i sobą
Yeah, like if
taki
you know you kill this boss,
niesie
you get
sobą
the
taką
next area's
jakość i
waypoints, so you just
content,
like
nie?
kill it, log out, log in, waypoint, right?
I love doing that.
Meta knowledge.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So you explained to me the other day
Bez
the
żadnych battle passów.
kind of the
Bez
context for the
bez-
beast and how that leads into the cutscene in the beginning of
Pay to
PoE 2
win.
from PoE 1, and that I think helped.
Ile oni
put it
hajsu
in
w ogóle
a lot
musieli
more
zarobić na
perspective
tej
for me,
grze,
made me
że mogą
appreciate
poświęcić
and
tyle
understand
czasu
what's going on
i
in the
So
story game more.
effectively, what
zasobów,
you're seeing
żeby
in the opening
stworzyć takie
cutscene is effectively
arcydzieło, nie?
a new,
A to właśnie
a
tego
new
później
seed
masa,
of
to
the
dopiero,
beast,
Marzak,
that,
dopiero
is going to
połowa
be,
gry jest, nie?
is growing. Now, in PoE 1,
Będzie
you know,
tylko
the
więcej,
beast,
lepiej.
The beast was killed. And then what happened in response to that is a bunch of all the gods in the world were able
Masakra,
to,
co oni muszą czuć, jak tworzą taką
were
grę,
able to
nie?
effectively rise again.
Tak są ludzie
And you
zhypowani.
killed a bunch of them, but
Musi być
there are
zajebiste
more,
uczucie.
you know, in the
Wchodzisz,
world.
idziesz do firmy
And effectively,
i nie możesz się doczekać, kiedy
we don't wanna spoil too much
wypuścimy,
about the
nie?
storyline
Kiedy ludzie
overall,
w to
but effectively,
zagrają.
obviously someone here, the
Szkoda,
count
że się
is
stało z
wanting
tym
to, harness
Krzysztofem
the power
Wilczyńskim.
of the beast once again.
W ogóle
And,
go
then we
odsunęli.
have the,
Wcześniej było
mysterious
ten,
figure there who
zapowiadał
is
te
saying,
filmiki. Myślałem, że dzisiaj tak
no,
specjalnie, bo na
don't do
premierę
this.
będzie.
This always turns out
Chris
badly.
Wilson, nie? I będzie
You
There
tam
was
know,
a comment in chat that I loved that was like,
zapowiadał
stop
premierę
opening
tego
Eldritch
PoE2.
boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do people keep doing this?
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, if someone handed you a
unlimited
mysterious orb,
curiosity.
wouldn't you press the
Ooh.
button?
I mean,
There's a puzzle
No
box.
no co, w ogóle takie spokoziomki, nie co,
Exactly.
gadają w ogóle, no co się dzieje w ogóle na tej scenie?
I mean, I'm gonna try, but who knows how many hours it's gonna take me.
Indeed.
Wiesz, są takie w ogóle spokoziomki, nie? Że siedzimy i
we
pracujemy.
had a fun
Pasja,
moment
dokładnie,
earlier
nie?
where you were watching it and you were like,
Szkoda,
oh,
że
we
nie ma
really
polskiej wersji, no.
need to rename that passive.
Może kiedyś
He's a
będzie.
Karui and
Yeah,
it's
was
a
it,
wolf. It's called
Great,
a wolf.
Great Wolf's
Piotr
Hound.
Maciejczak z
Great
kanału
Wolf's
Piotr
Hound,
Maciejczak tam
obviously being
cisnął
out
tą
there.
polską
He's a
wersję,
mystery.
pamiętam, że tam
Yeah, telling him.
pytają tych
Stomped
jak
out of
byli
the room. I was
różnych
like,
na
we need to
zaproszenie.
rename that notable. He's
Żeby
Karui.
pograć w PoE2 i
And
zrobić
then
na
I
ten
was kindly
temat.
reminded that actually he was
Orphan who,
an
yeah.
orphan and was adopted
Film.
by a Islamite and raised and
Pasja
so
Diablo
yes, there
4
is a
czytanie z
mixture of
kartki.
Karui and Islamite background and I was
Chociaż nie
like,
powiem, no te zmiany, które są
fair
teraz w tym
enough, I walked
sezonie,
back in here all sad
no tylko
and,
są
yeah,
na
whatever,
plus,
my
tak?
bad. It's fine. The
No
name
ale
was good.
to, no ta baza jednak to już, my już to ograliśmy, to będzie znowu
like
to samo, tam nie ma takiego
points
game
to the fact
changera.
that
No.
I feel like you're doing a lot
Stork
more with
dostaje,
characters
wiecie,
here.
nowego
You even mentioned the ascendancy
unika, który
stuff
dobra,
is
fajnie
gonna
zmienia
happen.
to wygląd skilla. W ogóle
That's
to jest też
You just
ciekawe,
think a
bo
lot
Sork
about
tylko
this kind of
dostawał
stuff, so
takie w
the-
sumie
the
chyba unikaty, nie? Że
I always
zmieniał
get
ten,
the name
ten
wrong.
skill.
Is it
Tak
Chillout?
było z tym,
Chillout? I always say
że
this
firewall z fireboltem, nie? Że się rozszczepia, jest inaczej. Teraz był lightning. Jeszcze jakieś chyba 3-4 skille u Sorka miały także zmieniały swoją tą tak mocno. Ten Ice, nie Ice Shard, tylko Ball of Ice, nie wiem jak się nazywa, nazwy skilla. No. Ale wiecie, o której mi chodzi, że spawnował te mieczyki i inne takie przyzywające, a one jeszcze mogły spamować te kule lodowe, nie? Tylko Sork takie coś dostaje, za mało tego po prostu.
So, for
Wszystko
example,
zmienione.
on that one, you've got that into the breach skill, which kind of means you're always in a breach all the
To
time.
tutaj
You can see
piszecie.
the things going on like that. That stuff is. I think that there's a lot of cool inspiration there. So coming up with that storyline
z Melem
stuff
Gibsonem.
for that stuff, I think
There's a
better.
couple other little things that I think is cool as well, and
Martin,
hopefully people will
cinematyki
notice
już
and
na
pay attention
YouTube
to. So
jest. Pewnie na start.
there's one of the bosses that was
będą
shown
dropy. No,
has
pewnie tak.
uses a lot of time or chronomancy, and interestingly, if
Bo oni
you
naprawdę
are
dumni ze swojej gry,
a
co o nim
sorceress and you
mówić.
ascend to
Chciałem
chronomancer,
chwalić
and
zupełnie
you
inny
then go to
komfort
fight that
rozmowy niż to,
boss.
co w Blizzardzie.
If you,
Dokładnie,
for
bo
example,
Blizzardziliśmy
try
to
to use
patrzą, nie
time
tłumaczą, oni
freeze,
naprawiają grę, jakieś
the
bugi,
boss is
jakieś
like,
pierdoły,
yeah,
a oni
nah,
po
nah,
prostu
that doesn't
mówią
work
o
on
tym,
me.
jak gra
And
jest
has a
zajebista,
dialogue
nie?
line, and if you cast temporal chains on them, he's like,
Po prostu
you know, just puts it back on
patrzysz
you.
na
And it's
to
like,
i
yeah, and so
mówisz,
there's interesting
wow,
things like that, and
nie
it
wierzę,
doesn't like
co się dzieje na
change
ekranie.
things on a grand scale, right? It doesn't make a certain class not viable or anything like that. But there's this
Piotr
interesting
jest od
little
23 do 6
quirk
22
and
stycznia
clips
wolno.
everywhere. Different
No,
bosses
będzie
have different
nakurwienie.
intro lines depending on what class you're playing.
Drzewo mi
They have
naprawię.
different skill lines
No
sometimes
drzewo mi
depending on what class
naprawię,
you're
kurwa,
playing.
po półtorej roku.
We've
Ja
got
chcę
different dialogue
odejść,
all through the
dzięki
campaign,
blisko.
different classes like the sorceress.
No to
was
ładnie, ja
obviously
mam
from the Maraketh. When she
stycznia.
goes back to the Maraketh, there's kind of a little backstory there about how she was banished
lubię
originally.
popatrzeć, co
So
czynnikiem
you know she
taka
needs to
chujnia.
find a way to she needs to be accepted back into the
Jest jak
culture
jest.
again.
Panowie,
You know, like
jest
we've
jak
got
jest.
things like the character we talked about earlier. So the warrior, was an orphan. He was brought up by actually one of the NPCs in Act 1 town. So obviously there's a whole different dialogue there because he's effectively his adopted son. We've got things like that. There's a lot of thought that's gone into just trying to make it feel like all these
Że
character
jest jak
classes
jest.
have some level of involvement with the world. They didn't just come into existence the moment that you.
There's other little things. So like more on the narrative side, we saw the world map. You have the icons that show
Grałem w BOE2,
different
nie widzę
things that
sensu
are in
grania
each
ani
act,
minuty
like little things
Diablo.
you
No,
explore,
Such a
find
good
and
nie,
awesome.
wydaje mi się, że na
But each of
początku
them
będziemy
also has a little bit of
przehypowani, że tak
kinda
powiem, tak?
little bit of text on them
Master
as
już tam
well.
będzie się
and,
ustawiał na
for
ekipę,
example,
to szybciej dojdzie gdzieś.
There's one in one of the first areas in
Galmon
the
będzie
game
wbijał
that's
setny
just
level.
like a camp of Iron Count guards, and we showed it in a trailer when the Ranger class trailer we did.
Optymalizacja. No ale były przecież, wklejaliście
You saw the Ranger
jakie
shoot some of
będą
kill some of
wymagania
them because they were
sprzętowe.
trying to like hurt
No był
a
RTX
child,
2060 z tego
and the
co
child was
widziałem,
just trying to
także
get some
wydaje mi się,
food.
że to będzie spoko, tym bardziej, że to
The
jest
Ranger just like
ulepszony
snipes them
silnik
with
po
arrows and kills
jedynki,
them
no.
ruthlessly, and so you read this
A
thing
po
and you're like,
jedynka
you
no
hear
działa jak
whispers
działa,
of
ale
an Iron Count,
wydaje mi się, że jest okej,
scouting
żeby
party that was
zoptymalizowane.
slain
nie?
by a rogue archer or something like
Tylko na
that. So you
konsoli
get these
po
little things where
jedynka
you're like
chodzi w
connecting all
4K
the
z
little dots, and even
120
that you
klatkach.
absorb a
Oczywiście
little
jest
bit of interesting little
upscalowane,
information.
ale chodzi z ray tracingiem
You've
ze
got other things,
wszystkim,
for
nie? Na
example, when you
blokowanych
enter an
klatkach,
area,
czyli jest
that
łogień.
not only says the name at the top now, it has almost a subtitle text that's
Będzie
giving you a
hulać,
little
będzie
bit.
dobrze.
little bit of history or
And these little things like somehow make the world building feel so
Na pewno
much
lepiej niż
better.
Stalker.
When you approach certain landmark rooms and you walk into
Właśnie
them, you'll get a
Stalker, w
banner
ogóle
at the top
grałem
as
tego
well, which
Stalkiera
says what it is and
troszkę
gives again a
więcej.
little bit of a
I
thing.
powiem wam,
All
że
these little micro
początek, Stalker miał
narrative
bardzo
delivery
chujowy początek.
mechanisms like make you feel way more immersed
Naprawdę,
in the
ciężko się
world and
przebić
way
przez
more
początek,
aware of what's
ale później jest
going
tylko
on and
lepiej.
way more connected to your character, way more connected
Trzeba
to
mu
the
trochę dać
bosses,
szansę.
to the NPCs. There's a lot we're doing now that we certainly never did before. We didn't even think of before. But yeah, it's.
I like that a lot because, like, as an action RPG gamer, I don't really care too much about plot, but I do want a really cool world to be blowing monsters up in. Basically, that's all I care. I want the characters to be cool, I want the baddies to be cool.
W ogóle jakie długie Q&A, nie? W ogóle nie wiem, kiedy oni pytania zadają, a kiedy nie, tylko co 7 mi gadają w ogóle na
build out a bit
chillku.
of that story without me having to stop killing stuff.
Yeah.
And it sounds like there's more of that going on as well.
Potem na Wolfheadzie możemy zobaczyć podsumowanie tego Q&A. Na czym będę grał? Na wszystkim. No jest ten crossplay będzie, więc wjedzie mi ten TV, na którego czekam ciągle na promocję. Play Pro czeka się kurzy w ogóle. Wziąłem go, a w ogóle na nim nie gram. Wkurwa mnie to, że siedzę przed monitorem, który nie wygląda za dobrze. Więc Play sobie stoi, się kurzy i czeka na TV-kę. No i jak będę robił streama, to będę grał na PC-cie swoją postacią, ale będę grał padem, więc to nie będzie jakby ten sam, powiedzmy, poziom ten sam poziom gameplaya. Ja będę się leżał na wyjebce, będziemy sobie siedzieć na Discordzie, będę widział, że na głosowym siedzi Master, Piotrix, Babaś, Matsu, Kogu, wszyscy wiesz, gadamy ze sobą, tym bardziej, że wy PoE, weźcie mi poprawcie, drużyna jest do ilu osób? 8?
When you take that ancestral totem
Chyba w
node,
8
all
można
your
biegać,
totems
nie? W
now have
jedynce.
like an extra blue glow to them,
Maksymalnie.
kind of like they're enhanced by this ancestral magic. And what we also want to do is has
Z tego co
add
kojarzę.
tattoos as
Ciekawe,
well
czy w
that
dwójce
like
będzie
glow
tak samo.
blue
6.
when you're using
No.
certain skills and all that. So heaps of little things that again connect
6 w
all the
PoE. No
culture
właśnie,
and all
więc
that
już
stuff
tak fajnie,
together
nie? Że
and make
nawet
you feel
wiecie, nawet jak
like,
będzie
you
nas
know, it's
trochę więcej.
believable as opposed, and this is a character.
To
as
akurat
opposed
zwykle
to
tak było, nie?
this
Że
is
ktoś
just a
wchodził,
mechanic
no
and,
zwykle było
you know,
4 albo iluś i brakowało tego miejsca.
But I know you want it to be like a cool moment where some power goes
Yeah,
through you.
absolutely. Yeah, it has to be effective.
Even the
No nie, ja już Diablo zrobiłem 150 na tym, na
play
Elixirze,
the Blood
więc
Mage, now you get an additive surge on your
też raczej
character whenever you
będę
cast spells. You're
Diablo
getting like
spauzował, na
almost
razie sobie
bloodbending kind of
PoE
vibe
sobie
going
chcę
on.
wjechać, jak na
drawing
pełnej
from the
S się w
veins and
PoE,
sending in a fireball.
zrozumieć ten system, poświęcić na to czas, bo czuję, że będę się świetnie bawił.
Yeah, you can have like the tattoos,
I
get
PoE
tattooed
dwójka
on them as they
czuję, że to
ascend,
będzie,
things
że
like
to
that. I mean,
będzie
that just makes
najlepszy moment,
taking
żeby to
Ascendancy way
zrobić.
more cool, which is it's already, I think,
Ski będziemy
I
łupać.
almost feel like Ascendancy is more important than the classes for players kind of like feeling the vibe of what they want to do with their character. Like,
For sure.
Kogo byś speedrun robił przez kampanię
play whatever
DMG?
skills, whatever weapon. Sure, you're on a passive tree at a
To do
start point,
zobaczenia.
but you know, by high level, you kind of go wherever you want to go. Using jewels, especially getting off-class stuff, you can
Ja nie
kind of be
zrobię
whatever you want with the
tego
base
błędu
class.
jeszcze raz,
So
że
eventually,
przez
yeah, the
speedrunuję
ascendancy is
giereczkę,
what
to sobie
becomes
wjadę
more
po
of that
prostu.
important identifying feature.
Kampanię
'cause
zrobię
that's
sobie
what
na
you have
swoim
actually
buildem na
chosen that
luzaku.
makes you distinct. That another
A
different
potem się
class wouldn't
spotkamy
be
w
able to
game.
actually have. So yeah.
So you want to make that super cool. And on that note,
Jestem bardzo
I
ciekawy
know I
tych
was definitely
podwójnych
confused. I know
broni,
people are definitely confused and a little worried about
tego merca,
ascendancy and what's happening
te
with that. And people were
ascendancje,
like watching the like
te breache,
the
to wszystko.
trial
No zajebiste
and
to będzie.
being like,
Odkrywanie
what if I
tego
don't like this? Oh, is this
i
another lab
robienie
again?
jakiegoś tam
But I
itemka
want you to like
swojego
lay it
idealnego.
out
Nie? I jeszcze jakie unikaty są.
simply as possible. Like
Kurwa,
how do
będzie.
you ascend?
Yeah, so effectively, in the full game, there's going to be 3 Ascendancy Trials. For early access, there's 2. And effectively, you can use any of those Ascendancy Trials to be able to do your Ascension.
You choose.
You choose which one. And
Dokładnie, ty masz tylko 3 akty, nie? Więc przez tą kampanię można sobie pierwsze 3 akty przejść na spokojnie, a w tym jak oni odkreślili to New Game Plusie, już można tą kampanię przebiec, nie? Bo już będziesz wiedział, co tam jest. A potem jak wyjdą kolejne akty, no to też sobie wtedy można 4., pewnie 5., 6. przejść sobie na spokojnie i już potem będzie git, nie? Także powinno to pójść chyba szybciej, mi się wydaje. No, 25 godzin dla hack and slasha, jak jest hype i my gramy, nie wiem, dziennie po 8 godzin, to jest raptem, nie wiem, no tydzień na kampanię max, nie? Już takiego casualowego grania. Po 2 godzinki dziennie. No 3. No 4. 3,5.
If you don't want to deal with traps, you just don't pick those rooms, right? Like
Yeah, you don't go to the gauntlet
don't go to
rooms.
the gauntlet rooms. You can just go to other things.
Ale to będzie fajnie, żeby to w to wejść, nie? Na spokojnie po swojemu. Łatwiejszy respekt. Te geny właśnie, że można sobie wsadzać jak się chce i zmieniać to bez problemu, nie? Eksperymentować z tym. Fajnie to będzie, kurwa. To będzie to, nie?
I mean, you're clearly leaning into that now. You have
Tak jest, 25 godzin dla początkującego. No to mówię, nam liczę, no tak mówię, no. 3-4 dni.
That's still going to be the case. So you can lean into that, like making
Na nasze to
content that
wiecie,
is
no
spicier,
lajkienie, jak tylko wyjdzie po 8 godzin dziennie, to 3
and
dni
now
i
you're
po
like
kampanii.
separating trees and having these
Przynajmniej tej
things be
podstawowej, potem ten
able
New
to be
Game Plus
focused on a lot more.
przelecenie, nie?
And you're doing that with the trial, with the ascendancies. So,
Right.
and you can kind of do all of them and drip feed yourself smaller progression if you want.
And there's also stuff that you're going to be getting from those, like specific rewards and everything that might incentivize you to do that. But of course, on the other hand, if you don't want to do that content, we have full open trade, right? You can just trade for the rewards, and that's fine too. So you know, like that's always part of the.
Yes.
Jakim będziesz bazą grał? Jaką klasą na początek?
Like jewels drop throughout the world. But if you want to get more jewels, you go and run Sanctum. Now, if you want to get the radius jewels, well, it's Sanctum. I can't. Trial of the Sycamore.
So just for anyone who isn't a PathofExile1 player, this is effectively a sequel to Sanctum League that we did in PathofExile1. So it's mechanically very similar, but it's obviously a Maraketh, like a Maraketh trial now, and we've changed it. A lot of things about it have changed, like the content is new, but it is effectively the same overall mechanic, in terms of that sort of roguelike mechanic that we have.
It's the same with the other one. You have Ultimatum.
A właśnie, bo oni mieli też rozdawać te chyba klucze, tak? Co ileś, czy tego nie będzie?
Trial of Chaos. So yeah.
Żeby się zapisać, czy tam co ileś tam, nie wiem, 5 minut, czy co ileś będą klucze. Ty, kluczyk jest,
Effectively the Trial of the Chaos of Chaos is a sequel to Ultimatum. Which is
Nie
we
chcę
just have
robić tego.
to get used to the new names, which is very hard.
Cyk.
But yeah, anyway, the point being, like, of course, and Valorbs drop in the world as
PathofExile,
well.
jak
And if you
mogę
want
Redeem
a
Case
larger
zrobić?
dose of Valorbs, and you don't want to trade,
Po Edward
go
Redeem Case.
feel free to run some ultimatums. The thing is, because they're all
Dobra, na
item
Steamie
generated
chyba,
keys as
co?
well, it's not
Aktywuj
like you have to
produkt.
do it right then and there.
Tyk.
You can trade the keys
Dodaj
away.
grę.
At any point,
produkt
you
Steam.
can also buy
Tak.
more keys if you want to farm more of that thing.
Potwierdź.
And if you just want to do it
Poprawny
later,
klucz.
just stockpile a bunch of them, run them all at your leisure. You know what I mean? It's like you have the freedom that
Nie zdążyłem.
itemized, tradable, as a lot in PathofExile tradition, but
as is everything, right? We do the
Yeah.
only thing you can't trade is gold. So we're like the exact opposite of most games, where it's like the gold is freely tradable and the items get locked. We're like the gold is the only thing you can't trade, and every other item is free and open.
Yeah, and that's because you
Blisko
made
było.
gold be this like way to be
O,
like
tutaj
you're
drugi.
playing the game, so you have access to this. And
Absolutely.
so
Już
you
pewnie
don't want to trade
wzięty.
that away.
Effectively.
Yeah. So How on the ascendancies and the trials, how hard do you foresee getting your ascendancy to be while leveling? Do you expect people to fail out and attempt these things multiple times, and what does that look like if you do?
Well, I
Łapcie klucze, ludzie klucze rzucają.
It is important to know that first itemized key is a quest key, and we have special rules around it that if you do fail, you can just repeat it, right?
Yeah, you changed that recently because
Na oficjalnej stronie, a
a
jak się odblokowuje klucz tutaj na oficjalnej stronie, jest jakiś
Yeah, you weren't the
show,
only
reading
one failing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so pretty much you get to reattempt it, and for something like Ultimatum, just to immediately start thinking of exploits, it's like, I can just do 3 of the waves, then intentionally fail, and then repeat them. Well, we've thought of that. Don't worry, you can't. But yeah, the first ones are repeatable. You're not going to be like, oh, what the heck? Now I have to just play to the whims of random generations and ascend like that.
Right.
Yeah, so
it is pretty hard though. Like it'll take. I definitely don't think you'll do it on your first
Może
attempt.
kluczyk się da zdobyć.
I did, not
you
to
did?
brag.
You did?
Not to brag.
Wow,
I did.
wow,
I
this
did
is
pass
just-
on. I was
Ludzie
clenched
kluczyki
though.
rzucają.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, especially in that boss fight.
I was watching him do the boss
you
fight.
came
from
by
afar.
right as I was doing the boss fight.
But you had some kind of powerful boons there, to be perfectly honest. So.
I got 60% move speed. But
Yeah,
that
you
was
were
part of
like-
my strategic choice.
I was watching you from. I'm like, how is he so fast?
This isn't the PoE2 design.
I was like, what was dodge rolls going across half the arena?
This game's supposed to be slow. Yeah, it was good. It was good fun. I quite liked it. I mostly like Sanctum. I don't want to do it all the time, but I did quite like the Trial of Sycamore. But knowing that there's other choices, so I can do Ultimatum instead or something like that, is fun.
100%.
So you've got these like 2 roguelike dungeons that are going into the beta that launch, but they're done very differently. One's got the honor system, which is like a separate health, but it's based on and scaled by your health, which I noted as quite
And your
Przesuwaj
defenses
mnie.
now, it can be
And your
fully
defenses.
mitigated and
yeah,
everything.
so fully scaled by your character.
Jezu,
Going into
ktoś
a tanky
wrzucił.
character, you'll be tanky in the dungeon, which is really cool. So
And then with
to
Ultimatum,
nie
and just because people will ask, in Ultimatum there aren't any traps.
yes.
So that's the
no
thing
traps in
that-
Ultimatum
yeah.
and no honor system in Ultimatum. If
Correct.
you just want more of a pure
Yeah,
combat
correct. You can do
experience,
Ultimatum,
then
so-
that's your choice. And then there's going to be a third one as well, which
They will eventually.
is a secret for
Yeah,
now.
So
but-
once Act 4 goes in, then we'll have a third trial. So people sort of broadly know that the crew are in Act 4, so it's a question of how
Kręcę
the
mnie te
crew
bossy. No bossiki są 10 na 10.
Yes, and if there's any other things that have been called trials associated with the crew at some point in the past, and how likely that is to be related.
I'm just thinking now, we're just thinking of that Val Thaumaturge class before, and I'm already thinking like, oh, it'd be so cool if you ascend in Ultimatum, we want the Trial Master to say different lines to you because you're like choosing the way of the Val. I can't stop thinking about all this stuff.
I did hear a few of his lines in some of the gameplay Jonathan was showing me. It was quite good. I love that he's back, the Trial Master.
Yeah, he's cool.
He's good. A little salty sometimes that you're taking this power, it seems. So we have the unique rewards from each of them.
Tak,
We got,
nauczymy się, spokojnie.
like you said, the jewels are global, but there are unique jewels, and then there are unique socketables from the other one.
Yep.
And is there something planned to be unique from the final third trial that will be added later?
Of course.
Yes, there is already.
Secret.
I know what I'm not going to say. Don't worry.
Okay, keep some secrets. Fine then.
Yeah. Again, I value the discovery, right? I'm certainly if I accidentally say it, it is certainly by mistake. But yes, don't.
And that Varlord
Dobra,
from
się
the
zwijamy.
Ultimatum in particular is.
No, też
they
mi
seem
się
like
wydaje, że już
they're
można
a
chyba
lot
powoli
more
kończyć.
important, a lot more powerful.
Kupimy sobie
I mean, I certainly think
za
that like,
30 dolków.
some of the stuff is a lot better
Mi
with
się
how they
wydaje,
work.
że
So,
możemy powoli
so one of the
kończyć,
things
to
that we wanted to
tutaj się
change was that implicits on
zrobiło
items are
trochę
truly implicit. Like
przymulaście.
you can't get rid
No,
of them. They
nie ma
stay
sprawy.
there.
Fajny
So that
stream był,
means that
naprawdę.
when you do a Valorb,
Bardzo
the
fajnie,
mod
że
that you get
byliście,
there now is an
że się
addition
nam
to whatever
udało
implicit already had,
tak miło
which is obviously
spędzić
good. And then
czas.
the next one being that you can get plus one socket above the normal limit,
Widzimy
which
się
is also kind of powerful.
może w weekend.
So especially with the soul cores. So
Zobaczymy, może jakiś filmik stworzę
in
i
the
będzie coś
trial
ciekawego.
of Chaos, you get
Było
soul cores that
naprawdę
you can't
fajnie.
get from anywhere else, and those effectively are
Tak, były
mods that are
emocje.
typically a bit beyond what you
O,
normally
akurat
get.
ostatni łyk. Ostatni
on
łyk sikacza
regular
został.
items. Whereas runes, which kind of drop everywhere, those ones are just kind of normal everyday mods that you would expect to find in any
Idę
source.
sobie obejrzeć co
It's
internet
resistant
na ten
damage, that
temat,
kind of
myślę, bo
stuff. So
pewnie, że
effectively
ten
the soul
Rax
cores
albo
is,
drugi, trzeci, czwarty.
is kind of the more end-gamey socketables that
Do
you might want to
21
be
trochę smutno, ale
and
pod listem pierwszym
obviously being
szok.
able to get plus
Dokładnie.
one socket. I mean, it's something that everyone will want, but on the other hand,
Dobra.
there's that risk
Au!
of
Trzymajcie się,
bricking your item.
chłopaki i
So,
dziewczyny.
that's the
Do
deadly
usłyszonka.
gamble you have as your final crafting step there.
It's they are Valobs are more forgiving.
They are,
Like,
wyłączenie
you know, if
streama,
you think
wiesz, po
about
3 godziny.
we
Dobra.
talked about enchantment.
Do
So some
zobaczyska.
slots you might value the enchantment
Jana,
over a
czy
rune
to
or a socket
żółwik.
slot, right? That probably